We are live on YouTube. We are live on TikTok. The best day of the year is officially here. Week 1, Sunday morning. I hope you guys are excited. I am feeling like it's Christmas morning. Feels like it's Christmas morning for me. So I'm very excited to talk with you about week 1. How's it going, guys? We're already getting some questions in the chat. It's about 8:45 a.m. Eastern time where I'm at right now. I'll be live up until 12:30, 12:45, right up until kickoff, guys. So I'll try to get to as many questions as I can. There's going to be a lot to get through today. We got 14 games on our television screen today. Can't wait to dive into it. I can't. I missed this. It's week 1. I cannot wait to get started. We are going to start off. We're going to start off at a good pace here. Because as anyone who's tuned into this show in the past knows, I woke up about 30 minutes to an hour ago, and I will get more and more excited the closer and closer we get to 1 o'clock. So I got to pace myself. This is going to be a long stream. I'll be live right up until about 1 o'clock, but I'm very excited. And it's going great. Yarjma, how's it going, man? It feels like Christmas morning. We are live on TikTok. We're live on YouTube. We are live, I think, on my Twitter. We're testing out Twitter this season. We'll see how it goes. I do think, Noah's asking in the YouTube chat, are we going to sell high on Raheem Mostert after he pops off this week? It depends what you can sell him for, of course. But this is why we drafted Raheem Mostert. Raheem Mostert has the ideal week 1 matchup. So does Trey Sermon. You got to start both these guys this week. I absolutely love both guys. They're one of my favorite DFS options this week in DraftKings and in FanDuel. I particularly like Trey Sermon, though. I feel like people are overrating how big of a role Trey Sermon could have in this first week. It actually would not surprise me if we see Trey Sermon out-touch Raheem Mostert this week. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it definitely is possible. And over the course of the season, it's absolutely possible. They're going to want to keep Raheem Mostert as healthy as they possibly can, given his injury history. So, yeah, I like Trey Sermon a lot. They traded up for him in the draft. And Trey Sermon is also in just such a good first game as a rookie. There's a lot of rookies today in really good week 1 matchups. We got Devonta Smith against the Atlanta Falcons, a secondary that was torched by almost every single offense it went up against this season. I wrote up a little bit about Devonta Smith in our DraftKings and FanDuel favorites on the WalterPicks app this week. And Devonta Smith, guys, is going to have a massive first game. Devonta Smith is up against a Falcons defense that allowed 16 different players to go over 90 yards last season. And you could argue their secondary actually got worse this offseason. 16 different guys went over 90 yards, and plenty of those guys were going over 110 plus yards. So there's a very high ceiling for Devonta Smith and for Jalen Hurts today. I think Jalen Hurts is the lock of the week. I don't think you can be benching Jalen Hurts. If you're watching live on YouTube, by the way, thanks for tuning in. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. It does help me out a ton. We are live on TikTok and YouTube. I'm going to try to get to as many of the comments as we can. But on YouTube, the display is just a little bit better. The chat is a little less spammy. So I do appreciate coming to the YouTube stream. I also have my top 10 quarterbacks, my top 10 running backs, top 10 wide receivers, top 10 tight ends on a ticker at the bottom of the YouTube stream. So you can kind of get that information while I'm talking. It's going to help hopefully answer some of the questions that I'm not able to get to. But I will try to get to as many of the questions as I can. But I talked about this Thursday night, by the way. What about that Thursday night game? And we're not gonna take victory laps this early in the season. We will wait to take victory laps until the season is over, because if you've tuned into me before, you know that there's really only one thing I care about, and it's winning the championship. And we're not going to celebrate until we win the fantasy football championship. We're not going to celebrate until we actually win. So we're not going to be doing week 1 victory laps. We're not going to be doing week 2 victory laps. Did we go 2 for 2 on Thursday night with the player props? Yes, we did go 2 for 2. CeeDee Lamb, absolute lock. And Antonio Brown was an absolute lock. And I was saying all offseason, Antonio Brown has a legit chance to lead the Buccaneers in receiving. And we saw it on display Thursday night. That was a very fun opening game with a lot of offense. A very exciting game. But we're not going to take victory laps because we're on. We're on to this week. We're on to the rest of the games this week. We have a big week ahead of us. And I think Jalen Hurts, like I was saying Thursday night, I told people to bench Tom Brady and Dak Prescott for Jalen Hurts. And while that might not look great right now, I still feel okay about it. Jalen Hurts has such a safe floor in fantasy football. He averaged 10 fantasy points per game with just his legs last season. And he's in undeniably a better spot right now than he was a season ago. The offensive line was one of the most injured offensive lines last season. And they are heading into week 1 fully healthy. They could be a top 10 offensive line in the NFL. And then he's going from Greg Ward as his top receiver, a former college quarterback, to Devonta Smith, Heisman winner, first-round pick Devonta Smith. So he also gets the Atlanta Falcons in week 1. And we just talked about how the Atlanta Falcons stopped absolutely nobody last season. And they had 16 different wide receivers put up 90-plus yards in them. Some of those guys literally aren't even starters in the league anymore. So yeah, I like Jalen Hurts a lot. I think he has an extremely safe floor. I would be absolutely shocked if he doesn't score at least 10 points. But I think he has a very good shot to go over 25 fantasy points. I like Devonta Smith as well. They're one of my favorite stacks on DraftKings and FanDuel today. That is my lock of the week. It's got to be Jalen Hurts. And you can see, if you're watching live on YouTube right now, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. You can see my top 10 quarterbacks below. Look, Jalen Hurts, number 5. He's my 5th ranked quarterback today. And look at number 6, Ryan Tannehill. That game, that Tennessee Titans Arizona Cardinals game, is probably the game I'm most excited for. We're going to go, by the way, on this live stream, we're going to go game by game. I'm going to talk about the spreads I like in every single game. We're actually going to track my record against the spread this season. So far, I'm 1-0 because I did take the Cowboys +9. The Cowboys were +9 on Thursday night, and they should have won. The Cowboys were +9, so I'm 1 for 1. I'm going to talk through every single spread this season, though, and we're going to see if I can actually beat the spreads. I don't bet that much on the spreads. I'm very transparent about this. I bet a lot on the player props and on fantasy, on DraftKings and on FanDuel. But I like talking about the spreads. I think they're interesting, and I think they're hard to beat, which also makes it fun. So I'm going to give that info away completely free on this live stream today. I want to start off in the next 10 minutes. I'm just going to start answering some questions in the comments. I know week 1, you don't want to make the wrong start-sit decisions week 1. This is where the journey to the Fantasy Football Championship begins, guys. And it starts with making the right start-sit decisions. And I strongly encourage you, on the YouTube stream, make sure you're not benching anyone in my top 10 list. If this list should hopefully help answer some of the questions, but I'm going to answer as many of the questions as I can as well. I like this question I'm seeing in the YouTube chat. Trey Sermon or Jerry Jeudy this week? I think you got to go Jerry Jeudy over Trey Sermon. I like Trey Sermon a lot. I like Trey Sermon in DraftKings and FanDuel at his cost, and I like Trey Sermon against this Lions defense. And I do think there is a legit chance Trey Sermon outscores Raheem Mostert, who I also really like. But that's not the most likely outcome. And I think Jerry Jeudy does offer a pretty similar floor and a higher ceiling. So I would probably go Jerry Jeudy, especially Ben, if this is a PPR league. I do like both guys, though. I think a general rule of thumb in week 1 is you should probably be starting the guys you drafted first. Not always. It's not always going to work like that. But I expect to see a lot of Tyson Williams questions today. And I'm probably going to tell you to bench Tyson Williams a decent amount. The Baltimore Ravens guys, they do not do this workhorse running back strategy in the NFL. There's been very few running backs for the Ravens over the last 3 years in a single game that went over a 70% opportunity share. It's very unlikely that Tyson Williams eclipses 4 targets in a game. No running back has 5+ targets in a game for the Ravens in like the last 3 years. Like, it does not happen. They do not throw to the running back. Lamar Jackson does not like throwing to his running backs. This is like very well documented. So I don't love Tyson Williams. That being said, this is probably the best week for Tyson Williams because they just signed 3 different running backs that are all going to get up to speed. Latavius Murray, Le'Veon Bell, and Devonta Freeman. 3 all completely washed up running backs that I'm not too scared about, but they will have a role on this Ravens team, and it's the most efficient running attack in the NFL. So I think week 1 is probably the best Tyson Williams week, but I still don't love him. I think all these guys are going to be pretty inconsistent. All right, getting back to the questions here, and I promise I'm going to try to get to as many questions as I can throughout this entire live stream. We will, by the way, be giving out a free player prop pick. Of course, we're 1 for 1 with the free prop picks as well, giving out the Antonio Brown over, 51 yards? Whatever they set it at, it was just obnoxiously low. It could have been 60 yards. I think he went, for 110 yards in that Thursday night game. So we're 1 for 1 in the free player prop picks. Hit the like button on YouTube. The way to get the free player prop is 250 likes on the YouTube live stream. So smash the like button and smash the subscribe button too if you haven't hit that yet. But Alex, I want to answer this question. Damian Harris, Brandon Cooks, or Deebo Samuel? I think, to me, this question is really between Damian Harris and Deebo Samuel. In a full PPR league, though, Damian Harris takes a hit in PPR leagues. There's no question about it. Damian Harris, at best case scenario, is going to catch 2 passes today. Like, that's almost his ceiling outcome as a receiver. So he has a really good floor as a runner. I would be surprised if he doesn't get at least 15 carries today. I think his over-under, if you were to bet on it, is like 65 yards. I think he's going to be a good bet for a touchdown too. But Deebo Samuel definitely has a higher ceiling in PPR leagues. I would go with Damien Harris for the floor or Deebo Samuel for the ceiling. And if you've been listening to me for long enough, I like to approach fantasy football with a range of outcomes perspective. There's a best case scenario and a worst case scenario for every player. So depending on what you're going for, do you want the safe points, the floor? Because that's what Damien Harris is giving you today. It is a very, very safe floor. I would be pretty surprised if he doesn't get at least 50 yards. And I think he has a pretty good chance at a touchdown today. I like the Patriots today to beat the Dolphins. And I'm wearing my N'Keal Harry jersey today, guys. I chose N'Keal Harry over Julian Edelman jersey today because the N'Keal Harry jersey for me is a constant reminder not to be overconfident in my opinions. I thought N'Keal Harry was going to be a lock in the NFL. That's not how it's gone. So I'll be rocking the N'Keal Harry jersey all day. I'm actually going to the Patriots game today. I'll be rocking the N'Keal Harry jersey at the Patriots game just as a constant reminder to myself not to be overconfident in any one opinion. It's all about a range of outcomes, guys. It's about a range of outcomes. All right. This is an interesting one, and you're probably, Matt, in a pretty low number of teams in this league if you got Najee Harris and Jonathan Taylor, or you were drafting at the end of the first round. I would go with both these guys, though. If I pull up right here my top 10 running backs for this week, I think you're going to see both these guys in this list. And again, you can see this ticker at the bottom, my top 10 list on the YouTube stream. Come to the YouTube stream, guys. Link is in the bio if you're in the TikTok live stream, or you can just look up WalterPicks on YouTube. But Jonathan Taylor, my 7th ranked running back today. I think Najee Harris didn't make the list, but I think he's number 11. I think he'd be my 11th ranked running back today. Najee Harris, I'm extremely interested to see how the Pittsburgh Steelers look on offense today. I think it's going to be a much different offense than it was a season ago. They threw a lot last season. They were top 5 in the league in terms of pass attempts. And then they went out and they drafted Najee Harris in the first round, indicating that they want to run the ball a lot more this year. I think it's going to be difficult for them to do in week 1 against the Buffalo Bills, who have one of the best offenses in the NFL now. But they're still going to try to establish the run with Najee Harris, definitely early in this game. And I won't be surprised even late in this game, even down a touchdown or two, if the Steelers are handing the ball off to Najee Harris or throwing screen passes to Najee Harris. He has insane volume upside. He could legit touch the ball 25 plus times every game this season. That's the case for Najee Harris in the second round of fantasy drafts. And that's why I did like Najee Harris. And he was in that top tier running backs for me heading into this season. So yeah, I like Najee Harris. I like Jonathan Taylor more, though. Jonathan Taylor is going to be leaned on so heavily for the Colts. They're saying Wentz is going to play. By the way, the Wentz injury, and I can't believe the timeline they gave, 5 to 12 weeks. He's back week 1. It looks like their offensive line is also going to be fully healthy and playing. But it sounds like they're not going to force Carson Wentz to do too much. And what that means to me is just they want to run the ball. And this is what the Colts are designed to do anyway. They want to run the ball. So I expect Jonathan Taylor to get at least 15 carries. You could get as many as 20 as long as the Seahawks don't get a big lead. So I like Jonathan Taylor a lot. I do not think you can bench Jonathan Taylor. I would play Jonathan Taylor over Najee Harris. That is my final thought on that one. I do think, guys, and we're going to go game by game and talk about some of the spreads. And I see a question in the TikTok chat about Odell Beckham Jr. And there's been a lot of chatter in the last just 48 hours about Odell Beckham Jr.'s injury and whether or not he's going to be getting his full complement of snaps and targets today. I think he is. I'm not too worried about Odell, and I'm confidently playing Odell on DraftKings and FanDuel because I think he's going to have a very low ownership percentage up against the Chiefs. The Browns are going to have to throw more today than they want to all season long. The Browns are another team built to just dominate you on the ground. Nick Chubb, the most efficient running back in the NFL. Kareem Hunt, arguably the best backup running back in the NFL. The Browns' top 3 offensive line in the NFL. But they're up against the Chiefs, and the Chiefs are going to obviously put up points this season, and they are going to do so week 1 against the Browns, even against the Browns' improved defense. And so this is a game where Baker Mayfield might have to throw the ball 30 to 40 times. And don't think Odell Beckham Jr. is going to be sitting on the bench for that. Odell Beckham Jr., by all accounts, all offseason, by everyone near Odell that saw Odell, is that he's at full health. He looks just like he did before the injury. And you're not going to keep a guy like that off the field. This goes to a similar story with Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley, all offseason, worries about coming off the ACL injury. They were saying they might not even play him till week 3. Well, guess what? He's playing week 1 as expected. I've been on this train all offseason that he's going to play week 1. I haven't been worried about the Saquon Barkley injury for months now. What we are worried about with Saquon Barkley is the offense and how bad the Giants offense might be. Daniel Jones could be a bottom 5 quarterback in the NFL. The offensive line could also be bottom 5 in the NFL. There's very little to get excited about in this Giants offense except for Saquon Barkley. But the injury isn't the concern. It's the offense. And I expect Saquon Barkley to also touch the ball at least 15 times today. And it won't surprise me at all if like all of the, we're going to ease Saquon Barkley in. We're going to ease Odell Beckham Jr. in. All of that is just smoke screens. Because why wouldn't you say that? Why would you not say that if you were the Giants or you were the Browns? Don't you want the opposing team to think that's what you're going to do with your best player? So they're just less prepared for your best player. They have to do this. Why would they not do this? So I do like it. Reading some of these are pretty obvious first year playing. Yeah, Keezy. We do get a lot of sometimes obvious questions. This is why I was happy about being able to put the top 10 list in the live stream now, because I hope it does answer some of those questions, because you should always be starting the guys that are in these top 10 lists. You got to start them. You just have to start them. Let me pull up the other positions here. We had running backs up already. We had quarterbacks up. Let me show you the wide receiver one. I think honestly the wide receiver one is probably the most straightforward in terms of top 10 heading into week 1. All right. This one's another easy one. Trevor Lawrence or Ryan Tannehill. Guys, do not bench Ryan Tannehill today. Do not bench Ryan Tannehill. Do not bench Jalen Hurts. The Cardinals-Titans game is going to be extremely high scoring. This is two offenses that are very high-powered. That can pass the ball extremely efficiently. And both defenses are also very weak. The Cardinals defense just lost Malcolm Butler, their starting cornerback, to retirement like 2 weeks before the season. The Titans have gotten no real improvements in their very weak secondary. So the Titans offense is arguably top 5 most efficient offenses in the NFL. Their defense, though, is bottom 5. The Titans are going to be in so many high-scoring games this season. And the Cardinals, it's the same thing. I'm very excited for that game. It's two very high-paced offenses, too. That is the chalk game of the week in terms of DraftKings and FanDuel. You want players in that game. Don't bench Ryan Tannehill this week. Ryan Tannehill just has way too much upside in this game that could easily go over 50 points. I think the over-under is right around 52. Should we start Allen Robinson against Jalen Ramsey? Yes, one of the rules of fantasy football is you're not allowed to bench Allen Robinson. Don't bench Allen Robinson ever. He's too good. I don't care who he's playing against. You need to start Allen Robinson. Don't overthink it in week 1. Yes, Jalen Ramsey's very good, but we've seen good receivers do well against good cornerbacks before. All right, let's get back to some of the spreads of week 1. I want to talk through each game. We're going to go through each game. It's probably only going to take like 10 minutes. Guys, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you're watching live on YouTube. And if you're watching live on TikTok, guys, you got to come check out the YouTube live stream. Link is in the bio of our TikTok account. Also, you can just look up WalterPicks on YouTube. I have my top 10 running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, quarterbacks right on the screen in the YouTube live. I can't do that in TikTok because it's a little less advanced in terms of the live stream capabilities. So that is where you should head, the YouTube live stream. Hit the like and subscribe button. And when we hit the like button, when we get to 250 likes on the YouTube live stream, I will be giving away another free player prop pick. We're already 1 for 1 this season. And Keezy's down bad. He's got to choose between Kenny Golladay or Sterling Shepard. I would probably go Kenny Golladay over Sterling Shepard, though Sterling Shepard has been a sleeper for me all offseason. He's one of my most drafted guys in my best ball teams. And apparently Kadarius Toney, all of a sudden, Kadarius Toney is going to have a big week 1 role. There's no way I'm in on Kadarius Toney. I do like Sterling Shepard more than Kadarius Toney. I don't love Sterling Shepard, though. I don't love the Giants offense at all. And I want really as little money as possible, as little as of my money as possible. I want risked alongside Daniel Jones. That's really what it comes down to. So yeah, I would probably go Kenny Golladay here. I don't want to start Kenny Golladay week 1, though. If there's one wide receiver that I don't want to start week 1, it's probably Kenny Golladay. I want to see how he looks in that offense, but you can't start Sterling Shepard over him. So I would go Kenny Golladay. All right. I want to go through some of these spreads, guys. We're going to go game by game, and I'm going to give my pick for every single game. And we're going to track my accuracy all season. We're going to see if I can come out ahead in terms of picking against the spread. The most fair way to see is if I can pick. My goal is 55 at least % accuracy picking against the spread. We're 1 for 1 so far, and we're going to go game by game. The first game, Bills versus the Steelers. The Bills are 6.5-point favorites against the Steelers in Buffalo. I'm going with the Buffalo Bills. You're going to see I'm taking a lot of home teams today. I think that home field advantage is going to have the biggest impact that home field advantage is going to have this entire season is week 1. A lot of these guys haven't played in front of full crowds in 2 years. There's a lot of stadiums that haven't been full in 2 years. And if there's one stadium that you got to be scared going into, it's the Buffalo Bills Stadium, week 1 at home, 6.5-point favorites over the Steelers. I'm really interested to see how the Steelers perform in this game. I think there's a chance that the Steelers get absolutely destroyed in this game. If their defense cannot stop the Bills offense at all, and the Steelers are now built to be a run-first team. They still have 3 very good receivers, but they just went out and drafted Najee Harris in the first round so they could run the ball more. And I don't think that's a very great strategy against the Buffalo Bills. So it'll be very interesting to see how this game goes. It's one of the games I'm most excited to watch, but I'm going with the Buffalo Bills minus 6.5. I think they cover their spread. I think they beat the Steelers by more than a touchdown in this game. But my favorite spread of the day, my absolute favorite spread of the day, it's the Patriots. It's the Patriots minus 3 at home against the Dolphins. This is my favorite one of the week, and I did put just a little bit on this myself because I am going to the game, and so I feel obligated to put just a little bit of money on the spread. But I like the Patriots minus 3. I am, to be honest, though, over the last 48 hours, the more I've thought about this game, the Patriots versus the Dolphins, the more nervous I'm getting as a Patriots fan. Mac Jones, in his first ever start at home against the Miami Dolphins. There's a lot of pressure on Mac Jones, and he's performed well in the preseason, but that's the preseason. This is going to be a whole nother ball game, and the defense, I think, is going to be really putting a lot of pressure on Mac Jones. I expect a lot of blitz and a lot of pressure from the Miami Dolphins, so we'll see how Mac Jones can do, but I also expect the Patriots to be a very run-first team this season. They have a top 5 offensive line in the NFL, or at least an offensive line that should have the upside to be top 5 if they can stay healthy. They have a defense that should be at least middle of the pack this season, though they're without Stephon Gilmore today, and they're going to be without him for at least the first month of the season. And then they also have Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith healthy for week 1. I expect the Patriots to run some of the most 2 tight end sets in the league. They're going to go back to the Gronk Hernandez style of offense, which is going to do well in terms of running the ball. I expect them to run the ball a lot. I expect Damian Harris to have a big game today, but I'm also very intrigued to see how Tua does. I like the Patriots minus 3, though, at home against the Dolphins. I think the Patriots win this game, and if they win, they're probably winning by more than 3. So I'm going with the Patriots minus 3 against the Miami Dolphins. All right, before I go any further, guys, we got to go over, since it's week 1, the number one rule of sports betting. The number one rule of sports betting, we got to go over this. It's never bet more than you can afford to lose. Never bet more than you can afford to. This is the obvious, sometimes not so obvious, number one rule of sports betting. Don't bet more than you can afford to lose. And that way, you almost can't lose, right? Because you're trying to have fun with it. Also, don't just go into it with the mindset of trying to make as much as you can, which obviously we're trying to do, but also make sure you don't bet more than you can lose. All right. This is low-key one of my favorite games that I'm very excited for today. And I feel like most NFL fans probably aren't there with me, but certainly Jets fans are on the edge of their seat for this game today. Panthers are minus 3.5 versus the Jets in Carolina. I'm going with the Carolina Panthers in this game, minus 3.5. I am excited to see Sam Darnold and Robbie Anderson leverage the Adam Gase effect to the max against the Jets in week 1. This game is going to be so much fun to watch. And I'm also very excited to see Zach Wilson and Elijah Moore and Corey Davis and see how that offense looks as well. I'm not super confident about this game, Panthers versus Jets, but I also think Sam Darnold's in such a better situation than he's been in his entire career. He has a way better supporting cast with DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Christian McCaffrey, and he is going to be not asked to do too much. I don't expect Sam Darnold to push it down the field very much this season. He's going to be dumping it off to Christian McCaffrey very frequently. Christian McCaffrey, by the way, on DraftKings and FanDuel, he's by far the most expensive player in week 1. And I think this might be the cheapest you can get Christian McCaffrey on DraftKings and FanDuel all season long. I'm in a high-stakes season-long DraftKings league that I've finished top 5 in this league. There's 64 teams in this league, and I finished top 5 in this league in 2 consecutive seasons. And today in my lineup, I'm going with Christian McCaffrey. I don't really care how much he costs in week 1. He is a lock, guys, a lock to go over 20 fantasy points. When you look at some of the numbers from Christian McCaffrey, we got to go through these. We're going to get back to the spread, but we got to go through some of these Christian McCaffrey numbers because they are just insane. You need to be playing Christian McCaffrey on DraftKings. McCaffrey, he's going to be the highest priced player every week. And you still need to consider entering him into your lineups. He averaged 29.3 fantasy points per game in 2019, the second best fantasy points per game total of all time. He's scored at least 20 fantasy points. I'm talking about Christian McCaffrey here, at least 20 fantasy points in 17 of his last 19 games. 90% of his last games, he's gone over 20 fantasy points. That's Christian McCaffrey's floor, is 20 fantasy points. Most players, that's their ceiling. His floor is literally at other players' ceilings. He's going to go over 20 fantasy points this week and next week and the week after that and the week after that. So yeah, Christian McCaffrey, get him into your DraftKings and FanDuel lineups. This is why DraftKings and FanDuel are so great, is even if you didn't get the first overall pick in your season-long fantasy draft, you can still go play Christian McCaffrey in week 1. I like the Panthers minus 3.5 versus the Jets. Moving on, I think if there's one spread I like more than the Patriots minus 3 against the Dolphins, it's the Jaguars minus 3 at the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans are the worst team in the NFL heading into the season. They have almost no talent on their entire roster, no matter where you're looking. The whole team is just a complete void of talent. And they're up against the Jacksonville Jaguars team that I don't love this season. The Jaguars are also probably a bottom 10 team in the NFL, but they are significantly better than the Texans, guys, on defense and on offense. Every aspect of the Jaguars team is better than every aspect of the Texans team. I like the Jaguars minus 3 a lot. This is probably my lock of the week in terms of spreads. I am most confident among all the spreads in the Jaguars minus 3 against the Texans. I would be very, very surprised if the Texans win this game in week 1. I would be surprised. I would probably be more surprised that the Texans win this week than they don't win a game all season. Like, I expect the Texans and or the Lions to really struggle to win games this season. So yeah, I like the Jaguars minus 3. Trevor Lawrence in his first game. I think James Robinson has a very big game today as well. James Robinson, another guy I really like in DraftKings and FanDuel. I'm seeing some questions in the chat about James Robinson. Start James Robinson this week, guys. He's up against the Texans. The Jaguars aren't going to be favored that much this season. And you got to capitalize when they are favored. And in week 1, they're favored because the Texans are just so bad. The Texans are locked in as a bottom 2 team in the NFL. I think they're worst in the NFL. I really don't see any talented spots in their team. And if there's one team that's trying to rival the Lions for the worst receiving group, it's the Texans. Though I have to say, the Texans receiving room is still significantly better than the Lions. I have never seen such a bad group of receivers heading into week 1 of the season. But I'm locking in the Jaguars minus 3. Again, I'll be tracking my accuracy with these spreads all season long, so we'll see how we do. Up next is probably the game I'm most excited for in week 1. And this is the Tennessee Titans versus the Arizona Cardinals. I am very not confident in who's going to win this game. I think it could easily end up being the team that has the ball last. But if I have to choose a side here, I'm going with the Tennessee Titans. I like this Titans offense a lot. I think the Cardinals offense is going to put up a lot of points in this game too. But the Titans are just in such an amazing spot with Julio Jones playing week 1. I'm very rarely going to pick against the Titans when Julio Jones is fully healthy. The question for Julio Jones this season is how many games is he actually going to play? But he's out there week 1. If you drafted Julio Jones, you need to start Julio Jones this week. He is a must-start player in week 1 because you don't even know how many games you're going to get out of him. So don't bench him when we know he's playing. And he's playing against a bad secondary this week that just lost Malcolm Butler to retirement like in the last 2 weeks. So I like Julio Jones. I like the Tennessee Titans. I think Derrick Henry could have a very big day. I expect Ryan Tannehill to have a very big game today too. So I'm going with the Tennessee Titans minus 3 versus the Cardinals in Tennessee. Again, another home team. And I expect home field advantage to have a pretty big impact across the league in week 1. Do I start Trevor Lawrence or Jalen Hurts? I'm seeing in the TikTok chat. You have to start Jalen Hurts this week. You have to start Jalen Hurts. There really is no discussion about not starting Jalen Hurts. He's my number 5 ranked quarterback this week. The only quarterbacks I'm starting over Jalen Hurts are Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Kyler Murray. End of list. Those are the top 4 quarterbacks that were drafted in your league, and they should all be started over Jalen Hurts. But other than that, you got to start Jalen Hurts. You need to start Jalen Hurts this week. So yeah, start Jalen Hurts over Trevor Lawrence, 100%. All right, next game up is the Washington football team versus the Chargers. This is another game I'm not super confident in, but I'm picking against every single spread right now, and I'm going with the Washington football team here. They're 2-point favorites at home against the Chargers. This is going to be a very interesting test for Justin Herbert. And by the way, yeah, I'd be starting Jalen Hurts over Justin Herbert this week. I like Justin Herbert more across the whole season, and I think Justin Herbert could have a big year too. But this is a tough week 1 matchup for him. I think the Washington football team defense top 5 in the NFL this season. I'm not picking against them at home. And I think Ryan Fitzpatrick is also going to be a big boost for the Washington football team offense. I like Antonio Gibson a lot today. If he wasn't in my top 10 running back list, he's got to be in the top 12 for me. Najee Harris and Antonio Gibson might have just missed my top 10 running backs. I actually think Antonio Gibson was in it. Let's take a look. Sam's top 10 running backs for week 1. And we can see Austin Eckler coming in number 6. Austin Eckler's playing, guys. Very exciting news. Jonathan Taylor's at 7, Joe Mixon at 8, and there you go. And Antonio Gibson's at 9, right ahead of Nick Chubb. And this is a PPR ranking, but Antonio Gibson against the Chargers, I'm liking him a lot. I like Austin Eckler a lot, even against a tough Washington football team defense. But I'm going Washington -2 against the Chargers. I don't feel great about this one, but a game I feel a little bit better about, and another game that I cannot wait to watch. The Philadelphia Eagles are +3.5 in Atlanta. This is the first upset I think I've picked so far. I picked a lot of favorites, but I'm going with the Eagles against the Falcons here. I like the odds we're getting with the Philadelphia Eagles. I think their offensive line is much improved from last season. I like Jalen Hurts a lot, and I have zero faith in the Falcons defense. I don't have much faith in the Eagles defense either, but I'm also not very excited to bet on Matt Ryan, who has declined in each of the last 2 seasons. There's no more Julio Jones. I'm very excited to watch Kyle Pitts and Calvin Ridley ball out, and I think both those guys could have big games. But I'm going with the Eagles. I don't see that much of a difference between these 2 teams. I really don't. What's the big difference between the Falcons and the Eagles, other than the Eagles have a more exciting quarterback and arguably a better offensive line and potentially a better defense too? So I'm going with the Eagles week 1 in Atlanta. I don't love that they're on the road. Again, I think a home field advantage could have a bigger impact than usual in week 1 with so many teams not playing in front of really big crowds for the last 2 years. But I do like the Eagles +3.5 versus the Atlanta Falcons. And guys, I cannot wait to watch Devonta Smith. There's so many rookies I'm excited to watch, but none more than Devonta Smith, my most drafted fantasy football wide receiver this season in best ball formats. There's not a single player I have more money risked on this season than Devonta Smith. I love Devonta Smith. I think he's the most NFL-ready wide receiver among this rookie class. He has every trait you want in a receiver except for his size. He has insane route running, incredible speed, and dynamic hands. He does not drop the ball. So I love Devonta Smith against the Falcons in week 1. And I like the Eagles to cover against this spread. The next game, and again, I promise I'm going to get to as many comments as I possibly can as this stream goes on. We got plenty of time left, guys. There is still like 3 more hours to go, a little bit more than 3 more hours to go. So I promise I'm going to get to as many comments as I can. And when we do hit 250 likes on the YouTube Live, smash the like button on the YouTube Live. We will give away the free player prop pick too. I'm feeling very good about the free prop pick as always, as we were Thursday night when Antonio Brown just smashed past. Whatever his over was, I honestly don't even remember. I think it was lower than 55. At one point, it was 45. I think it was 55 when it closed, and he went over 100 yards easily. So next game, we're going the Seattle Seahawks against the Indianapolis Colts. This is another one that I don't have very much conviction on, but if I had to choose one team, I'm going with the better quarterback, and that is the Seattle Seahawks, -3 against the Indianapolis Colts. I'm excited to see what they do with Russell Wilson this season. Can they please let Russ cook? Can we please let Russ cook? Put the ball in Russell Wilson's hands, and good things are going to happen for you, Pete Carroll. Just put the ball in his hands and stop being a run-first team when you have Russell Wilson, Tyler Lockett, and DK Metcalf all on the same side of the football. I expect the Seahawks offense to do very well this season. I think Russell Wilson was one of my favorite mid-round quarterback picks all offseason. I'm very interested to see how Carson Wentz does as well. And I drafted a lot of Carson Wentz in best ball. I like the Colts this season, but it's a tough week 1 matchup for them. I'm going with the Seattle Seahawks as favorites on the road. I don't love picking road favorites, but I'm going to be betting on Russell Wilson more often than not. So I'm going with Russell Wilson -3 at the Colts. Another interesting game today is how Joe Burrow looks and the Cincinnati Bengals, another road favorite team that I'm taking. That, again, I don't feel good about picking teams on the road in week 1. I think week 1, again, we could see one of the biggest home field advantages this season. But I'm going Vikings -3 at the Cincinnati Bengals. I think the Vikings defense is better than the Bengals, and I think their offense is at least as good as the Cincinnati Bengals. The offensive line certainly is much better than what the Bengals have. The Bengals, though, I'm excited to see what they do. I think they're going to surprise some people. And I think just the fact that this is only a -3 spread should surprise some people with how bad of reports we've seen out of Bengals training camp all offseason. Jamar Chase can't catch the ball because for some reason, in the 2 years he didn't play football, has not been practicing with an NFL football. What a weird excuse that he gave there. I'm not too worried about Jamar Chase, by the way. Jamar Chase is a lock to be good in the NFL. It's just a matter of when, not if, for Jamar Chase. So don't panic about Jamar Chase in Dynasty. But in week 1, he might start slow. And I like Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins a lot this week. I think both are locks to go over 10 fantasy points. But I do like the Vikings to win this game. And I think Dalvin Cook could have a massive game. Certainly don't bet against Justin Jefferson having a big game either. I like the Vikings -3. And on to another game I'm extremely excited to watch. And I feel like the average NFL fan might not be as excited to watch this game as I am. But the 49ers at the Detroit Lions. I think the Lions are such an interesting team heading into this season. Their wide receiver room. I've been covering the NFL seriously for 5 years, and I have not seen a worse wide receiver group or a group of wide receivers heading into the season than the Detroit Lions have in week 1. They're trotting out there with Amon-Ra St. Brown. They cut Brashad Perriman, the guy they signed in free agency, who is arguably the most talented wide receiver on the roster. So they have Amon-Ra St. Brown and Tyrell Williams as their top 2 receivers heading into the season. DeAndre Swift is looking like he's going to play. And TJ Hawkinson's probably going to end up being their de facto number 1 wide receiver, similar how Darren Waller is for the Raiders. We love TJ Hawkinson, guys. You got to be starting TJ Hawkinson. You can see he's my number 6 ranked tight end in week 1, but he was a top 5 tight end for me heading into this season. I think there's so many parallels between TJ Hawkinson and Darren Waller. There's so many. TJ Hawkinson's going to lead this team in receiving, but the Lions are going to get destroyed in most games, and that's why they're 9-point underdogs against the 49ers at home in week 1. The 49ers, guys, they're the lock of week 1. The 49ers will not lose this game. I would be astounded if the 49ers lost this game against the Lions. I would be absolutely shocked. This is the one game. In week 1, crazy things happen all the time in week 1, but this would be astronomically crazy. I would be so shocked if you just look at the depth charts and the actual talent on each of these teams. There's almost no way the 49ers could lose this game. The only place that the Lions are strong this season is the offensive line. They have a potentially top 10 offensive line in the league this year, but they're actually already dealing with injuries on the offensive line. And if the Lions have issues with injuries on their offensive line this year, they're not going to win a game. They're literally not going to win a game this entire season. It's the only strong point of their entire team. Their defense, bottom 5 in the NFL. Receivers are dead last in the NFL. Their talent across the board is bottom in the NFL. So 49ers -9 at the Lions. I'm taking the 49ers. I think they're going to win by 10 plus points in this game. I absolutely love Raheem Mostert this week. Do not bench Raheem Mostert, guys. If you have Raheem Mostert, lock him in. Why did you draft Raheem Mostert if you're not going to start him against the Lions? One of the worst run defenses in the NFL last season, a lock to be one of the worst run defenses in the NFL this season, and they're 9-point favorites. So yeah, lock in Raheem Mostert. This is an easy one, guys. Lock in Raheem Mostert. I even like Trey Sermon a lot this week too, and Trey Sermon's supposed to be the number 2 guy. I expect him to be more like a 1B than a 2-back, though. I think for Trey Sermon, if this game gets out of hand early, and it could, the 49ers could very easily be up 14-0 in the first quarter of this game. And if that happens, why would the 49ers not give Trey Sermon more touches than Raheem Mostert? Raheem Mostert has an injury history. This is a 17-game season. Trey Sermon is a rookie, fresh legs, and they want to see what they have. And it's a game against the Lions. This is like their 4th preseason game for the 49ers. So yeah, I like Trey Sermon a lot too, but I like Raheem Mostert even more. So start both these guys. There's Trey Sermon. Depending on who you got to start him over, like you can still bench Trey Sermon, but you can't bench Raheem Mostert. You just can't bench Raheem Mostert this week. And I love both of them in DFS. I'm taking the 49ers -9 at Lions. And here we go. I'm taking another road favorite. This is probably going to be a losing strategy for me against the spread. All right. This time we're taking a home favorite, though. And I probably won't pick against the Chiefs all season. I don't think I'll pick against the Chiefs all season. If you've been watching me long enough, the Chiefs are my pick to win the Super Bowl this year. Again, I picked them each of the last 3 seasons. I refuse to put I will never wager any of my dollars against Patrick Mahomes. I just think that's a losing long-term strategy. Don't bet against the best player in the league on an offense designed around the best player in the league, surrounded by other best players in the league. Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and Mecole Hardman and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I'm liking all of these guys in week 1 against the Browns. I think the Browns defense, by the way, got a lot better. I like the Clowney signing. I think the Browns are going to be good this season. I think the Browns have a legit playoff contention season. I think they could compete for the Super Bowl, and this is going to be a fun one to watch because we're really going to see if the Browns are legit in week 1, though it's just week 1. They're going to have a long season to get their legs under them. I expect them to lose this game, though, and I don't think the Chiefs are going to come out and not put up points. I would be very surprised if the Chiefs don't score 30-plus points in this game. I like Odell in this game too. Odell Beckham Jr., there's been a lot of smoke screening about him. Is he going to play? Is he not? We're going to test it out pregame. Odell Beckham Jr. is playing today. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't play today. And I think there's actually a better chance he plays his normal complement of snaps than he doesn't. I think why would the Browns not say this about Odell, but you want to undersell injuries as an NFL team. This is what the Giants did with Saquon Barkley. It's what the Browns have been doing with Odell Beckham Jr. We're seeing it across the league because it makes sense. This is what the Colts did with Carson Wentz, because you don't want to oversell the timeline of injuries, because then you just piss off your entire fan base. So, and it's almost an advantage to the other team, because then they get to prepare more for your best players. So yeah, I like the Chiefs. I also like the Browns this season, but in week 1, I'm going Chiefs -5.5 against the Cleveland Browns. Guys, we're live on YouTube. We're live on TikTok right now. I promise I'm going to get to as many of the comments as I can. I got to slow down a little, man. We got plenty of time. We got 3 more hours of this live stream, and I'm getting so excited just talking about each of these games. And I can't believe that in just 3 hours time, we're going to get all these games on our television screens. It truly feels like Christmas morning, guys. It feels like Christmas morning. I don't know about you all. It feels like Christmas morning to me. We get a lot of great football, real football on our television screens. And I only got a couple more games to talk about. We talked about almost every spread so far. And I promise we're going to switch back to the fantasy conversation very soon. And I'm going to try to get to as many comments as I can. But we got to talk about this Giants team, man. The Giants are 3-point underdogs at home against the Denver Broncos in week 1. That's a bad sign. If you're a Giants fan, and I've talked to a lot of optimistic Giants fans heading into the season, our Giants creator, Giants.WalterPicks on TikTok, he is very confident about the Giants this season. I don't quite understand how you could be super optimistic about the Giants heading into the season. I think their defense is going to really struggle most of the season. And this is why they're home underdogs against the Denver Broncos. The Broncos have a good defense too. I think we could see the Giants offense really, really struggle week 1. I have very little faith in Daniel Jones. I have very little faith in the Giants offensive line. And I don't have that much faith in the Broncos offense, but they're more exciting than the Giants offense. And clearly the Denver Broncos defense is much better than the Giants as well. So I'm going with the Broncos -3. I think almost all favorites. I feel like I took mostly favorites, and I'm going to have on the ticker below on the YouTube stream. Guys, I like the YouTube stream because you can see some other additional information on the live stream, like my top 10 tight ends, quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers. You can see my picks against the spread for this week. If you missed most of any of the live stream previously, I've been live for almost an hour already. And I have a lot of that information just on the screen on the YouTube live. So look up WalterPicks on YouTube. Hit the link in the bio on TikTok too. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button, guys. We are just getting started. I'm going Broncos -3, though, at the Giants. All right. The last and final game, the Packers -3.5 at the Saints. I want nothing to do with the Saints this season other than Alvin Kamara. He's literally the only player I want to be associated with on the New Orleans Saints. And by the way, Alvin Kamara, I think there's a legit argument to be taking Alvin Kamara 2 overall over Dalvin Cook by the end of the draft season. Alvin Kamara, no Michael Thomas. Alvin Kamara averaged 80 yards per game through the air last season when Michael Thomas was out. He was a wide receiver 1, a top 12 wide receiver in fantasy football last season, Alvin Kamara, just with his receiving stats when Michael Thomas was out. So you got to love Alvin Kamara this week, and he's another guy you got to strongly consider playing in DraftKings, FanDuel, everywhere. You have to start Alvin Kamara, obviously. But I'm going with the Packers in this game as 3.5-point favorites in New Orleans because the Packers have the same exact offense they had last season, and I think their defense has actually a little bit improved this year too. And I think it's going to be a pretty tough week 1 for Saints fans going from Drew Brees to Jameis Winston. How big of a shock is this going to be for Saints fans? You couldn't make a bigger leap. Is there 2 quarterbacks that were a bigger difference than each other than Drew Brees, the most accurate quarterback of all time? Drew Brees was the most accurate quarterback of all time. Even last year, he was top 3 in the league in terms of accuracy. And you go to Jameis Winston, the guy who literally broke the record for interceptions, led the league in interceptions just a few seasons ago. This is going to be pretty shell-shocking for the New Orleans Saints fans. I'm going with the Packers -3.5. And I'll show on the bottom of the screen now on the YouTube Live. These are the spreads I took. And we're going to be tracking my accuracy. So complete transparency, as always. In the WalterPicks app, we have complete transparency of our accuracy. On this stream, I'll have complete transparency of my accuracy. I'm not promising perfection, guys. I am promising very, very hard work on the process, though. That's really what I spend my most time focused on. And we're going to try to assess things in terms of a range of outcomes. And Kyle, I like this question. We're going to get back to some of the comments before I talk a little bit more about who I love and hate this week. I see a lot of Deebo Samuel questions in the comments. And Kyle's asking in the YouTube chat, Deebo Samuel or Odell Beckham Jr. today? Go with Odell. I know you're scared to start Odell Beckham Jr. There's a lot of nervous reports about him, maybe not getting his full complement of routes. He might not be up to full 100%. He's going to test it out pregame. Maybe he doesn't even play today. He's playing. And I would be shocked if he doesn't get at least 80% of his normal workload. And that's going to be plenty today against a Chiefs team that is going to put up so many points that the Browns have to throw the ball. So yeah, I do like Odell Beckham Jr. against the Kansas City Chiefs. The secondary for the Chiefs, by the way, was good last season, but I still like Odell. And by all reports coming from the players and the coaches and the training staff that were watching Odell all preseason, Odell is at 100%, and he looks like the old Odell. Forgot the Bears versus Rams spread. Yeah, I did forget the Bears versus the Rams spread. I would go with the Rams in that game, though. I am not betting against the Rams. So I would go with the Rams. Let me look really quickly what that spread is. Yeah, it's -9. The Rams are 9-point favorites against the Bears. That's honestly bigger than I would have expected, but they're at home against the Chicago Bears, Monday Night Football. I would go with the Rams. The last game I didn't talk about, the Ravens and the Raiders. The Ravens are only 4-point favorites in that game. I absolutely love that spread. The Ravens versus the Raiders. Is that Monday night? Why does it say Tuesday? That game's not Tuesday, right? Somebody let me know when the Ravens game is. I thought that was the Monday night game. I do like Stafford a lot this week as well. I know I pulled up a comment here that said, what's your favorite player prop of the day? Well, I have so many favorite player props of the day, and you can get all of my favorite player props in the WalterPicks app on the iOS App Store, but I'm going to give a free player prop away, just a completely free one away on this live stream when we hit 250 likes on the YouTube Live. Guys, we have more than 250 people tuned in right now. So just come to the YouTube stream, WalterPicks on YouTube. Link is in the TikTok bio. Just look up WalterPicks on YouTube, or if you're already in the YouTube stream, just hit the like button. When we hit 250 likes, we'll be giving away the free player prop just right there. And we already gave away one this season. We're 1 for 1. We only missed twice all of last season. In 17 player prop picks we gave away, we hit 15 of them. You can't make that type of accuracy up. And a lot of you tuned in right now, I'm sure, were tuned in last season too. So hit the like button, and we will be getting to the free player prop pick. I love it a lot today. There's a lot of props I'm in on today, though. We'll talk about a bunch of them. Ravens play Monday. Yeah, that makes sense, Yarshma. I do like the Ravens -4 against the Raiders, though. That spread really doesn't make that much sense to me. I do know that the Ravens are without a lot of players. They're missing so many players, but they aren't missing the most important player, which is Lamar Jackson, and their offensive line is also fully healthy heading into the season. And the Raiders are also a very weak defense, and honestly, their offensive line could struggle a lot against the Ravens defense too. I love the Ravens -4. If we have a bad week 1 this Sunday, then we're just going to make it all back on the Ravens -4 against the Raiders. All right. I think this is an interesting question here from Nick. Chase Edmonds, Jacoby Myers, or Jerry Jeudy in a half PPR league. Well, I'm going to rule out Jacoby Myers right away in this analysis. I like Jacoby Myers, and I wanted to be drafting Jacoby Myers this season, but I'm not starting Jacoby Myers in week 1. Like I said at the beginning of this stream, the Patriots are going to run some of the most 2 tight end sets in the NFL this season. They want to run the ball, and if they get an early lead today against the Dolphins, which they definitely can, then Jacoby Myers could finish this game with less than 4 targets. That is well within his range of outcomes. That's a very low floor for Jacoby Myers. I think he has a high ceiling, by the way. I think he does lead the Patriots in receiving this year, but it could be pretty close. He could be close in receiving to a lot of other guys on this team. They went out and signed 2 receivers and 2 tight ends this offseason. I like him more with Mac Jones, but Jacoby Myers is one of these guys. I want to be benching him in week 1. Let's see what the role looks like for Jacoby Myers. Issa, man, thanks for pulling up to the YouTube, man. I appreciate it. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We're trying to hit 10K subscribers on YouTube this season, guys. That is the goal I'm setting for myself. So hit the subscribe button. I do appreciate that. We are like a third of the way there. So a lot of time to go. All right. I would probably not go Jacoby Myers here, though, Nick. I would strongly consider Chase Edmonds and Jerry Jeudy. I'd argue Chase Edmonds has a much safer floor, though. I like Chase Edmonds a lot today. He's one of my DraftKings favorites today at his price. I think the Titans-Cardinals game is going to be extremely high scoring. And James Conner is just not that concerning for me. For Chase Edmonds, worst case scenario for Chase Edmonds is he's a running back 3. He's a top 36 running back in half PPR and PPR leagues. He's going to have the receiving role. He's had the receiving role for 2 seasons now, and he's crushed that role. There's no way he loses that role. He's been one of the most efficient receiving backs in the NFL over the last 2 years. His only 2 years in the league. He's been top 10 in all the receiving back efficiency metrics. And now he's up against James Conner instead of Kenyon Drake. James Conner got a minimum contract, under $2 million for a 1-year deal for James Conner. So I think Chase Edmonds also has this chance to seize the running role for the Cardinals. And if he does that while also maintaining his receiving role, which he's a lock to keep, then all of a sudden he's a running back 1 in fantasy. And he's catching passes out of the backfield on a top 10 offense in the NFL. So yeah, I like Chase Edmonds a lot. I'd probably go with him over Jerry Jeudy. but Jeudy probably has a higher ceiling. Jeudy could go for 100+ yards, 2+ touchdowns every week. That's Jerry Jeudy ceiling. That's why Jerry Jeudy in the 7th round of fantasy drafts was the lock of the season. So I like both of them. I want to start both of them. But I think Chase Edmonds is probably who I would go with the safer floor. But if you're shooting for ceiling, if you were up against Antonio Brown and CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper Thursday night, for example, then maybe I'd go with Jerry Jeudy. Who is the Saints' third best option this week after Kamara and Callaway? This is a good one, Joe. Joe Schmo, welcome to the YouTube Live, man. Thanks for tuning in. Hit the like button if you haven't. Traquan Smith is out this week, and I don't love Adam Trautman that much. I think it's going to be Juwan Johnson or Adam Trautman as their third option. Don't be surprised either if it's Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill, this is what I was saying all offseason when we were deciding who's going to start, Jameis Winston or Taysom Hill. Well, this is the thing. If Jameis Winston starts, which he is going to start tonight against the Packers, then Taysom Hill's still going to be involved. We saw it last year with Drew Brees. Why would they involve Taysom Hill when Drew Brees was the quarterback, but not involve Taysom Hill when Jameis Winston is the quarterback? If anything, they're going to involve Taysom Hill even more. So yeah, Taysom Hill is going to be involved. He's going to get plenty of carries, and he might even throw the ball a few times. I think that Taysom Hill is going to take away from Jameis Winston. That's why I want nothing to do with Jameis Winston in fantasy football. But if Taysom Hill were to seize the starting quarterback role, Jameis Winston would have never been involved. That's why I like Taysom Hill more. And I want to see, hopefully, Taysom Hill start at some point this season. But that's my guess for who's third is Taysom Hill, Juwan Johnson, or Adam Trautman. And that tells you everything about what you need to know about how concentrated the Saints' skill position players are. It's just all Alvin Kamara and Marquez Callaway. I'm very excited to see how Callaway does this season too. All right. Hey, Sam, thoughts on Mike Davis? Yarzma, we got a big Mike Davis fan club in a lot of the WalterPicks creators. They love Mike Davis. And Mike Davis has a pretty good week 1 matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles. And I don't feel that confident starting Mike Davis in week 1. This is why I didn't start Mike Davis I didn't draft Mike Davis almost anywhere. Mike Davis fell on my do not draft list. He's never had more than 165 carries in a season. And all of a sudden, the Falcons go out and sign like an average running back, and people are freaking out about Mike Davis. This is the thing about Mike Davis. Mike Davis is just one player supplanting him away from being on the waiver wire in a lot of fantasy leagues. This is the floor of Mike Davis. But Mike Davis has a pretty good chance to do well in week 1. And if there's 1 week you got to like Mike Davis, it's probably week 1. Mike Davis it would be surprising if he doesn't get at least 15 touches in week 1. So I do like Mike Davis in week 1 more than I like him for the most of the season, but I'm still not feeling great about him. I'm still not feeling that great about him. Ronnie says, hey, Sam, love the app and the progress you're making. Ronnie, thank you so much, man. I do appreciate this. I have spent so many hours building the WalterPicks app and building the entire WalterPicks brand literally over the last 4 or 5 years. So much of the work happened too behind the scenes before we even actually started, before anyone knew who Walter was or WalterPicks was or who Sam was. There was so much work done. So seriously, Ronnie, thank you. The number one way you guys can support me is just by trying out the WalterPicks app. Just try it out. Let me know what you think. I really do appreciate and take all feedback. You can DM us on Instagram. You can email us. You can even message us in the app now, right through our messaging in app. So Ronnie, thank you. If you ever have any feedback about the app, let me know. The WalterPicks app, guys, it's going to help you make the right start-sit decisions. It's going to give you the most accurate projections, boom and bust probabilities for every single player. We've had more accurate projections than everyone out there for 2 years in a row now. We're also going to help you dominate on DraftKings and FanDuel with our mobile DFS optimizer. I don't think there's a better DFS optimizer out there that you can get on your phone. And we're very focused about providing you tools right on your phone. So try out the WalterPicks app. And the last thing it's going to give you is player props, exploitable player props every week. We've had over 62% accuracy for the last 2 years with player props, and we got 7 more today. We had two Thursday night, CeeDee Lamb and Antonio Brown, so we're off to a good start, 2 for 2 for the season. Ronnie, thanks, man. I appreciate the vote of confidence there. I'm seeing a question in the chat, a TikTok. I think it's Will. He's asking Melvin Gordon or Tyson Williams. Tyson Williams is a guy that you want to be starting. If you're going to start him, it's week 1, right? Because there's going to be a lot more competition after week 1. I actually think this is one of the few scenarios where I would recommend Tyson Williams over Melvin Gordon. And I think Melvin Gordon and Tyson Williams could have a similar number of touches in week 1. But Tyson Williams, to me, is in the better matchup against the Raiders instead of the Giants. I think Javonte Williams is going to be very involved as well. I won't be surprised if Javonte Williams outtouches Melvin Gordon as soon as week 1. Same thing goes with Trey Sermon and Raheem Mostert. So I do like that. I haven't seen a lot of people call you Walter this week 1. So yeah, Yarzma, I know it's a classic mistake. My name is Sam. I helped build Walter. Walter's an artificially intelligent algorithm that powers the WalterPicks up. It's a classic mistake that not that many people have made so far. So that's actually pretty exciting to see. All right. I do want to get back to some of the fantasy football discussion, but I want to talk a little bit about the DraftKings and FanDuel plays that I like today. And one of my favorite stacks. Stacking is crucial, especially in tournaments. You almost have to stack. If you don't stack players, and stacking, all that means is playing at least two players on the same team. That's what stacking means in DraftKings and FanDuel. And it gives you a higher ceiling because when you stack the right positions together, then you have guys that will correlate in fantasy points. So some of my favorite stacks, you can see them below on the YouTube live stream right now. You got to come to the YouTube live stream, guys. We have a ticker at the bottom of the screen now. It's really cool. We're getting more professional in our display on the YouTube live, and it just has a little bit more capability than the TikTok live. So link is in the bio to come to the YouTube stream. And when we hit 250 likes, we'll also be giving away the free player prop pick. But my favorite DFS stacks on DraftKings and FanDuel this week, I love stacking Raheem Mostert or Trey Sermon, with the 49ers defense. Again, I think the Lions are complete trash this season. Their offense is a joke in terms of their receivers. I think their defense is also bottom 5 in the NFL. And the 49ers defense is good. And Trey Sermon and Raheem Mostert are going to do well in this offense. So I like stacking them. I also like stacking James Robinson and the Jaguars defense as a much cheaper stack. The 49ers' most expensive defense on DraftKings and FanDuel this week. But I absolutely love the Jaguars defense too, because the Jaguars get the Houston Texans. And again, I'm taking the Jaguars -3 against the Houston Texans. It's my favorite spread of the entire week just because of how bad the Texans are. I don't think the Jaguars are that good. The Jaguars defense is probably bottom 10 in the league, and I still like them this week because that's how bad the Lions offense could be. And by the way, we haven't even mentioned how big of a step back Jared Goff is from Matthew Stafford. And I think that the Lions actually could do an okay job scheming Goff into an offense that can work for him. But he's absolutely worse than Matthew Stafford. So yeah, I like the James Robinson Jaguar stack in DFS as well. Not that many people are talking about James Robinson. And I'm a little nervous that Carlos Hyde's going to vulture from James Robinson. That's why I didn't draft James Robinson that much, because I was going to experience physical pain every single time I watch Carlos Hyde. Carlos Hyde, who's been, 4 years past his prime at least, touch the ball over James Robinson. Like, that is such an suboptimal coaching decision from the Jacksonville Jaguars. Stop giving Carlos Hyde the ball. I haven't even seen it happen yet, and I just know it's going to happen. It's going to be tilting for me, even though I didn't even draft James Robinson that much. But I'm going to be playing him in DraftKings and FanDuel this week. So please, Urban Meyer, do not give Carlos Hyde the ball in lieu of James Robinson. James Robinson's coming off the best undrafted rookie running back season of all time. And you went out and drafted the first round of running back who unfortunately got hurt in the preseason, Travis Etienne. So it's James Robinson season yet again. And another stack that I absolutely love is the Ryan Tannehill, Julio Jones, Chase Edmonds stack. You're going with the Ryan Tannehill, Julio Jones. A lot of people are going to be paying up for A.J. Brown. I think Julio Jones could easily have a big week. I won't be shocked if Julio Jones has a bigger week than A.J. Brown. Don't get me wrong. I love A.J. Brown this week too. You can't bench A.J. Brown ever, and definitely not against this Cardinals secondary. But you also should not be benching Julio Jones. Guys, Julio Jones, the only thing Julio Jones has ever done in the NFL is ball out. The only thing he's done when healthy on a football field is just completely dominate defenses. And we shouldn't expect anything different from Julio Jones in week 1, especially with this incredible matchup. Guys, Julio Jones was the number 3 wide receiver in terms of yards per route run last season. He was the 3rd most efficient receiver in the league last year when healthy. And by all accounts, although he didn't play almost the entire preseason because he was resting soft tissue injuries, he's healthy week 1, and he's going to be playing week 1 against a pretty weak secondary. And we should not be surprised when Julio Jones tops 100 yards and a touchdown in week 1. So I love Julio Jones, stacking him with Ryan Tannehill, who's also way underpriced on DraftKings and FanDuel. He's going to be one of the more played quarterbacks in week 1. And I still like him. Like, I don't care about the ownership percentage that much. I honestly think a lot of people overthink on DraftKings and FanDuel a lot. Just play the best players against the worst defenses. This isn't that complicated. And Ryan Tannehill is a lock this week to put up at least 20 fantasy points against the Cardinals defense. I like stacking with Julio Jones, but I also like that reverse stack with Chase Edmonds as well. I like stacking 2 Titans, 1 Cardinals player. Chase Edmonds, if the Titans offense does what I think they can do today, then Chase Edmonds is going to be on the field a ton, and he's going to catch a lot of passes. And on DraftKings and FanDuel, PPR scoring format, Chase Edmonds is going to get at least 10 points. And if he scores a touchdown, he could go over 20 very easily. So I like Chase Edmonds a lot this week as well. All right, those are my 3 favorite stacks on DraftKings and FanDuel today. Again, I'll run through one more time. Raheem Mostert or Trey Sermon with the 49ers defense. I actually like Sermon in the 49ers defense a little bit more because it's cheaper and it helps me fit in Christian McCaffrey into my lineups. And I want Christian McCaffrey in all of my lineups because that's the fun part of DraftKings and FanDuel. I didn't get the first overall pick in all of my drafts, but guess what? I can play Christian McCaffrey in every single one of my lineups. Christian McCaffrey, guys, his floor is 20 points. He has gone over 20 fantasy points in 90% of his games over the last 2 years. 90%. Christian McCaffrey is just too good to not be playing. And this could be the cheapest he is all season when he balls out. All right. I want to get back to some of the comments. We're going to spend the next 17-ish minutes just going fire ahead with the comments. I can't think of the word I was trying to say there, but we are going full steam ahead with the comments for the next 17-ish minutes. We got to make the right start sit decisions week one, guys. And I'll try to answer the questions that I think could be helpful for as many people as possible if I see a lot of the same players in the comments. Also, I do appreciate, guys, the number one way you can support me is by trying out the WalterPicks app in the iOS App Store. But the second best way you can support me is just go give the WalterPicks app a 5-star review in the App Store. It actually makes a huge, huge deal for us. It's amazingly helpful. So if I can get to your question, that is the number one way I would love for you to repay me. But if not, I just appreciate you guys being tuned in. So thanks for tuning in, guys. It's Sunday morning. I cannot wait to be watching actual football on our actual television screens. I'm going to refresh my Twitter feed real quick to make sure there's no news to catch anyone up on. And then we will get straight to the comments. I'm going to answer as many comments as I possibly can. And we're going to go rapid fire. That's the question. That's the phrase I was looking for. Rapid fire with the comments. All right. Let's take a quick look through the news. Make sure there's nothing we missed. I think Odell is fine. Austin Eckler's looking also totally fine. Saquon to be used sparingly in week one, according to Rap Sheet. But also, I won't be surprised if that's just completely wrong. Don't overthink the Saquon Barkley thing, guys. If you have Saquon Barkley, you need to start Saquon Barkley. Do not bench Saquon Barkley. So this shouldn't be like a thing in fantasy where we're considering benching Saquon because of these reports. I won't be that surprised if Saquon Barkley gets 20 touches in week one. He could get a 50% snap share and still get 20 touches. All right. Corey Davis or Laviska Shenault? Joe. Well, first of all, Joe, good job drafting good receivers. And I see a lot of Laviska Shenault questions in the chat, but you got to start Laviska Shenault today against the Texans. I like Laviska Shenault a lot. I like Corey Davis a lot too. And I think both these guys are going to end up being wide receiver 2s in fantasy football, like wide receiver 3s with weekly wide receiver 2 ceilings. And Corey Davis could be a PPR beast this season. Corey Davis was targeted on 75% of his routes in the preseason. And I don't read that much into the preseason. Really, what I use the preseason for is just to see who's playing with the ones, and I really don't read that much into it. That's why I'm still a little nervous about Mac Jones. Pats fans, you got to take a deep breath about Mac Jones. We got to see him do it in a real game. He looked good in the preseason, but he was also playing backup defenses. Corey Davis, though, if that translates at all to the actual season, if he gets targeted on even a fraction of 75% of his routes, he's going to be a PPR beast. And I'm assuming this is a PPR league. So in a PPR league, I would definitely go Corey Davis. In a half PPR standard league, though, I would almost definitely go Laviska Shenault. It's really close, though. It's close. And both these guys, I think, will do well today. All right, this is a tough one for me. I want to address this one. Nathan, Ryan Tannehill versus Jalen Hurts. And I'll pull up my quarterback rankings here again. You can see my quarterback rankings, running back rankings, tight end rankings, wide receiver rankings, completely free on the YouTube live stream. So come check out the YouTube live, guys. Come check out the YouTube live. And if I pull up my quarterback rankings really quick, my quarterback rankings, Mahomes is obviously number 1. Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen are the top 4. And you could put those top 4 in any order. I'm not going to argue against you about those top 4. Mahomes, Kyler Murray, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, all these guys just have way too insanely high floors and ceilings to ever bench. Don't bench these guys. Why did you take these guys in the first 5 rounds of your draft if you're not going to start them? But then we get into this second tier of quarterbacks. And right after those top 4 for me is Jalen Hurts and Ryan Tannehill. So they're very close. Very close, Nate. And good job drafting 2 absolute stud quarterbacks. I think both these guys are locks this week to go over 20 fantasy points. I think Jalen Hurts is the guy with a safer floor because, again, he averaged 10 fantasy points just on the ground last season. And the Falcons secondary is even worse than the Cardinals secondary. So I like Hurts more, and I have him ranked 1 spot ahead of Tannehill. But I wouldn't knock anyone for starting Tannehill over Jalen Hurts. I wouldn't knock anyone for doing that. I think both are really good options. I honestly think this is a win-win situation for you, Nathan. And that's exactly where we want to be in week 1 of the fantasy football season, Nathan. Win-win situations. I love win-win situations. And both these guys are in win situations today. I personally would go with Jalen Hurts, though. I think it's the lock of week 1 to absolutely go off. Devonta Smith or Julio Jones, I'm seeing in the TikTok chat. Don't bench Julio Jones. you have to start Julio Jones over Devonta Smith. Like, I love Devonta Smith, but Julio Jones is absolutely the better option in week 1. All right, let's get back to some of the comments here. Did not mean to turn that quarterback rankings off. Let me pull up the running back rankings here. I think the running backs, though, are a little bit more straightforward. Let me pull up the tight ends, actually. All right, let's see here. Getting back to some of the comments. Hey, Sam. How's it going, Brett? Thanks for tuning in, man. Who do I start, Deontay Johnson or Devonta Smith full PPR? This one is close for me. I would probably go Deontay Johnson in a full PPR league. They're 6.5-point underdogs against the Bills. I think the Steelers are going to run the ball a lot, Brett, but it's going to be hard for them to do that in week 1, at least harder for them to do that in week 1 against a very, very high-powered Bills offense. So I'd probably go Deontay Johnson. And I like being able to bench my rookies in week 1. Like, let's see how the rookies do. I don't love starting rookies week 1 in fantasy football land. But if I have to start Devonta Smith, like, I'm gladly starting Devonta Smith. But if you have Deontay Johnson or a similar type player, I'd probably just start the veteran. Deontay Johnson, guys, he was the clear wide receiver 1 for the Steelers all last season. Juju and Claypool, they get all of the hype, and I like Claypool's upside a lot. He's an insane touchdown scorer in his rookie season, but Deontay Johnson had over 20% target share in almost every single game last season. It was like 90% of the games. I think there was only one game he went under a 20% target share. Deontay Johnson is the top receiver on the Steelers, and I'm really interested to see how that offense shakes out. I am a little nervous that at least one of those Steelers receivers is going to bust every week. And one of them is going to be a bust this season because Najee Harris is going to get a lot of volume, and that means less volume for the receivers. I like Deontay Johnson more than Devonta Smith, though, week 1. Though I would argue, Brett, if you're looking for the ceiling, I would argue Devonta Smith has a higher ceiling than Deontay Johnson in week 1. But to me, Deontay Johnson's floor is just so much higher that I would probably go lock in the points with Deontay Johnson. He's going to get at least minimum 6 targets in week 1. All right. I like this question, too. I'm seeing a lot of Damian Harris and Deebo Samuel questions. If this is a PPR league, I think I actually saw this one earlier in the stream. I would go with Deebo Samuel in a PPR league because his ceiling is so much higher in a PPR league. Damian Harris, best case scenario for Damian Harris is he gets 2 catches today. Like, he's not going to have a game with more than 2 catches. I would be really surprised. I actually think James White's being slept on this season. James White, low-key, was more involved last season than he was, just as involved last season as he was in seasons past. The Patriots just went at such a slow pace last season that the volume across the board was lower. It was the first season since when every single season that Tom Brady was on the Patriots had over 1,000 plays. They went over 1,000 plays every single season. And then last season, they go under 1,000 plays. So I think that the volume you could see an uptick in volume just across the board with the Patriots. I think Damian Harris has a really safe floor, though. I just like Deebo Samuel more in a PPR league. If it's not a PPR league, though, I'd probably go Damian Harris. All right. Someone's asking about A-Rob. Deebo Samuel or Vishka Chenault. I'd probably go Chenault over Deebo Samuel. All right, here we go. I like this question about, let's see if I can find this again. I think I lost it. It's okay. Oh, here we go. Tyson Williams or Devonta Smith in full PPR. You have to start Devonta Smith in this situation. Don't be benching Devonta Smith, the 2,000-yard Heisman winner Devonta Smith, who's the clear wide receiver 1 on the Eagles against a horrid Falcons secondary that allowed 16 different wide receivers to go over 90 yards last season over Tyson Williams, who's not going to catch a single pass. He probably isn't going to catch a single pass in week 1. The Ravens haven't had a running back get at least 5 targets in like over 3 years in any game. They do not throw to the running backs. So in PPR, I like Tyson Williams a lot less, and I like Devonta Smith a lot more. So I would go Devonta Smith. All right, this is an interesting one from TK on the YouTube live stream. Again, come to the YouTube live, guys. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't yet. When we get to 250 likes on the YouTube live, we're going to give away the free player prop pick. We're already 1 for 1 with the free prop picks. We went 15 out of 17 last season. I see that Matthew Santos. I'm coming to you next, man. I like that question. But do I start Barkley, Mostert, or Gaskin full PPR? You have to start Saquon Barkley. I like Raheem Mostert a lot, but you can't bench Saquon Barkley. If you're going to bench him, though, definitely go Mostert over Gaskin. Gaskin, by the way, by all reports up until like a week ago, I was nervous about Gaskin. It sounds like he's going to get a bigger workload than I was anticipating most of the offseason, but I still like Mostert a lot more. The Patriots defense, so much better than it was last season. The Patriots defense was playing with safeties at linebacker the entire season last year. They have actual linebackers now. Very exciting for the Pats. Actual linebackers in the linebacker position. And I like Saquon Barkley, though. He might be on a snap count. Even if he's on a snap count, how bad are you going to feel when you drafted Saquon Barkley in the first or second round of your draft, and then you benched him week 1 just for him to put up 20-plus points? He could easily score multiple touchdowns and still could go over 100 yards. Don't bench Saquon Barkley. Do not bench Saquon Barkley. All right. I know I told someone I was coming to their question. Let me see if I can find it. There's been a lot of activity in the chat, which we love to see. Let's see. I think the question, though, if I don't, correct me if I'm wrong here, was about Allen Robinson and whether or not you should start Allen Robinson in week 1. He's going to be up against Jalen Ramsey, one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. But one of the rules of fantasy football, guys, is you're not allowed to bench Allen Robinson ever. This is how good Allen Robinson is. Don't bench Allen Robinson. I don't care who he's playing against. And yeah, is it a hard matchup? Of course. But the Bears are also 9-point underdogs against the Rams. They're going to be trailing in this game. And Allen Robinson is one of the most consistent wide receivers in the NFL. Yes, it's a tough matchup against Jalen Ramsey. But you look at Allen Robinson's stats from last year with worse quarterback play, and even against all of the top cornerbacks, he balled out. He actually caught 4 catches, 70 yards against Jalen Ramsey week 7 last year. I think that's his floor this week against Jalen Ramsey. 4 catches, 70 yards, 11 fantasy points. This is Allen Robinson's floor. Against Xavier Rhodes last season, he went up 7 catches, 101 yards, and a touchdown. He's also one of the best cornerbacks in the league. Against James Bradbury last year, he got 9 targets. He only ended with 33 yards in that game, so that's not a great data point there for him. Against Malcolm Butler, he put up 81 yards, 7 catches. Marshawn Lattimore, 87 yards, 6 catches, and a touchdown. Don't bench Allen Robinson ever in fantasy football. This is how good he is. This is why you spent a 3rd or 4th round pick on him. Generally speaking, guys, in week 1, your start-sit decision should be the most straightforward in week 1 than any other week, because if you draft a guy in the first 5 rounds, you almost have to start him. You should start him. Trust your drafting. Why did you draft these guys in the first 5 rounds if you weren't going to start them? Unless you're so good at drafting that you got really good players late, which I know a lot of you are, because if you're tuned into the stream, then you automatically are an above average fantasy football player at least. Like, we're probably, among everyone listening right now, we're probably in like the 90th percentile of fantasy football gamers, which is great. And this is why these questions sometimes can be difficult, but don't bench Allen Robinson ever. All right, here we go. Darrell Henderson and Brandon Cooks or Galladay half PPR. I'd go with Darrell Henderson on this list. Darrell Henderson's a 9-point favorite. And the Bears defense is good, but as a 9-point favorite running back week 1, and he is going to catch passes, I think he could easily still have the goal line roll over Sony Michel. I'm not that nervous about Sony Michel, though I am very interested to see how that backfield shakes out. I'd go Darrell Henderson over Brandon Cooks and Kenny Galladay. I think Henderson just has a way safer floor than both those guys. I like Brandon Cooks, but I also am nervous about just how bad this Texans offense might be. The Texans offense is going to struggle to move the chains. So I'm not super excited about anyone in the offense. Cooks is certainly the guy I'm most excited about, but I'd go Darrell Henderson here. Mike Williams or Juju, half PPR. This is a tough one, and I'm nervous about Juju Smith-Schuster this season. We saw reports early in preseason that they were going to move Juju out of the slot a little more this year, that he's going to play more on the outside. I actually think that's a good thing for Juju Smith-Schuster, because when you look at his role last season, Juju's role last season was really, he did the dirty work in the offense. He was catching a lot of tough passes over the middle, very short catches for Juju last season. And I think playing on the outside will give him a higher ceiling each week. And Mike Williams has a tough week 1 matchup too. Mike Williams is up against a tough Washington football secondary. So I think this is a close one, very close one. And in a PPR league, honestly, I'd probably go Juju Smith-Schuster over Mike Williams. But this is one, baseball is life one. I would be very surprised if either of these guys, I'd be very surprised if I don't look back at this decision and think, wow, I definitely should have gotten Mike Williams. This is a close one. I would go Juju, though, in a PPR league. All right. Davis, Anderson, or Higgins. I would go T. Higgins here, or Robbie Anderson. Definitely not Davis, unless it's Corey Davis. If it's Mike Davis, no. If it's Corey Davis, then I'd strongly consider it, and you have 3 very good wide receivers. Robbie Anderson's another guy, though. I don't want to bench Robbie Anderson. I don't want to bench Robbie Anderson in week 1 against the Jets. I don't know if you saw my TikTok video a few days ago. He feels like he's aging like fine wine. And he's been dying to play in front of a crowd. He hasn't played in front of a legit crowd in 2 years. Robbie Anderson's up against his old team. And Robbie Anderson's going to benefit massively, along with Sam Darnold, from the Adam Gase effect again this season. The Adam Gase effect, guys, is one of the most well-studied coaching effects in the history of the NFL. When you're in close proximity to Adam Gase, you automatically perform at a worse level on the football field. And then when he leaves, you automatically perform at a better level. So the whole Jets team is underrated this season because Adam Gase is gone, and they're all going to get better. But Sam Darnold also is going to benefit massively from the Adam Gase effect this season, because Sam Darnold has been in one of the worst situations you could possibly be in as a quarterback. He hasn't been great. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Sam Darnold wasn't part of the problem for the Jets, but he's in a much better situation now. So yeah, I do like Robbie Anderson a lot. 2 questions from Nick. Hunter, Sermon, or Gaskin? I would probably go with Myles Gaskin over all three of those guys. Gaskin's the guy that's probably locked in for the most touches. And then Allen Robinson or Laviska Shenault non-PPR. Yeah, we just said one of the rules of fantasy football is you're not allowed to bench Allen Robinson ever. You can't bench him. You're just not allowed to. So don't bench Allen Robinson. Please don't bench him, and you're welcome. I don't bench Allen Robinson. I don't care if he's up against Jalen Ramsey. We've seen him put up 70 yards against Jalen Ramsey before, and we could easily see him do it again. I'm going to pull up my wide receiver rankings here, and Allen Robinson's not in my top 10 wide receiver rankings, but he's in the top 12. He's right off this list. And these are all guys that you see in my top 10 rankings list. Don't bench these guys. And again, if you're on TikTok right now, come to the YouTube live, and I'm showing my top 10 rankings for every position completely free. Wide receiver, tight end, quarterback, running back. And you can see them on the banner on the YouTube live. Link is in the TikTok bio, or just look up WalterPicks on YouTube. When we hit 200 likes on the YouTube live stream, by the way, guys, we will be giving away a free player prop pick. And we're almost there. We're almost at 200. We're almost at 200. We're almost at 200 likes. So we are at 122. We're almost halfway there. So come hit the like button on the YouTube live stream. And we're far less than halfway through the live. We got plenty of time. We've been live for a little over an hour. We're going to be live right up till 1 o'clock. And we got a lot more to talk about, a lot more questions to answer as well. Herbert or Tannehill? I would go Tannehill, because Herbert has just a way, way, way tougher matchup. And I'm showing my top 10 quarterbacks right now on the YouTube live. Again, WalterPicks on YouTube, or link is in the bio. I'll pull up my top 10 quarterbacks again. I think quarterbacks are actually pretty straightforward this week. You obviously have to start Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. You have to start those guys. Do not bench those guys. But after those guys, you have to start Jalen Hurts and Ryan Tannehill and Russell Wilson. I love all three of them. And you got to love Russell Wilson every single week, because Russell Wilson's been one of the best quarterbacks in the league for his entire career. And he will continue to do that this season. If there's one guy that could break fantasy football outside these top 5 guys, it's Russell Wilson. So I would go Tannehill over Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert, I think, came in at number 8 or 9 on my quarterback list. I think he's 9. He's 9 because of the matchup. I think Justin Herbert's going to be on the top 5 of a lot of my weekly rankings lists. But the Washington football defense is legit. I'm nervous about them this season, and that makes me nervous about Justin Herbert this week. So that is why I would be starting Ryan Tannehill over Justin Herbert. Ryan Tannehill's a lock this week, guys, as is Jalen Hurts. I like both of them a lot this week. Aaron Rodgers. I'm seeing some questions about Aaron Rodgers in the chat. Aaron Rodgers is my number 8 ranked quarterback heading into this week. There's very few quarterbacks I'm starting over Aaron Rodgers, and if you drafted Aaron Rodgers, you should probably be starting Aaron Rodgers. But I would be starting Jalen Hurts and Ryan Tannehill over Aaron Rodgers. I like Aaron Rodgers a lot. I think Aaron Rodgers, though, is due for some touchdown regression this season, and I'm a little nervous about that. All right, I'm showing my tight end rankings. I'm not seeing very many tight end questions, though, in the chat, which isn't that surprising, because I feel like you drafted 1 or 2 tight ends on your fantasy team, and there's really not that much decision, because the drop-off in tight ends is just insanely massive. After the top 6 guys, we go from TJ Hawkinson at number 6 tight end to Tyler Higbee at number 7. There is a colossal drop-off there. TJ Hawkinson and all the guys ranked above him, Travis Kelce, Darren Waller, George Kittle, Kyle Pitts, and Mark Andrews, all of these guys are locked in as tight end 1s the entire season. They'll probably be the top 5 and top 6 every single week. And then there's this massive drop-off of guys. We're hoping they fall into the end zone. That's Tyler Higbee, Logan Thomas, Dallas Goedert, Robert Tonyan. Like, we're literally just hoping that they fall over across the end zone. Otherwise, they're probably going to go under 10 fantasy points. All right, back to some of the questions. Russell Wilson or Jalen Hurts? Yeah, I was just had my quarterback rankings up. I would go Jalen Hurts over Russell Wilson, but it's close. And Russell Wilson's probably the safer play. But there's almost no chance Jalen Hurts doesn't get at least 10 fantasy points. And there is a chance that the Seahawks just pound the ball on the ground like they clearly have shown they wanted to do over the last 2 years. I would go Jalen Hurts. Daniel, is this the question? Oh, sorry, I clicked on the wrong one. I thought I clicked on a different comment here. This was the question I wanted to click on. Marcus Callaway. What about Marcus Callaway? Is there a question mark at the end of this, Emmanuel? I like Marcus Callaway. There's a lot of guys that would be starting over Marcus Callaway, though, and I do like him. And there's going to be a really concentrated target share in New Orleans. It's going to be Kamara and Callaway, and then who knows who's next? It's going to be Juwan Johnson or Adam Trotman or maybe even Taysom Hill. So after those 2 guys, Callaway and Kamara, then you really don't even know who's going to get the ball. So, yeah, I like both those guys a lot this week. OBJ or Callaway, this is an interesting one. I would probably say OBJ. And I'm seeing Corey Davis or Callaway. I'm seeing OBJ or Corey Davis. I like Odell Beckham a lot, guys. Against the Chiefs, this is going to be a really high-scoring game. This is a game that you want players in, and the Browns are going to have to throw more than they want to in this game. So I like Odell Beckham Jr. I know there's all these reports. Maybe he's not 100%. Maybe they're going to ease him in. Maybe he's going to test it out pregame and might not even play. He's going to play, and I'd be really surprised if he doesn't do well against the Chiefs. By all accounts, he's been in very good form the entire preseason, and he looks like his old self. And that's exactly what you want to hear heading into week 1 for Odell Beckham Jr. Guys, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We got over 250 people tuned in right now. When we get to 250 likes on the YouTube live, we're giving away the free prop pick. We can literally hit it right now. Just take 2 seconds, hit the little like button down there, and then we got to the free player prop. It's going to be that fast. Stephon Diggs or Devonta Smith. Come on. What are we doing here? We should see no questions about Stephon Diggs. Let me pull up my wide receiver rankings really quickly. There should be no questions about any of these receivers. Devontae Adams, I shouldn't see him in any single comment. Tyreek Hill, Calvin Ridley, Stephon Diggs. Don't bench Stephon Diggs. He led all the entire league in receiving yards last year. He has a legit chance every single week to be the number 1 overall wide receiver. He could literally go over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns today. Do not bench Stephon Diggs. And Devonta Smith, I love Devonta Smith. And I think Devonta Smith actually, low-key, shares a lot of traits with Stephon Diggs. I think Devonta Smith could be a young Stephon Diggs. And I know that's like a lot. I know that's a big statement right there for Devonta Smith. But I'm not saying he is Stephon Diggs. I think he could be a young Stephon Diggs. That's what I think Devonta Smith could be. But Stephon Diggs is Stephon Diggs. Don't bench Stephon Diggs for Devonta Smith. Please do not do that. All right. I'm going back to some of the comments here. This is an interesting one. George Kittle or Lockett at flex starting Waller in a PPR league. Adam went with a unique approach. And Adam, I actually don't hate this approach because there is such a top-heavy list of tight ends that after the top 6 tight ends, there's such a massive drop-off that when you draft Darren Waller early and then George Kittle slides in your draft, you almost further incentivized to steepen the drop-off of tight ends for the rest of your league. But I don't like starting tight ends over receivers. This is why I don't like drafting 2 tight ends early. I would go Tyler Lockett over George Kittle. And I like everyone on the 49ers today against the Lions, but I'm pretty hesitant about all the 49ers except for Raheem Mostert and Trey Sermon because I really do think the 49ers are going to destroy the Lions. And that might not be good for George Kittle. So I would probably go with Tyler Lockett over George Kittle today. I like Tyler Lockett's ceiling tremendously. And I actually don't feel like they have that much different of a floor. All right. Someone's asking Henry or Kamara in DFS. I like both of them, obviously, a lot, Thomas. But I like Kamara more. And it's a PPR format on DraftKings and FanDuel. And Kamara is going to be a PPR beast this season. Kamara averaged 80 receiving yards per game in games without Michael Thomas last season. He was a wide receiver 1 in fantasy football with just his receiving stats, a wide receiver 1. And then you add in his rushing stats, and you add in the fact that the Saints' offensive line could be a top 10 offensive line in the league this year. And then they also let Latavius Murray go. Tony Jones is now the backup running back for the New Orleans Saints. Kamara is in for a smash season. He's in for a smash week 1 against the Packers as well. And in a game where they're underdogs, and they're going to be underdogs a lot this season. I like Alvin Kamara more than Derrick Henry in week 1. I like Alvin Kamara more than Derrick Henry across the whole season too. All right. I see some crying faces here. D-Sway just saying Josh Jacobs or Darrell Henderson. I would definitely go Darrell Henderson here. You have to go Darrell Henderson, especially if it's a PPR league. Darrell Henderson is a 9-point favorite against the Chicago Bears. The Rams are 9-point favorites over the Bears, and the Raiders are 4-point underdogs against the Ravens. The Ravens defense is far better than the Bears. The Bears have a good defense, but the Ravens defense is very good. And it's going to be hard for Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs is the guy that was on my do not draft list this season. Josh Jacobs is playing behind an even worse offensive line than he was the season ago. Kenyon Drake is now there. And in games where they're trailing, Josh Jacobs really might not touch the ball that much. He is never been a big receiver in the NFL. He's been a guy that gets 20-plus carries a game. He was top 5 in the league in carries per game last season. But this is going to be tough for him this season, especially behind a worse offensive line. I would go with Darrell Henderson. All right. Another question from Chuck here. Hey, Sam, who do I start at RB2, David Montgomery or Tyson Williams? Yeah, I would definitely go David Montgomery. Don't overthink this one. David Montgomery is a big underdog in week 1, but David Montgomery balled out last season, and I would definitely play him over Tyson Williams in week 1. Tyson Williams, the week to play him is week 1 because he's a favorite against a pretty weak Raiders defense, and he probably is going to have the least competition he'll have all season in week 1. But I'd still go David Montgomery. And it feels like with all the Tyson Williams questions I'm seeing, I really am trending towards just bench Tyson Williams because, especially in a PPR league, Tyson Williams isn't going to catch passes. No Ravens running back has had at least 5 targets in any game over the last 3 years. It just doesn't happen. Lamar doesn't throw to his running backs. This is well documented. It's very obvious he does not like throwing to his running backs. And that's definitely bad news for Tyson Williams and all of the Ravens running backs. The Ravens also like to do a committee approach at the running back position. They've done this over the last few years, even with really good running backs. So what do you think they're going to do with average running backs back there? They're just going to rotate them and try to keep them as fit as possible throughout the game. So yeah, I don't like Tyson Williams that much. This one is interesting though, Lucas. This one is a little closer. James White or Tyson Williams or Sony Michel. You can't start Sony Michel in week 1, guys. Sony Michel is a guy you have to wait and see what the role looks like, and that could end up to hurt you because the Rams are big favorites against the Bears, and Sony Michel could very easily score a touchdown if he ends up getting the goal line work. But we just have no idea if he's going to get the goal line work, which puts his floor really, really low. And Sony Michel also isn't very likely to catch that many passes either, though he could see a different role in that sense on the Rams than he did in the Patriots as well. He actually showed well as a receiver this preseason. But that being said, I would actually go with James White here. I think James White is a pretty big sleeper for me in week 1 in PPR leagues. I think James White was undrafted in a lot of fantasy leagues this season, but he's going to be the pretty clear receiving back for the Patriots this season. The people like to think the Patriots running backfield is like this mystery, and Bill Belichick mixes it up all the time. It's actually pretty clear heading into this season what the Patriots backfield is. It's Damian Harris on first and second down, and it's James White on third down, and J.J. Taylor and Ramondre Stevenson, like they'll be mixed in very occasionally, kind of like the Rex Burkhead role. Their roles are actually pretty clear. So yeah, I like James White in a PPR league. That's who I would go with. All right, let's take a quick look. Lucas, I got you, man. And the number one way, Lucas, you could help me out, try out the WalterPicks app in the iOS App Store. And even if you don't subscribe to the app, it's like $5 a month for the fantasy tools, $17 a month for our DraftKings, FanDuel, and Player Prop tools. I understand if you don't have the money for it, it's totally cool. But a 5-star review in the App Store does help us out a ton. So thank you for that. And guys, if you're watching live on YouTube and TikTok, hit the like button. Hit the like button. When we get to 250 likes, we are going to be giving away a free player prop pick. We're really close. We're at 175 likes. So smash the like button. If everyone watching the YouTube live right now takes 2 seconds and hits the like button, and everyone on the TikTok live stream just hits the link in our bio, comes to the YouTube stream, hits the like button, we're at the free player prop pick. We can all cash it in right now before the odds move, because these odds do move all the time. And it won't shock me if this one moves. Joe, thank you, man. I do appreciate that. I really do. Thank you for the 5-star review, man. It helps out a ton. Seriously, it's Joe. It takes you like a minute or two, and seriously, it makes like a big difference for me and all of the WalterPicks brands. So thanks, man. I appreciate it. All right, getting back to a few of the questions, and I do want to circle back to some of my picks against the spread, which I talked about earlier in the stream as well. But if we're talking about Jalen Hurts, and the only quarterbacks I'm starting over Jalen Hurts are the top 4. It's Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson. So yeah, I'm starting Kyler Murray over Jalen Hurts. I like Jalen Hurts a lot, though. Those are the only guys I'm starting over Jalen Hurts. And after that, it's Ryan Tannehill. Those are the top 6 for me. Hey, who do you think I should start at running back 2? Miles Sanders or Darrell Henderson, half PPR league? Nick, you got to go with Miles Sanders. You got to trust Miles Sanders in week 1. If you drafted Miles Sanders, well, why did you draft Miles Sanders not to play in week 1 against the Atlanta Falcons? The Atlanta Falcons have one of the worst defenses in the NFL. So go with Miles Sanders. I actually like the Eagles plus 3.5 against the Falcons. I thought that should be more of an even spread. I was surprised to see 3.5 points there. I don't see that big of a difference between the Eagles and the Falcons. I really don't. I guess it's the home field advantage that tilted the spread towards the Falcons. And I actually do expect the home field advantage to have a pretty big effect on games in week 1, probably week 1 more than every other week. There's a lot of teams, including the Patriots, that haven't played in front of a big crowd in over 2 years. Like, it's been 2 years since they've done it. So I do think home field advantage could be pretty big. Start Devonta or A-Rob? Well, Aguchi, I know that you might not have been here early in the stream, but one of the rules that we're establishing this season is that you're not allowed to bench Allen Robinson. So no Allen Robinson questions. You're not allowed to bench him. He's actually not in my top 10 wide receivers this week, but he's top 12. Don't bench Allen Robinson, even though he's up against Jalen Ramsey. Don't bench Allen Robinson. He's one of these guys that you're not allowed to bench. You're not allowed to bench him. Another guy that you are not allowed to bench this season is Kyler Murray. Do not bench Kyler Murray ever, especially week 1 against the Titans. You're not allowed to bench him. You're not allowed to bench any of those top 4 quarterbacks. All right, Claypool over Ayuk. That's a very close one. And against the Bills, you got to like Claypool a little bit more this week as underdogs, 6.5-point underdogs against the Bills. Ayuk is just a massive favorite. I don't feel great about Ayuk or Deebo Samuel or George Kittle, and probably at least one of those guys is going to go off this week because, again, the lines are not good. But the lines are also probably going to be down 2 scores to the 49ers in the first quarter of this game. And when that happens, we're just going to see Raheem Mostert, Trey Sermon, Raheem Mostert, Trey Sermon, Raheem Mostert, Trey Sermon over and over and over and over again in this game because the 49ers are so good at running the ball and the Lions are so bad at stopping the run that's why I'm nervous about all the 49ers receivers this week. I like them this season, but that's why I'd probably not go with Ayuk in that situation. Appreciate you, Sam Gucci. I got you, man. All right. Should I start at flex, Robbie Anderson or McLaren? All right, Terry McLaren's another guy. We're going to add him to this list. You're not allowed to bench Terry McLaren's my number 8 ranked receiver this week. Terry McLaren, guys, he's another guy. All he's ever done All Terry McLaurin has ever done is ball out on the NFL field. He's never not balled out. He's a young rising ascending talent in the NFL, about to play with the best quarterback of his career. And I don't think Ryan Fitzpatrick is like that good, but that's how bad quarterback play that Terry McLaurin has dealt with his entire career. It was literally Dwayne Haskins for like half of Terry McLaurin's games, and he was still balling out. He's averaged 70 yards a game through his first 2 years in the league. 70 yards per game, despite terrible quarterback play. And now he's up against a Chargers team that's probably going to put up points, even against a good Washington football defense. And he has Ryan Fitzpatrick, who's far more aggressive downfield. It's great for Terry McLaurin. I like Terry McLaurin a lot. He went over 60 yards in 80% of his games last season. Again, horrible quarterback play. So I like Terry McLaurin a lot. To me, his floor is 10 points every week, and he's probably going to go over 20-plus points in the majority of games this season. So don't bench Terry McLaurin. I think we're adding Terry McLaurin to that. You can never bench Terry McLaurin list. All right. Do you think Tyler Lockett will have an upside because of the Metcalf injury? Yeah, I think Tyler Lockett has upside even without any injury to DK Metcalf. I think Tyler Lockett's ceiling every single week, like we've seen the Tyler Lockett ceiling even with DK Metcalf in the lineup. We've seen the 40-plus point game from Tyler Lockett. All right, we're going to do a quick news update, though, because there is a lot of news coming out always this time, Sunday morning. Unfortunately, guys, I don't get to be a weatherman this morning because the weather across the league is like looking very good. It's even 80 and sunny in New England today. So I'm not going to be doing the weather report week one, but I'm very excited for the weather reports later in the season because those are always fun. I'd like to pretend to be a weatherman. But Austin Eckler is a full go week one against Washington as expected. There was some concern about him missing the last couple of practices with soft tissue injuries, but he tweeted himself with the speculation that was going on. He tweeted out himself that he's very excited week one. He's going to be playing, and we have the official report now. He is going to be full go. It was just precautionary holding him out. Eckler is locked into a big workload. And yeah, he has a tough week one matchup. He's locked in. You have to start Austin Eckler. Saquon Barkley, knee, apparently will be, according to Ian Rappaport, eased in and used sparingly week one against the Broncos. We've heard these types of reports before when players go out and they could easily still rack up 20 touches. Don't bench Saquon Barkley. Don't read too much into this. Even if he doesn't hit 20 touches, he could hit 10 touches and still outscore a lot of running backs. This is the thing about Saquon, guys. This is why Saquon Barkley was such an intriguing fantasy pick this season. Because don't forget what Saquon Barkley is. Saquon Barkley is the most athletic running back in the league. There's an argument that he's the most athletic running back of all time. And we've seen him perform on bad offenses before. My concern was not the injury for Saquon this season, and it's not the concern for me week one. It's the offense, right? The offense is trash. The offense is Daniel Jones, a bottom five quarterback, and they could possibly be a bottom five offensive line this season as well. And if both those things are true, those are two assumptions I'm making there, but if both those things are true, you got to be a little nervous for Saquon. But you look back at his rookie season, and the offense also wasn't good that season. The offensive line also wasn't good that season. And you look back at his start in week one as a rookie, he had 18 carries, 20 fantasy points. Week two, 11 carries, 25 fantasy points. He had 16 targets in his second ever game in the NFL. He's going to get at least 10 touches in week one. He has the chance to get at least 20. And I won't be shocked at all when Saquon Barkley goes over 20 fantasy points, even in week one. This is why you drafted him. So definitely start Saquon Barkley in week one. All right, Alex Matisic. How's it going, man? Thanks for tuning in. Please, Sam, Laviska Shenault, Judy, Damian Harris, Tyler Boyd, Deontay Johnson, pick 2 in the flex. This is not an easy one. These are a lot of good receivers. We got Laviska Shenault, Jerry Judy, Tyler Boyd. I like all 3 of those guys. I would probably rule out Deontay Johnson in this situation. I like Tyler Boyd a lot in this week, by the way, against the Vikings. I would not be benching Tyler Boyd in a PPR league. So let's lock him in first. And Damian Harris, since this is PPR, I also would probably rule him out as well. I like him a lot more half PPR, non-PPR. So I would probably go with Tyler Boyd, Laviska Shenault in this situation, but I do like Jerry Judy a lot too. Jerry Judy to me has the highest ceiling of all these guys, but Boyd and Laviska Shenault have a really safe floor. That's probably who I would go with. And again, the WalterPicks app in the iOS App Store, it can help you answer all your start sit questions. And every question you have in your season-long league, like who should I add or who should I drop or is this trade a fair trade or who should I start? It can help you answer all those questions. Try it out for completely free in the App Store. It can answer these questions actually even better than I can. JJ, this is an interesting one. Raheem Mostert or Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I like Raheem Mostert a lot, and I think the 49ers are a lock to blow out the Lions in week one. They're 9-point favorites. I like the 9-point spread for the 49ers. I think they win by at least 10, and that means probably at least 1 touchdown for Raheem Mostert, and he could easily go over 100 yards. I honestly would go Raheem Mostert in week one over Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and that doesn't feel good because Clyde was a 3rd or 4th round pick for you. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire is up against a pretty good Browns defense, and I think the Chiefs are going to throw a ton, and unless Clyde gets a lot of catches, I won't be surprised when Raheem Mostert outscores Clyde Edwards-Helaire in week 1. Though I do like Clyde, and I wouldn't be benching Clyde in most situations, but I like Raheem Mostert even more. So I would probably go Raheem Mostert here against the Lions. There's such a smash spot for Raheem Mostert and Trey Sermon. All right, guys. I'm going to pull up my top 10 quarterbacks here one more time. Actually, let's pull up the DFS stacks. I want to talk a little bit more about DraftKings, FanDuel, and stacking. Again, if you're watching live on TikTok, guys, I'm going to try to get to as many comments as I can, I promise. But we're also live on YouTube. And on the YouTube live, on the screen, you can actually see my top 10 rankings for every single position, which does help answer some of the questions just right there. So head over to the YouTube live, and you can get a little bit more free information if I can't get to your comment. I'm trying to get to as many comments as I can, though. And we're almost at 250 likes. We're only 50 likes away from 250. So hit the like button, and when we get to 250 likes, we are going to be giving away a free prop pick. So hit the like button, and we are almost at the 250 likes to get to the free player prop. On DraftKings and FanDuel, though, my favorite stacks of the week, Jalen Hurts, Devonta Smith, and Calvin Ridley. I like the Jalen Hurts, Devonta Smith stack a lot. I actually like the Jalen Hurts, Dallas Goedert stack, and the Jalen Hurts, Zach Ertz stack as well. The Hurts-Ertz stack is one that is probably being slept on right now across all of fantasy football land. Zach Ertz was in trade rumors all offseason, and for a while, it seemed like a lock that he wasn't coming back to the Eagles. And here he is back with the Eagles, and he could easily outproduce Dallas Goedert any given week. I like Goedert more. I think Goedert's better, but we know Jalen Hurts loves targeting his tight ends. We saw this all preseason too. So don't be afraid to toss out the Jalen Hurts, Dallas Goedert stack in DFS this week either. But Calvin Ridley, guys, Calvin Ridley's a lock to go over 80 yards this week. I think his over-under is like 90, and I won't be shocked when he goes over that either. He's averaging 110 yards per game in games without Julio Jones last year, and there was like a pretty big sample size there, 7 games. So yeah, I like Calvin Ridley stacked with Jalen Hurts and one of the Eagles receivers as well. I also really like James Robinson stacked with the Jaguars defense. I think the Jaguars defense is very underpriced on DraftKings and FanDuel this week. Against the Houston Texans, the Texans offense is going to struggle against all defenses this season. They're going to struggle to get first downs. They're going to have some games where they score under 10 points, and it could be as soon as this week. So I like the Jaguars James Robinson stack for that exact reason. The Texans defense, also one of the worst run defenses in the NFL this season. I think that the Texans, by the way, I don't think the Lions are good, and I think the 49ers are going to blow out the Lions. But I think that if the Lions and Texans played, and I think we actually get to see that matchup at some point this season, that the Lions would destroy the Texans. Like, the Lions are bad, but the Texans are even worse. And that's why I like my favorite spread of the week is the Jaguars -3 against the Houston Texans. And this is so much less about the Jaguars and so much more about the Houston Texans. The Texans have a bottom 10 offensive line in the NFL. They have a bottom 10 receiver group in the NFL. They have Tyrod Taylor starting at quarterback. You could argue he's a bottom 5 starting quarterback in the league. They have a mix of veteran, past their prime running backs. Rex Burkhead, Mark Ingram, Phillip Lindsay. Phillip Lindsay's probably going to lead this backfield in touches. And then their defense is also in complete shambles. They have arguably the worst defense in the league, even worse than the Lions. So how are the Texans going to win games this season, honestly? And the Jaguars are not a team that I love this season. I'm actually pretty nervous about Urban Meyer and how this defense will do. But the Texans are so bad that you got to like Jaguars -3. Lock it in this week's my favorite spread. I picked every spread, by the way, earlier in the stream. I think you can rewind on the YouTube live. I'll probably run through all those really quickly at the end. Actually, I think I can put them here in the ticker below. These are all the spreads that I took. And we'll be tracking my accuracy all season. I'll be very transparent. And by the way, I don't bet very much on spreads. I think spreads are extremely hard to beat, which is why I don't bet that much. That's why there's not a spreads tool in the WalterPicks app, because it's very hard to beat them. But it is fun to talk about them, and I understand why it's fun to bet on them too. I did the only 2 spreads I put even a little bit of money on in week 1, full transparency. It was the Patriots -3 at the Dolphins, partially because I'm going to the game, and that's going to make it a little bit more fun. But also the Jaguars -3 the Texans, because that to me is just really the lock of the week. And I also like, probably after that, my favorite is the 49ers -9 against the Lions, but that's a pretty big spread, and I didn't actually put any real money on that spread. So these are the spreads that I picked. Again, if you're watching live on TikTok, guys, you're getting a lot less free information on the TikTok stream as you are the YouTube stream, because I'm giving you my favorite spread picks on the screen on the YouTube live. I'm giving you my top 10 rankings for quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. I'm giving you my favorite stacks of the week. And I'm going to talk through all of it, obviously, and I'm just still going to try to get to as many comments, both TikTok and YouTube, as I can. But guys, if you're watching live on YouTube, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We are like 25 likes away from the free player prop pick. Thanks for tuning in, by the way, guys. seriously, it means a lot that you're spending some time this morning with me, talking some football. This is my favorite time of year. It honestly feels like Christmas morning right now. I feel like I am going. My energy is at like the 12:30 pace right now because it's week 1 and I'm so excited for football. But I got to slow down, man. It's 10:30. It's not even 10:30 yet on the East Coast, and I'm already going at the 1 o'clock speed. So I got to take a deep breath, man, and slow down. But I'm very excited to talk with all of you. Thanks for tuning in. Hit the like and subscribe button, guys, if you have not hit that like and subscribe button yet. I do think in terms of the most frequent comments I'm seeing, like we got to make one thing clear. You're not allowed to bench Allen Robinson. You're not allowed to bench Saquon Barkley. You're not allowed to bench Terry McLaurin. So don't bench any of those guys. We're going to make a list of guys you're just not allowed to bench this season. We'll probably change it across the course of the season. But we're starting out with do not bench Allen Robinson ever, even against Jalen Ramsey. He went for 70 yards against Jalen Ramsey last season. And he went for, I think it was like 80 yards and a couple touchdowns against some of the other top cornerbacks. So don't bench Allen Robinson. He's too good. And he's playing with the best quarterback of his career. And similar to Terry McLaurin, you look at Terry McLaurin and Allen Robinson, two of the more underrated top receivers in the league. Like both these guys are top 15 receivers in the league, and you could make a legit argument they're top 12. And it won't shock me if we're arguing Allen Robinson and Terry McLaurin inside the top 10 receivers in the league by halfway through this season, because you look at the quarterbacks they played with, and nobody has played with worse quarterbacks across their entire career, even going back to the college days, than Allen Robinson. To the fact that Andy Dalton is pretty clearly the best quarterback Allen Robinson has ever played with tells you everything you need to know about the quarterbacks Allen Robinson has played with. So yeah, he's up against Jalen Ramsey, but he's still probably going to see at least 7 targets, and he could easily go over 80 yards and a touchdown still. So start Allen Robinson and also start Terry McLaurin, who's also tells you everything you need to know about him too, with Ryan Fitzpatrick being the best quarterback he's ever played with. All right. Kupp or Devonta Smith? This is a good one. I would probably go Cooper Kupp in this situation. I think Devonta Smith has a higher ceiling than Cooper Kupp, but Cooper Kupp absolutely has the safer floor. Solely also because Devonta Smith is a rookie, and rookies do have a little bit more risk with them in week 1. I love Devonta Smith, though. Don't get me wrong. And if you're shooting for the ceiling, then you're playing Devonta Smith in week 1 against the Falcons, who allowed 16 different receivers to go over 90 yards last season, the most in the league. Nobody was allowing big receiver days more than the Falcons last season. They were atrocious. And somehow, some way, according to our Falcons.WalterPicks creator, Andrew, who you got to be following Falcons.WalterPicks on TikTok, by the way, guys. Our TikTok team has been crushing it, absolutely crushing it. But he thinks that somehow the Falcons defense might have actually gotten worse this offseason. I've listened to a lot of what he had to say about the Falcons. We hopped in the live together, and he's pretty concerned about the Falcons defense. And the fact that he thinks that they might have gotten worse is just astounding to me, because they were already arguably the worst secondary in the league last year. So you got to be nervous for that secondary, which is why Jalen Hurts is a lock this week, and it's why Devonta Smith has an insane ceiling. All right, this is a good one. I don't know, Flicky, how you ended up with both these guys on your team, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, but if I had to choose, I would probably go with Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen's the better option. Lamar Jackson and the Ravens are dealing with a lot of injuries. I mean, they got just decimated by injuries. What is with the grass down there, man? Back-to-back plays, torn ACLs. They've lost their top 3 running backs, even their receivers, before the running back injuries. People don't realize this. Before the running back injuries, J.K. Dobbins, Justice Hill, Gus Edwards, all out for the season. But before all those injuries, there was like an insane amount of receiver injuries too. All their receivers were out at one time. Sammy Watkins is looking like he's trending towards playing, but he missed a lot of time. Marquise Brown, I think, is trending towards playing, but he missed a lot of time. And we had a couple of their receivers right after those guys too miss a lot of time. So I won't be surprised at all if Lamar Jackson gets off to a little bit of a slower pace, but obviously the rushing upside is there for Lamar, and he's probably going to go over 100 yards this week against the Raiders. So I like both, and they're both top 4 quarterback options, but I like Josh Allen a little bit more. All right, getting back to a little bit of the news this morning, Odell Beckham Jr., Adam Schefter reporting, Odell Beckham Jr. is a game-time decision for week 1 against the Chiefs. And Ian Rappaport saying it's the plan for OBJ to play. And OBJ is going to play. I mean, this isn't really a thing. And he's going to be in a 425 game, which is a little annoying. Like, if OBJ is ruled out, I'll be absolutely astounded and very annoyed, because I like Odell Beckham Jr. this week. And by everything I've read from the people close to Odell Beckham Jr. all preseason is that he looks 100%. So don't panic about Odell Beckham Jr. You should be starting Odell in a game where the Browns are going to be underdogs in not very many games this season. But against the Chiefs, they have to be underdogs. I like the Chiefs to win that game, and I think the Browns are going to be playing from behind. So I do like Odell a lot. Darnell Mooney back is expected to play week 1 against the Rams on Sunday night. It looks like Marshon Lattimore was added to the injury report. He's questionable to face the Packers. That would be very good news for all of the Packers. I mean, Devontae Adams, I think it helps out the entire offense, Aaron Rodgers. And is usually not a good sign when players are added to the injury report late in the week, which is the case for Marshawn Lattimore. It's a knee injury too. Those are going to be tough to play through. We know Saquon Barkley's playing today. We also do know Preston Williams is out today. Got one sleeper, and I haven't seen a single question about him, and he's actually probably available in like the majority of fantasy leagues, is Jalen Waddle. Nobody's talking about Jalen Waddle. I haven't heard a single thing about Jalen Waddle. And I am nervous as a Pats fan about Jalen Waddle today. If there's one guy that I expect to lead the Dolphins in receiving today, it's Jalen Waddle. He was the 6th overall pick in the draft. He was picked before Devonta Smith. He was, I believe, the number 1 receiver taken in this class. Maybe it was Jamar Chase right before him. I think Jamar Chase might have gone right before him and ahead of Penei Sewell. But I like Jalen Waddle this week as a pretty deep sleeper on DraftKings and FanDuel. I wouldn't be starting him over very many players, but Stephon Gilmore's out. And Tua Tagovailoa, I can't say his name. I don't listen to the commentators when I watch the game, so I can't say a lot of guys' names right, but I'm not even going to try with Tua. But Tua could be much better than people think this season too. Tua is being slept on across the league, and I don't think Tua is going to be great, but I think he's a better chance to be great than people are giving him credit for. He's only heading into his 2nd season. He has much better weapons this season. And he was injured last season. Like, he's fully healthy now too. So I like Tua and Waddle this season. And I think that Jalen Waddle could surprise people in week 1. I mean, Jalen Waddle, guys, if it wasn't for injuries in college, Jalen Waddle would have been even better than Devonta Smith. He was doing better than Devonta Smith at Alabama. There's so many Alabama players, by the way, in this Dolphins-Pats game. We got Jalen Waddle and Tua. We have Damian Harris. We have Mac Jones. There's so many Alabama players in this week 1 game. I can't wait to see this Patriots game. But yeah, don't sleep on Tua. He is extremely fast, 96th percentile speed for Jalen Waddle. And Will Fuller suspended week 1. Preston Williams out week 1. It is going to be the Devontae Parker and Jalen Waddle show. And don't be surprised if Jalen Waddle out-receives everyone on the Dolphins, and he has a much bigger day than people expect. There is a lot of rookie hype across the league today. Kyle Pitts getting a great week 1 matchup against the Eagles. I like him a lot. I think Devonta Smith's in a great spot. Jamar Chase is getting kind of underhyped at the moment. Jalen Waddle, though, is not. I haven't heard anyone talk about it. Is anyone talking about Jalen Waddle? Jalen Waddle is in a pretty decent spot as an underdog against the Patriots with no Stephon Gilmore, and he's got speed, man. And I think that they're going to give him the ball at least 5 times today. So if you're looking for a deep sleeper on DraftKings FanDuel, look no further than Jalen Waddle. All right, this is a good one. Julio Jones or DJ Moore. I like DJ Moore a lot. I haven't seen DJ Moore in that many questions this morning because most people are just going to start DJ Moore, and I understand that, but don't bench Julio Jones. When Julio Jones is confirmed playing in a given week, you have to start him. And this week, even more so against the Arizona Cardinals. Their secondary is not good. They just had Malcolm Butler retire. Malcolm Butler just retired like 2 or 3 weeks ago, right before the season, unexpectedly, their top corner. And Julio Jones gets that defense week 1, and Julio Jones is, by all reports, full steam ahead, fully healthy week 1. And we have never seen a fully healthy Julio Jones disappoint. There's literally almost never. It has almost never happened. A healthy Julio Jones does not disappoint. He is one of the best receivers of all time. I think there's an argument that he's a top 5 wide receiver of all time. Obviously, he's past his prime, but he was number 3 in the NFL in yards per route run last season. And he averaged almost 80 yards a game, 85 yards a game last season when healthy. So yeah, I do like him. Sam, I switched over to the YouTube. Where do I see the player rankings? Shot you a like, by the way. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, let me pull up the player rankings again. Thanks for this question. I got to pull them up one at a time. But here's the receivers. I think we're nearing 250 likes on the YouTube live, by the way, guys. We're 20 likes away. We're only 20 likes away, so we're almost at the free prop pick. We're still got like a couple more hours of this live stream. Still 2 more hours. And we're definitely going to hit the 250 likes. So that's super exciting. And yeah, I'm showing my top 10 wide receivers right now completely free. If you come to the YouTube live, link in bio on the TikTok stream. And if you're watching our YouTube live for the first time, guys, hit the subscribe button too. I'm going to be live every single Sunday morning and almost every single Thursday night as well. And I'm sure I'll mix in some Monday nights as well. So hit the subscribe button, hit that notification button. I'll be live a lot this season, giving away a ton of free info, including my top 10 rankings every single week for every single position, my favorite picks against the spread every week. And when we hit 250 likes on the YouTube live, we'll also be giving away the free prop pick every week. And we went 15 out of 17 on the free prop picks last season. Just absolutely insane accuracy on the free props. And while we are looking through these top 10 rankings lists, guys, if you haven't tried out the WalterPicks app yet in the iOS App Store, I've spent tens of thousands of hours working on this app over the last 5 years of my life. And I officially started working full-time for the brand this season. This is my first full-time season, and it's really crazy that I'm here now and where we're at, and I couldn't have done it without everyone that's tuned in right now. But if you haven't tried out the app yet, just try it out. That's all I'm asking. Just try it out. And also, all of the paying, there's some things that after a certain point you have to pay for in the WalterPicks app. It also comes, though, with a completely free 7-day trial. I am a big believer in free trials, and this is something that like doesn't exist, it feels like, across all of the fantasy football space and things that you have to pay for in the fantasy football world and services. Like, none of them have free trials. Why don't we give free trials to people? Let them understand what they're paying for before they pay. That's like should happen for all services everywhere. So you get a completely completely free 7 days in the WalterPicks app. You'll get all of the DraftKings and FanDuel advice along with our DFS optimizer right on your phone. You get all of the exploitable player prop picks every week. We had 9, I think, identified exploitable player prop picks. This week, we're already 2 for 2. That hit Thursday night. And then you get unlimited start-sit advice and trade analyzer advice and 10 transaction advice. There's so much in the app to try out. So whatever you're looking for, it's there for you. So try it out. I do appreciate that. All right. Heading back to the conversation of week 1. Saquon Barkley or Miles Sanders. Guys, Saquon Barkley, just don't bench him. I like Miles Sanders, by the way, but you got to start Saquon Barkley in week 1. I understand he could be on a pitch count, and it won't be shocking if he only gets 10 touches. But I would be my projection for Saquon Barkley in week 1 is at least 15 touches. And with at least 15 touches, you're going to want the most athletic running back, arguably the most athletic player in the NFL in your starting lineup in fantasy football. You took him with a first or second round pick. You have to start him. And I know it's a little scary because he might actually be on a pitch count, but he's too good to bench, and he could still easily score a touchdown. He could still easily get 5 catches. Like, don't be surprised if his 10 touches are 10 very high-value touches, like screen passes and goal line carries. So I would definitely be starting Saquon Barkley in week 1, though I do like Miles Sanders against the Falcons. Don't get me wrong, but Saquon Barkley's on the list of guys you're not allowed to bench. You're not allowed to bench him. All right, Corey Davis or Trey Sermon at flex. In a PPR league, Noah, you got to go with Corey Davis. Corey Davis is like a really safe PPR play. I said this earlier in the stream, and I don't read that much into the preseason. Like, really, the preseason for me is who's starting and who's not starting. And other than that, like, I'm not going to read too much into your performance. But we did see Corey Davis get targeted on 75% of his routes in the preseason, which is just an insane number. Like, that is not a number that is sustainable over the course of the season. But even like a fraction of that, if that translates at all to the season, Corey Davis is going to be a PPR beast. He could literally see 10 catches in any given game, which is 10 fantasy points right there. Never mind how many yards he gets on top of that. It sounds like we hit the 250 likes on the YouTube live, guys. Thank you. Thank you for hitting the 250 likes. Hit the like button and subscribe button again if you haven't hit it yet. We'll see how high we can get it. We're going to try to set a new record every week with the likes, but that means it is free player prop pick time. Let's go. And it's only 10:30. I'm pumped that we got here. The free player prop pick of the day, guys, is one that I absolutely love. And it is Ryan Tannehill over 1.5 passing touchdowns, guys. This one is too good to ignore. Ryan Tannehill, he averaged 2.2 touchdowns per game last season in his 11 games with at least 25 passing attempts. There's no way that he doesn't have at least 25 passing attempts this week against a high-powered Cardinals offense and a very weak Cardinals defense. He scored at least 2 touchdowns in 73% of his games last season with at least 25 attempts. Again, how is he not going to clear 25 attempts today? So I could not be convinced that he's going to go under 25 passing attempts. And we look at the games where he has at least 25 passing attempts, he's going over 1.5 touchdowns 73% of the time. And the odds that I was seeing on this on DraftKings and FanDuel were like minus 120, minus 125. The odds were great. So lock in Ryan Tannehill over 1.5 passing touchdowns. He gets a fantastic matchup against the Cardinals in week 1, who should have a significantly worse secondary this season than last season. Malcolm Butler just retired, and they did nothing to replace him. This game should also be played at an extremely fast pace, featuring 2 teams that could easily rank top 10 in pace this season. Both teams ranked top 10 in pace last season, especially in games where the Titans were forced to throw. They played at an extremely fast pace. And we haven't even mentioned yet, for Ryan Tannehill, the addition of Julio Jones. He went from Corey Davis as this number 2 receiver to Julio Jones. Walter has Tannehill projected for 2.2 touchdowns this week, making any odds at minus 130 or better just amazing for this prop. And if you can find minus 130 or better, you got to lock this one in. Ryan Tannehill over 1.5 passing touchdowns. That is the free player prop pick of the day. The free prop pick of the day is Ryan Tannehill over 1.5 passing touchdowns. And I'm just seeing now that my phone has not been charging, which is not good, guys. We got to make sure this phone is charging because it will die. It definitely will die. All right, let's plug this in here. Ryan Tannehill over 1.5 passing touchdowns. Lock it in. What do we think in the chat, guys? Ryan Tannehill over 1.5 passing touchdowns. Let me know in the comments. What are we seeing in terms of the odds of Ryan Tannehill over 1.5 passing touchdowns? Has it moved? I'm interested to see if it has moved. Aaron Rodgers or Ryan Tannehill this week? Yeah, let me pull up my quarterback rankings again. I like Ryan Tannehill a lot. He's my number 6 ranked quarterback. The only quarterbacks I'm playing over Ryan Tannehill in fantasy this week are the top 4: Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and then Jalen Hurts, because Jalen Hurts has a rushing ceiling that Ryan Tannehill does not have. But Tannehill's number 6 for me, and he's going to go over 1.5 passing touchdowns today. And we are so far 1 for 1 with the free prop picks. So lock in Ryan Tannehill over 1.5 passing touchdowns today. He's got Julio Jones, A.J. Brown against a pretty weak secondary. I would go Tannehill over Aaron Rodgers. I would go Tannehill over Aaron Rodgers. All right. Heading back to some of the questions in the TikTok chat and YouTube chat. Tannehill or Hurts? This one's super close. I would go Jalen Hurts. Personally, I have them ranked 5 and 6 respectively, though, this week. So it's close. And I wouldn't knock you for going Tannehill over Hurts. I think both are going to go over 20 fantasy points, though. I think it's going to be super close. Who is my running back 2? Sermon or Swift? I would probably go Swift over Sermon. I like DeAndre Swift. Apparently, he's full steam ahead this week as well. And there were some injury concerns about him. Also, some very concerning reports tethered to a criminal investigation for DeAndre Swift. Those have not been substantiated yet, though, so I'm not going to comment any more on that DeAndre Swift news that came out earlier, though that was really concerning and scary. It doesn't seem like there's that much meat to that story yet. DeAndre Swift is locked into a very good PPR workload. Him and TJ Hawkinson are the only 2 actual receivers on the team. It's Amon-Ra St. Brown and Tyrell Williams after that. Hawkinson and Swift could both see 10+ targets every week. This is why they were such good picks in PPR leagues this season. So yeah, I like DeAndre Swift this week. I would definitely start him over Sermon, though I do like Trey Sermon a lot. I like both Raheem Mostert and Trey Sermon a lot. I like Raheem Mostert a little bit more than Trey Sermon, but I think Trey Sermon's the more slept on guy this week, especially if the 49ers just completely destroy, if they completely destroy the Lions, which is very possible. They're 9-point favorites. I could see them being up 14-0 in the first quarter very easily. And if that happens, then I think there's a scenario where even though Raheem Mostert's the number 1 running back for the 49ers, that when there's such a big lead, they start giving Trey Sermon more of the ball because they want to keep Raheem Mostert, who's had injury concerns in the past, healthy. So they give Trey Sermon even more touches than Raheem Mostert in that scenario. I can see that happening. So I like both. But I do like DeAndre Swift more than Trey Sermon. Chase Claypool or Damian Harris for flex PPR. In a PPR league, man, it is tough for me to be starting Damian Harris over Chase Claypool. Claypool has just such a higher ceiling than Damian Harris in PPR leagues because Damian Harris will not catch the ball. Best case scenario in terms of receiving for Damian Harris is 2 catches. I think he's going to be good. I think Damian Harris is a pretty safe bet for over 10 fantasy points because I think he's going to get at least 60 rushing yards. I think his over-under is close to 70. And I think he's going to get at least 15 carries. And I also think he is going to get the red zone work. So I won't be surprised when he scores a touchdown behind the top 5 Patriots offensive line. I also think the Patriots are going to win today. So I like Damian Harris. But Chase Claypool in a game where the Steelers are going to have to try to keep up with the Buffalo Bills, who are 6.5-point favorites in that game, one of the top 3 offenses in the league with Josh Allen. Chase Claypool has a lot higher touchdown upside, and with the PPR bonus there too, I would probably go Claypool. It's close though. It's definitely close. I'd argue Damian Harris is the safer floor, and Chase Claypool has the higher ceiling. That'd be my take on it. If you're watching live on YouTube, guys, if you're watching live on TikTok, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We already went over 250 likes, though, on the YouTube live. Shout out to all of you for that. And because we did, we gave away the free prop pick already. It's Ryan Tannehill over 1.5 passing touchdowns. And you can see, guys, if you come to the YouTube live, you can see my top 10 rankings for quarterbacks, my top 10 rankings for running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. You can see my favorite picks against the spread this week. You can see my favorite DFS stacks. We have a ticker at the bottom of the YouTube live that we can't show on the TikTok live that you can just come see for free. So even if I'm not talking all the way through all that stuff, it can help you answer some of the questions I'm seeing in the chat. So come on over to the YouTube live, guys. And if you're new to the YouTube live, hit the subscribe button. If you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, I do appreciate that. This is a good one, though. I've seen this question a bunch, Chase. Brandon Ayuk or Devonta Smith, half PPR. This one's close. And again, I'm nervous about the 49ers receivers against the Lions just because I think that the 49ers are going to get such a big lead. The question is, who's going to give the 49ers the big lead? It's probably going to be Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, or George Kittle. And I don't know which it's going to be. I expect at least one of those guys to have a huge week. and at least one of those guys to really be a big bust this week, because I think the 49ers are going to lean so heavy on the run later in the game. So I'd probably go Devonta Smith over Brandon Ayuk. That being said, if there's one week I like benching rookies, it's week 1. But also on the flip side for Devonta Smith, he's up against the Atlanta Falcons. Like I don't love betting on rookies in week 1. I really don't. We've seen it in the past. Rookie, especially wide receivers, start slow. But then you look at the matchups across the league, and we have Devonta Smith against the Atlanta Falcons. We have Trey Sermon against the Detroit Lions. We have Jalen Waddle against the Stephon Gilmore-less Patriots defense. There's so many exciting rookies. We have Elijah Moore, no Jamison Elite Crowder in week 1. Elijah Moore steps into a pretty important role for the Jets in week 1. I'm very excited to watch him as well. Don't be surprised if Rondale Moore does a lot for the Cardinals in week 1 against a pretty weak Titans secondary. There is so many good rookies. Kyle Pitts against a pretty weak Eagles secondary. So many of the rookies are in such a good spot. An even deeper sleeper. My most deep sleeper of the week, by the way, though, is a guy that nobody's talking about, and a guy that is probably going to be one of the top waiver wire ads of this week. And my deep sleeper of the week is Dyami Brown. Dyami Brown is going to be the number 2 receiver for the Washington football team. Curtis Samuel is on the IR, and Dyami Brown, another rookie, is going to be thrust into the wide receiver 2/wide receiver 3 role for the Washington football team. And he is good. He's a guy that I drafted a lot of in best ball, and he's going to be potentially a top waiver wire ad. He could be a pretty good deep target for Ryan Fitzpatrick this season. I bet Adam Humphries, it won't shock me if Adam Humphries for Washington out targets Dyami Brown, but Dyami Brown, 3rd round pick, he was very good, guys, in college. 94th percentile yards per reception in college, very good deep threat. And he doesn't pop off the page in terms of all of his athleticism, but he's a good player. So he's my deep sleeper this week. I also like Elijah Moore, though, as a deep sleeper. 2 rookies. There's a lot of interesting rookies in week 1. Across the league, though, the rookie quarterbacks are very, very exciting. Mac Jones is getting his first start. Zach Wilson is getting his first start. Trevor Lawrence is getting his first start. Justin Fields and Trey Lance both going to be starting on the bench, but we could see them very soon as well. Very excited to see how these rookie quarterbacks play out. There is a lot of rookie talent in the league right now. It's a very exciting trend for the league, and I'm excited to see it on full display in week 1. Do you think Eckler is going to start this week? Yeah, Joel, yes, he's starting. He's confirmed starting. You have to start Austin Eckler. Get him into your lineup. Shenault or Smith at flex full PPR. Yeah, this is another one. I would argue that Laviska Shenault has a safer floor than Devonta Smith, but Devonta Smith has a higher ceiling. That would be my take on it. So do you want to lock in the 10+ fantasy points? Go with Laviska Shenault. Do you want to have a chance at the 25+ fantasy points of Devonta Smith versus the Falcons? Then go with Devonta Smith. But I think Laviska Shenault actually has a pretty good ceiling too. So I like them all. Arun Baller, man, how's it going? Corey Davis, Elijah Moore, or Jerry Jeudy at flex? Well, you definitely can't be starting Elijah Moore over Corey Davis. I like Elijah Moore, but you can't start him over Corey Davis. Corey Davis is pretty clearly the top receiver for the Jets. And I like Elijah Moore. And I think Elijah Moore can grow into that down the road for the Jets. And I think Elijah Moore can be good even with Corey Davis being good. But Corey Davis is not a guy you can bench for Elijah Moore. Just they're on the same team. It's really clear. So definitely Corey Davis over Elijah Moore. The Jerry Jeudy one's closer, though. And I think Jerry Jeudy has a higher ceiling than Corey Davis. But I'd still probably go Corey Davis. I think Corey Davis has a really safe PPR floor. I like Corey Davis a lot. I think that he has a good chance at least 6 catches this week. Oh, Ryan, I'm excited about this question because this is the first time I've seen Bryan Edwards' name mentioned. And if you got Bryan Edwards on your team, there's a good chance you've been listening to me at some point this preseason because there's only one player that I have on every single fantasy football team, and it is Bryan Edwards. I don't know how this happened, but in every single draft, Bryan Edwards sitting there in the 11th round. I do know how it happened. The Yahoo rankings and the ESPN rankings are just never updated. And Bryan Edwards, you literally have to search for Bryan Edwards to find him on those drafting platforms, including Sleeper too. And Bryan Edwards is probably the top receiver for the Raiders this season. Somehow he got compared to this preseason. Bryan Edwards was compared to Terrell Owens, Randy Moss, and Devontae Adams in like a 1-week span from 3 different people. Obviously, he's not any of those players, and that's just a complete joke that he's being compared to those players. But Bryan Edwards is good, and I expect him to have a good season. And I think he has 1,000 yards in him if he hits his ceiling outcome. But I'm not starting him week 1. I'm not starting him in a single league. I have him in every league. I'm not starting him in a single league week 1. I would probably go Marvin Jones, then Russell Gage, then Bryan Edwards in this situation. All right, what's your opinion on Russell Wilson? half PPR. Well, half PPR does not matter for quarterbacks, right? Because they're not going to catch the ball anyway. But I like Russell Wilson a lot. And you can see my quarterback rankings below. If you're on the YouTube live, I'm showing my top 10 quarterback rankings, top 10 wide receiver, running back, tight end rankings for completely free on the YouTube stream. So come over to the YouTube stream, and you'll see that you got to start Jalen Hurts this week. You have to start Ryan Tannehill this week, and you have to start Russell Wilson, obviously, this week as well. In that order, by the way. Corey Davis or Devonta Smith. Again, Davis has such a safe floor that it's tough for me to say Devonta Smith over Corey Davis. But I would argue that, like, if you're looking for ceiling, you don't need to look much farther than Devonta Smith up against the Falcons. Like, such a good week one matchup. How good is Trey Sermon this week? Zach Simmons Vlogs. How's it going, man? Zach, thanks for tuning in. And hit the like and subscribe button, Zach, if you haven't yet. But Trey Sermon, I'm loving him this week. And I absolutely love him in DraftKings and FanDuel, especially because the price is so low. He's priced below so many running backs that he's going to outscore. My favorite DFS stack of the week is Trey Sermon in the 49ers defense. And I'm in a season-long DraftKings head-to-head contest. It's basically a season-long fantasy league, but you make a new lineup every week on DraftKings. It's a high-stakes league. There's 64 teams in the league, and I finished top 5 in this league each of the last 2 years. And this week in that league, I'm going with the Trey Sermon and 49ers stack because that gives me the price to be able to fit Christian McCaffrey in my lineup. And when you get Christian McCaffrey in your lineup, you just lock in at least 20 fantasy points because his floor is 20 points. He has over 20 points in 90% of his games. Think about how insane this is. Christian McCaffrey, I'm so excited to see him, guys. There's one guy that I have missed watching on my football screens is Christian McCaffrey, man. He went over 20 fantasy points in 90% of his games over the last 2 years. And when you play Trey Sermon and the 49ers defense in DraftKings and FanDuel, then you have plenty of money left over for Christian McCaffrey, man. So I'm going Christian McCaffrey here. And if we're talking about my head-to-head lineup, let me pull this up. I think that one of my favorite lineups on DraftKings this week, and I put a lot of DraftKings lineups in every week, but I'll talk through one of my favorites. And it's, of course, going to have the Jalen Hurts stack in the team. We have Jalen Hurts at quarterback stacked with we're stacking him against Kyle Pitts. I have Kyle Pitts in the tight end slot. Kyle Pitts, pretty good value, by the way, on DraftKings this week. He's priced pretty well below all the other top tight ends. Gives me enough to put Christian McCaffrey and Trey Sermon as my 2 running backs. Of course, we're going with the Jaguars defense stacked with James Robinson. I put James Robinson in the flex on this one. That's my other favorite stack. I like stacking running backs and defenses. I think it's one of the more obvious stacks in fantasy football on DraftKings and FanDuel because when running backs do well, defenses do well. When defenses do well, running backs do well. There's a big correlation there. And I've studied this correlation. It's one of the biggest correlations among all positions. So I'm either stacking James Robinson in the Jaguars or I'm stacking Trey Sermon or Raheem Mostert with the 49ers. I like Mostert, by the way, more than Trey Sermon. Don't get me wrong here. And I think there is a chance Trey Sermon does better than Mostert, but I like Mostert more than Trey Sermon. But he is also like twice the price on DraftKings and FanDuel. And I think that's a little too high. All right, getting back to some of your questions. Hey, Sam, could you pick one at flex, full PPR? Ayuk, OBJ, Mooney, Sermon, White, Henderson. Yeah, this one's tough. This is a tough one. And I think I would honestly go Odell Beckham Jr. here. I don't want to bench Odell this week. And I know there's concerns about the workload. I know that he's testing it out in pregame. He's playing, guys. And by all accounts, he's at full speed, playing at 100%. I think this is more of a smokescreen to get the Chiefs unprepared for Odell Beckham Jr. So, and they're up against the Chiefs. The Browns have to throw more than they want to this week. So I like Odell a lot. Start or sit Saquon. Duval, you have to start Saquon Barkley. He's on the list of guys you just need to start. You took him in the first or second round. Even if you had a guy like Miles Sanders, I told someone to start Saquon over Miles Sanders, and that's pretty risky. Miles Sanders has got a good matchup, but Saquon is Saquon, and he's the most athletic running back in the NFL. Even on 10 or 15 touches, Saquon Barkley could easily outscore Miles Sanders. That's how high of a ceiling Saquon has on every single touch. So, yeah, don't bench Saquon. Who you got in the Steelers-Bills game? Yeah, let me pull up the spreads I like. Again, if you're watching live on TikTok, if you come to the YouTube live, the link is in our TikTok bio, or you just look up WalterPicks on YouTube. I'm showing all the spreads I like on the bottom of the screen right now. And my favorite spread of the week is the Jaguars -3 against the Houston Texans. I just think it's more about the Texans for me. The Texans are really, really bad. But if I'm picking the Steelers game, then I can't pick against. I just can't find myself picking against Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills in this game. I like the Bills -6.5 versus the Steelers. I don't feel great about this one, though. And by the way, I picked every spread today. I'm going to be tracking my pick against the spread accuracy this season. So far, I'm 1 for 1. By the way, I did take the Cowboys +9 in that first game. They easily should have won that game, but not easily, but they should have won that game. And I'm going with the Bills as favorites. I also think that the deciding factor for me here, and it was close, but the deciding factor for me in this game is that it's in Buffalo. And I think week one, there's going to be a bigger home field advantage than every other week this whole season. There's so many teams that haven't played in front of a full stadium of fans in 2 years. And it's going to have a big impact on the Steelers, who they have a huge weakness with their offensive line. And the Steelers clearly want to run the ball more this season. I don't think that approach is going to work super well against the Bills. And I still think they're going to go forward with it. Like, I still think Najee Harris, we haven't talked at all about Najee Harris. I just mentioned a lot of rookies. So I didn't mention Najee Harris. Najee Harris, I think, is going to get at least minimum 15 carries and 5 targets. That's what Najee Harris is going to be locked into every week, regardless of the matchup. That's how badly they want to give Najee Harris the ball. That's why they spent a first-round pick on him. That's my expectation for Najee Harris. That's my assumption about Najee Harris this season. So I like the Bills, but that doesn't mean I don't like Najee Harris. I think even if the Bills blow out the Steelers, in the scenario where the Bills offense is just so unstoppable for the Steelers defense, I still think Najee Harris gets 15 carries in that scenario. Like, that's how badly they're going to want to give Najee Harris the ball in this first game. All right. Hey, Sam, Tyler Lockett, OBJ, or Robbie Anderson at flex? In this scenario, it's Tyler Lockett or Robbie Anderson for me. I think Tyler Lockett has a higher ceiling than Robbie Anderson, and they're pretty similar floors to me. Robbie Anderson probably has a higher floor than Tyler Lockett. This is a good one, honestly, for the WalterPicks app, which will give you the boom and bust percentages for both these guys. But I would personally go with Tyler Lockett. I don't want Tyler Lockett's 40-point week one on my bench. And Robbie Anderson does have more competition. Like, Robbie Anderson's in a similar situation as Tyler Lockett, where he's the number 2 guy in his team. But Robbie Anderson's also playing with Sam Darnold, and Tyler Lockett's playing with Russell Wilson. So I would probably go Tyler Lockett. It's close, though. It's definitely close. Hey, Sam, loving the content. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. DJ Moore or Corey Davis, full PPR, please help. Yeah, this is a close one, man. And I know I've been saying Corey Davis to a lot of these questions, and I do like Corey Davis, but you have to go DJ Moore. You have to go DJ Moore over Corey Davis. DJ Moore is better than Corey Davis, and DJ Moore should see similar target volume to Corey Davis. The only thing with these two guys, like, DJ Moore could get out-targeted by Christian McCaffrey, and Corey Davis will lead the Jets in targets this week. That I am very confident about, but I still like DJ Moore more than Corey Davis. It's close, though. It's definitely close, and I think both are good options in a full PPR league, too. Like, Corey Davis, guys, his floor is so good in a PPR league if he's going to see the type of target volume I expect him to see. But I still like DJ Moore a lot, and you definitely took DJ Moore before Corey Davis, too, so I think that makes it a little easier. All right, I got an interesting question here. We got to pick 2 out of these guys. Najee Harris, Joe Mixon, Jerry Jeudy, 1 at RB2, other at flex. Yeah, this one's easy for me, honestly. Najee Harris and Joe Mixon. Don't bench Joe Mixon in week 1. Joe Mixon, guys, this is Joe Mixon's year. We've been saying this for 3 years. This is the year. Joe Mixon has – the thing about Joe Mixon that you got to understand is he doesn't have Giovanni Bernard on the team anymore. Nobody's talking about this. But Giovanni Bernard is gone. We saw him actually in this Thursday night game. He played less than I expected, by the way, Thursday night. I thought he was going to have that third down roll locked, and he didn't, by the way. So I was wrong about that. I'm going to be wrong about tons of stuff, by the way. Just putting that out there. I'm going to give you my best possible analysis, and I'm going to give you the best process I possibly can. But I do think I do think that Giovanni Bernard being gone is good for Joe Mixon, and it's going to be huge for him in PPR leagues. He has the chance to get 20-plus carries, 5-plus targets every week, and there's just so few running backs that's a thing. And he's really – the Bengals coaching staff has been very transparent all offseason, much more transparent than most of the coaches, saying that they don't want Joe Mixon to come off the field. They don't care about the injury history. They're not fantasy gamers that feel like they got burned from Joe Mixon in the past from injuries. They know that Joe Mixon's fully healthy and in the best shape of his life, and they know that he is the third down back and the second down back and the first down back and the goal line back on this team. And there's very few running backs across the league you can say that for confidently. So you got to start Joe Mixon. All right, Kim, love the app. Thanks, Kim. I appreciate it. Mike Williams or Sony Michel as a flex play. Sony Michel is pretty risky for me in this week 1. And I see the appeal of Sony Michel because the Rams are big favorites over the Bears. They're 9-point favorites. They're expected to crush the Bears because the Rams are good. And I understand why that's good news for Sony Michel, who's probably going to have a role in week 1 for the Rams. But I expect Darrell Henderson to lead that backfield in carries and targets. And I also think there is a chance Darrell Henderson still has the goal line role. That is very uncertain. We do not know very clearly who's going to be in what role on that offense because Sony Michel is very newly acquired. We saw 0 preseason games with Sony Michel. So for that reason, I think Mike Williams is actually safer. And it's very rare Mike Williams is safer than other players. But this week in this situation, Kim, I'd go with Mike Williams. And I know Mike Williams has a tough matchup with Washington, but Mike Williams is only going to need a couple of catches to outproduce Sony Michel. He's a very good deep target. He was top 10 in the league in deep targets per game last season. So I like Mike Williams over Sony Michel. I think he's a higher ceiling and arguably, Kim, a higher floor too. So that's what I would go with. All right. Transitioning a little bit back to this Jets game. I think week 1 could get ugly for Jets fans. There's actually a lot of fans I'm nervous for this week, including Patriots fans, by the way. I'm going to the Patriots game, and I'm getting increasingly more nervous about the Pats. I actually, by the way, bet on the Pats -3 because I'm going to the game, and it was my second favorite spread of the week. I don't usually bet very much on the spreads, though, full transparency. But I'm nervous for Pats fans and Mac Jones not being as good as he was in the preseason because it was the preseason. I'm also nervous for Jets fans who are going to benefit from the Adam Gase effect, but also be up against the Adam Gase effect in week 1, where Sam Darnold's in the best situation he's been in his entire career in week 1 against your Jets. And then on top of that, Christian McCaffrey is back. Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore, fully healthy. This could be a tough week 1 for the Jets, who have a lot of reason to be excited. Zach Wilson is better than Sam Darnold, and there's a lot of reason for the Jets to be excited, but it could be a tough week 1 for the Jets. It also could be a very, very tough week 1 for the New Orleans Saints fans. You're going from Drew Brees to Jameis Winston. I mean, that is just going to be shell-shocking. How big of a leap is that? Going from the most accurate quarterback of all time to the quarterback who has set the record for the most interceptions ever? I mean, think about how big of a leap that is. Drew Brees, literally last season in the arguably like his weakest year of his career in terms of his age and his situation with no Michael Thomas, was still top 3 in accuracy in the league. He's been top 3 in accuracy more than any other quarterback in like the history of the NFL. And now you're going to Jameis Winston. And then for the Patriots, I mean, it's just going to be tough, guys. As a Pats fan, watching Tom Brady look like peak Tom Brady in such a perfect situation with the Bucs Thursday night. Minute 30 seconds, one timeout. The entire world knows Tom Brady's about to march down the field and win the game. I mean, way too much time for the Cowboys to leave. It was just a very prototypical Tom Brady game. 300+ yards, 3 touchdowns. I mean, it's just too much. And then we see week 1, Mac Jones. And if Mac Jones doesn't live up to the hype, and I think I like Mac Jones. I'm excited for Mac Jones, but I think there is still a pretty good chance Mac Jones does not pan out. We saw 4 quarterbacks picked before Mac Jones. And there was actually a report that came out this morning that the 49ers were, strongly considering Mac Jones at 3. And I think that was a pretty clear smokescreen. And I like Mac Jones, but don't get me wrong. We got to see him do it in an actual game. We've seen him play against backup defenses in 3 preseason games. So I'm not that optimistic. I'm not that confident in Mac Jones yet. So there's also some risk that it's a tough week 1 for Pats fans. If the Patriots lose week 1 at home against the Dolphins, then the season's pretty much over for them. Like they almost can't win the division. If they're not better than the Dolphins, then how are they winning the AFC East? And this is what Pats fans expect. So I'm nervous for Pats fans as well. There's a lot of fans I'm nervous for in this week 1. Hey, Sam, I love the content. Joey, thanks, man. I do appreciate that. Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button and the like button on the YouTube stream. If you're watching live on TikTok, by the way, I'm showing for free on the YouTube stream my top 10 running backs, top 10 quarterbacks, top 10 tight ends, top 10 wide receivers for the week. If you come to the YouTube stream, it's on a ticker at the bottom of the screen. So head over to the YouTube stream. Link is in the bio, or just look up WalterPicks on YouTube. But Joey, who you're going with? Full PPR, Mike Davis or Brandon Cooks? This is a tough one. I like Brandon Cooks. And Brandon Cooks does have a pretty high ceiling every week. He's the pretty clear wide receiver 1 for the Texans. I mean, after Brandon Cooks, there's a pretty big drop-off of a bunch of guys that are probably going to be pretty inconsistently good throughout the season. So I like Brandon Cooks, but I think if there's a week to start Mike Davis, it's probably week 1. It's probably week 1 against the Eagles. I think this is a scenario I'd probably go Mike Davis for the floor, Joey. If you're looking for floor, you got to go Davis. If you're looking for ceiling, though, I definitely think Brandon Cooks has a higher ceiling than Mike Davis. All right. Hell24 Shadow offering a 5-star review in the App Store. Thanks, man. Yeah, if there's a good way to get me to answer your question, by the way, and I will try to answer as many comments as I can on TikTok and on YouTube. I'm trying to get you guys ready for week 1. But I do appreciate the 5-star reviews in the App Store for WalterPicks. It really does help me out a ton. So thank you, man. I traded Tyler Lockett for Amari Cooper. Thoughts? And my other wide receiver is A.J. Brown. Yeah, I mean, that's an amazing trade. Amari Cooper, I've been saying this all offseason. And we're not going to take victory laps, by the way. We are not taking victory laps week 1, week 2, week 3. You won't see me take victory laps. But all offseason, Amari Cooper was pretty clearly the best value wide receiver on the Dallas Cowboys. I like CeeDee Lamb more than Amari Cooper still, and I liked him more in fantasy drafts this season. But Amari Cooper was obviously the better value going 5 to 12 picks later after CeeDee Lamb in almost every single draft. And Amari Cooper had 3 games under 10 fantasy points last season. 3. And that was without Dak and with a very injured offensive line. And now he has Dak Prescott back, and we saw what he could do. Yeah, I mean, Tyler Lockett way better than Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper way better than Tyler Lockett, excuse me. So, yeah, amazing trade. Hey, Sam, love the WalterPicks app. Thanks, JV. I appreciate it, man. David Montgomery or Raheem Mostert. This is a good one, man. David Montgomery is a guy that you want to be starting week 1, even in a tough matchup against the Rams. But Raheem Mostert is not a guy that I'm willing to bench in week 1. You got to go with Raheem Mostert here. They're up against the Lions. So David Montgomery is a 9-point underdog. Raheem Mostert's a 9-point favorite. And you want the favorites when you're starting your running backs. I really do think the 49ers could be up 2 touchdowns in this game very early. And Raheem Mostert was also a guy that was kind of slept on all offseason. People very nervous about his injuries. He was wearing a knee brace, but really just proactively wearing a knee brace. There was no knee injury. He was just wearing a knee brace because he has had knee injuries in the past. And you're getting Raheem Mostert, who is arguably the fastest player in the NFL. He has the fastest game speed in each of the last 2 seasons. He could be a legit Olympic sprinter, and he's going up against a Swiss cheese Lions defense. So go with Raheem Mostert and really just take it to the bank, man. Raheem Mostert and Trey Sermon, 2 guys I absolutely love. All right, Woods or Juju? This is a good one. I would go with Robert Woods, though. I like Robert Woods a lot this season and a lot in week 1. I think Robert Woods is going to be the number 1 receiver for Matt Stafford. I think his game fits better with Stafford than Cooper Kupp. I like Cooper Kupp a lot too, and I expect him to be good, but I think Robert Woods is going to be a really good value. All right. Hey, Sam, you're my favorite fantasy football analyst. Wow, Frank. Seriously, thank you. There's a lot of good fantasy football analysts out there, Frank, so I appreciate that. Herbert or Fitzpatrick? This is a good one, man, and they're going up against each other too, Frank. It's Justin Herbert up against a very good Washington defense and Ryan Fitzpatrick up against a pretty good Chargers defense. I still think you got to go Justin Herbert here. If I pull up my quarterback rankings again, I know that this defense is scary, but Justin Herbert was so good last season, and the Chargers offense got better this offseason. They did get better. The offensive line is significantly better. And it might not seem that way in this week 1 game because the Washington defense is so good, but their offensive line got significantly better. It's the best offensive line they've had in the last 3, 4, 5 years on that team. And Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, fully healthy, Austin Eckler back. I like Justin Herbert more than Ryan Fitzpatrick, though Ryan Fitzpatrick was one of my favorite very, very late quarterbacks this season. And I won't be surprised if he outscores Herbert, but I would still go Herbert here. I think Herbert's got a much higher ceiling than Ryan Fitzpatrick. Sam, we're close to 300 likes on this stream. And Sam, we trust Yarshman. Thanks, man. Yeah, we're almost at 300 likes. I'm going to have to set the bar higher, I think, next time. But hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button if you're watching live on YouTube. Thanks for tuning in, guys. This has been a very fun stream. I've been live for almost 2.5 hours. Every Sunday morning. By the way, this morning felt like Christmas morning. Last night felt like Christmas Eve. I don't know if you guys all felt that way too. Last night felt like Christmas Eve. This morning felt like Christmas Day. And when I wake up Sunday mornings, I wake up, I shower, and I hop on the stream and I drink my coffee. I get like slowly more and more excited as we get closer and closer to 1 o'clock. So I'm getting very excited. We're like just a couple hours away now, guys. Under 2 hours. Under 2 hours left of the stream. How many likes for another prop pick, Sam? We're not going to go there quite yet, but we did already far surpass the 250 likes needed for the free prop pick. And the free prop pick, I'm showing it right now on the YouTube live. It's Ryan Tannehill over 1.5 passing touchdowns. I mean, lock this one in. Ryan Tannehill in games with at least 25 passing attempts. And I would be shocked if he doesn't get at least 25 passing attempts this week. And honestly, if he doesn't clear this prop, he probably ended up with less than 25 passing attempts. And again, I would be so surprised if that happened because he's up against a Cardinals offense that's good and a Cardinals defense that's really bad. This could be the highest scoring game of the week. This is the chalk game in DFS. But for some reason, the Ryan Tannehill touchdown prop is at -1.5. It's at 1.5 touchdowns. And the odds are like -120 last time I checked. And I still haven't seen in the YouTube chat what odds you guys got. You can let me know on the TikTok chat or YouTube chat what odds you're seeing 1.5 touchdowns for Ryan Tannehill at. But anything at -130 or better is just amazing. It's just amazing. Najee Harris or Miles Sanders. This is an interesting one. Miles Sanders pretty clearly has the better matchup. I would still go Najee Harris, though, because I think Najee Harris is going to touch the ball more than Miles Sanders. I do. I think that if you're projecting touches in volume, -156, says Henry. That's a little worse than I was seeing. I still don't hate it, though, Henry. I still don't hate it. I really don't. I think that he's going to throw for 2+ touchdowns. And minus 160 does make a lot more sense to me than the original minus 130 I was seeing, but I don't hate minus 156. I wonder if anyone else can find any better odds than that. I do really encourage you guys, if you're going to be betting at all this season or betting on player props, shop around for the best odds. Because Fancy's here saying minus 130. If you're trying to actually make money betting, you really need to shop for better odds because you will find better odds on different books. So having different places to place the bets really does make a huge difference. All right, let's check out the Tyson Williams versus Raiders thoughts. I don't hate Tyson Williams this week. The Raiders defense I don't think is very good. I think the Ravens are going to win. I like the Ravens -4 against the Raiders. But all that being said, Tyson Williams, what's the ceiling for Tyson Williams? I mean, he's not going to catch the ball because Lamar Jackson historically does not throw to his running backs. The running backs for the Ravens haven't had a 5-target game in the last 3 years. Like, they don't throw to the running backs ever. So Tyson Williams' best case scenario receiving is like 2 catches. He could very, very well end with 0 catches. And then in the running game, Lamar Jackson, obviously a threat to steal the rushing touchdowns. So that gives Tyson Williams a pretty scary floor and ceiling, in my opinion. But that being said, Tyson Williams week 1 is probably the best week that you'll get with Tyson Williams because next week there's going to be a lot more competition. So I like him the most across the season, probably week 1. But there's more guys that I like than Tyson Williams that I really don't feel like you need to start him. For example, Jared's asking, pick 2, Darrell Henderson or Tyson Williams or Deontay Johnson. Like, I would definitely go Henderson and Deontay Johnson over Tyson Williams. I would go Henderson, by the way, if I had to pick one here. But I would go Henderson and Deontay Johnson there, Jared. All right, Ben. Been a fan of the TikTok for a long time. Thanks, man. Yeah, guys, if you're not following us on TikTok, you gotta follow the TikTok, the TikToks we launched this season. We have 32 TikTok creators now. I have a very optimistic view about the platform. TikTok, I think TikTok is by far the number one place to grow an audience right now. And that is the reason this season we brought on 32 TikTok creators, one for each NFL team. And they're all crushing it, by the way. They all, in less than a month, have been absolutely crushing it. And I'm very excited to see all their content. I'm sure some of them are live right now. And you're going to get a lot of great insights from them that you couldn't have gotten from me. I'm honestly hoping that plenty of them end up being even better content creators than I have been. That's really the ultimate hope. So, yeah, thanks for following us on TikTok, Ben. I appreciate it. Chase Edmonds or Trey Sermon? I'd go Chase Edmonds. I love Chase Edmonds this week. I like Trey Sermon a lot too, and I've talked a lot about him on this live stream already. But I do like Chase Edmonds more as a PPR play in a game I expect to have a ton of points. Again, I like Ryan Tannehill to go over 1.5 passing touchdowns, and I think he could do that. I think there's a scenario where Ryan Tannehill hits 2 passing touchdowns and Derrick Henry still scores twice. Like, that's how high scoring this Titans game could be, which is very good news for Chase Edmonds up against a bad Titans defense. And Chase Edmonds has a chance at 5+ catches today. And that alone is going to be a running back 3 in fantasy, top 36 running back. But if he gets more carries than people expect, which I think is more likely than people are realizing, then Chase Edmonds all of a sudden top 12 running back in fantasy. So I like the Chase Edmonds picks if you got him. I like him over Trey Sermon this week, though I do like Trey Sermon a lot too. All right. Hey, Sam, been a fan for a year. Thanks, Henry. I do appreciate it. Stafford or Lawrence, my dude? Yeah, I have Trevor Lawrence ranked 10th here on these rankings. It's close, though, man. There was so many different ways I could have gone with this 10th ranking. I think, honestly, I feel pretty strong about the top 9 quarterbacks I have below me here on YouTube. And again, if you come to the YouTube live, you can see my top 10 quarterbacks, running back, wide receivers, tight ends, completely free. Just look up WalterPicks on YouTube or go to the TikTok link in the bio. But I do think Stafford over Lawrence. Stafford's probably safer than Lawrence. But the thing about Trevor Lawrence, and why I ranked him 10, is the Houston Texans, guys. You got to understand just how bad the Texans might be. This is why the Jaguars -3 is my lock of the week in terms of spreads. It's my favorite spread of the week because it's less about the Jaguars and it's more about the Texans. So Trevor Lawrence over Matthew Stafford for me is less about Trevor Lawrence and it's more about the Texans. I think Trevor Lawrence could have a fantastic first game of his career in the NFL up against the ideal defense to be going up against. So, yeah, I would go Trevor Lawrence, but it's close. And I won't be shocked if Stafford does better than him. I think it's really close. But I personally would go Trevor Lawrence over Matthew Stafford. All right. William Schaefer, man, how's it going? Thanks for tuning in again, man. Corey Davis or Robbie Anderson in a flex spot? Yeah, I think I talked about this one. To me, Corey Davis is pretty clearly the safer play here over Robbie Anderson. This one's close. I like Robbie Anderson. I think Robbie Anderson's one of the more underrated wide receivers in the NFL. I won't be shocked when we're 4 weeks into the season again, like last year, and Robbie Anderson somehow a wide receiver 1. That's how good Robbie Anderson is. But Corey Davis is the safer play. Corey Davis is the clear wide receiver 1 for the Jets. in week 1, and Jameson Lee Crowder is out this week. So I like Corey Davis as a really safe PPR play. So I'd probably go Corey Davis. If it wasn't a PPR league, though, I'd probably go Robbie Anderson. And I do think it's close. Thanks for the 5-star review, though, Will. I do appreciate it. All right. Chase Edmonds or Chris Carson? PPR. Yeah, PPR, Joey, it gets closer. But you got to start Chris Carson in this situation. You absolutely have to. You drafted Chris Carson before Chase Edmonds. And Chris Carson is locked into a pretty big workload for the Seahawks this season. I mean, it's Rashad Penny and almost nobody else behind Chris Carson. I would be pretty shocked if Chris Carson didn't get at least 20 touches. And that's like the ceiling for Chase Edmonds is 20 touches. So I think Chris Carson's floor is just way too high, much higher than Chase Edmonds' floor, that you almost have to start Chris Carson. This, though, is a much more difficult question. Donnie's asking Chris Carson or James Robinson for the whole fantasy year. I mean, just week 1, I think, is a tough question. I would probably go James Robinson week 1 just because of the matchup. But for the whole year, I think this one's really close. And honestly, James Robinson might end up with less touches than Chris Carson. Like if they both stay healthy the whole year, which obviously is probably going to be the thing that ends up deciding this answer at the end of the season, Donnie, which is just the way running backs go. But James Robinson is going to compete with touches with Carlos Hyde. This is why I'm going to be so infuriated watching Jaguars games this season, because Urban Meyer has a connection with Carlos Hyde from the Ohio State days. And Carlos Hyde's like 3 or 4 years past his prime. James Robinson is in his prime. And we're still going to see Carlos Hyde get the ball like 10 plus times a game. It's going to be so brutal when that happens. And it's going to happen. So that makes me want to go Chris Carson. But if that wasn't going to, like if they were both going to get the same amount of volume, I would definitely go Robinson. I think the Seahawks, though, overall are just much better than the Jaguars. So I'll go Chris Carson here. It's close, though. We'll see how that one ends up working out. Sean Rodriguez, man, thanks for tuning in. Start 3, Najee Harris, Antonio Gibson, Jonathan Taylor, Austin Eckler. How did you get all of these elite running backs on your team? Seriously, did you start with 4 running backs in your draft, or are there only 4 teams in your league? This is a good team. I would not be benching Jonathan Taylor or Austin Eckler. Honestly, I'd probably go with those last 3 guys. I'd probably bench Najee Harris here. Just bench the rookie. Play it safe, bench the rookie. You got 3 studs. I love Antonio Gibson, guys, this week. Do not bench Antonio Gibson. I think Antonio Gibson is another guy that we could just put on the list of you have to start Antonio Gibson always. You have to. I mean, you just don't bench Antonio Gibson. Even in a relatively difficult matchup against the Chargers, I love Gibson this week. Hey, Sam, big fan. On my way to give 5-star review in the App Store. Thanks, man. Yeah, appreciate the 5-star reviews in the WalterPicks app on the iOS App Store. It's one of the best ways that you can help me out for like 0 cost, really. Completely free. You can just go give us a 5-star review in the App Store. Actually, like huge for us. So we do appreciate that. Henry Ruggs or Bryan Edwards? I also love this question because if you've been following me this offseason, you know that Bryan Edwards is my favorite sleeper of the year. And I have Bryan Edwards, and he's the only player across all of my fantasy teams. And I'm in 6 different high-stakes fantasy leagues. High stakes. And last year, I had the guy I drafted the most was Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And it didn't go very well. But that was an early pick. I was taking him in the first round last year. And this year, I changed my strategy a little. I didn't want to go super heavy in the first round on one guy. So instead, the guy I got in every single team was Bryan Edwards in the 11th round or later in every single draft, because Bryan Edwards was the perfect fantasy pick, because even if he doesn't work out, it's okay. We didn't spend that much to acquire him in fantasy. But if he does work out, I think he's going to be a 1,000-yard receiver. I'd go Bryan Edwards, though. I like Bryan Edwards more than Henry Ruggs this season. And if you've been reading the training camp reports out of the Raiders beat reporters, they also think Bryan Edwards is looking better than Henry Ruggs. Damian Harris or DeAndre Swift? Definitely Swift, especially if it's a PPR league. You got to go DeAndre Swift. The Lions are going to get destroyed by the 49ers. And if that happens, which I think it will, DeAndre Swift is going to get a lot of targets. Look at the receivers for the Lions, and you just got to love DeAndre Swift and TJ Hawkinson in PPR leagues. Half PPR, it's much closer. And in a standard league, it's Damian Harris, because Damian Harris is a lock for 15-plus carries, and he's behind a top 5 offensive line in the league. So I do like that. Stevie, Saquon, not close. Yeah, I agree with you. Allosaurus, thanks for helping with the comments in the chat. But Saquon, Callaway, Corey Davis, or Chenault, flex PPR, we'll give 5 stars. Yes, Saquon, Stevie, don't bench Saquon Barkley. I know he might be on a pitch count, but you can't bench him. You're just not allowed to. You're not allowed. If you read the rules of fantasy football in the fine print, it says you are not allowed to bench Saquon Barkley. You're not allowed to bench Allen Robinson, even though he's going up against Jalen Ramsey. I don't care if Saquon Barkley's on a pitch count. You're not allowed to bench him. There's a lot of these guys. Antonio Gibson, not allowed to bench him either. Don't bench your best players. I mean, like it honestly is that simple at some point in time. All right. I did think that it was interesting that the New York Giants were underselling the Saquon Barkley injury all offseason. And I honestly think that there's a chance that Saquon Barkley gets a lot more touches than what's being let on today. I think that Saquon Barkley could see 15, 20 touches in this game. I also do like, as a super deep sleeper, I mentioned De'Ami Brown. I think Adam Humphries is also a really deep sleeper. If you're someone playing in tournaments on DraftKings and FanDuel, check out De'Ami Brown and Adam Humphries. One of those two guys is going to be the number 2 receiver for Washington today, after Terry McLaurin, of course, and probably after Logan Thomas. But one of those two guys is probably going to go over 50 yards and a touchdown in week 1. And that's the guy you're going to want in your DraftKings tournament lineups, because he probably is going to be under 3% owned. So I don't hate him at all either. All right. Some props that I do like today that aren't in the WalterPicks app, that didn't get identified by Walter, our artificially intelligent algorithm that helps us identify exploitable prop picks. It's had over 60% accuracy over the last 2 years. We're already 2 for 2 this season with CeeDee Lamb and Antonio Brown. If you want all the 7 props that Walter identified for today, head to the WalterPicks app in the iOS App Store. But some other props that didn't quite meet Walter's threshold that I liked. I like Tyson Williams, under 19.5 receiving yards. That one was on DraftKings at -120. I don't think Tyson Williams is going to catch a single pass this week. So under 19.5 receiving yards, sign me up for that for Tyson Williams. Kenny Galladay's over-under was also pretty interesting. Over 37.5 yards. I saw that on MGM. Kenny Galladay over 37.5. I mean, if Kenny Galladay's playing, which he's playing, he's going to need 2 catches to beat this. And they just paid a boatload of money for Kenny Galladay. Like, they're probably going to use him in week 1 in a game where they're underdogs, week 1 against the Denver Broncos. So I do like Kenny Galladay over 37.5 yards as well. I also thought the last one that was interesting to me is the Javonte Williams. There was a prop on, I think it was Prize Picks or maybe DraftKings, that was Javonte Williams over 6.5 rushing attempts. I think Javonte Williams is going to touch the ball at least 10 times almost every week. So that one I didn't hate either. All right, should I start Woods over Juju? Yes, you should. Definitely start Woods over Juju. Hey, Sam, can you pick one of Paris Campbell, Bryan Edwards, and Jacoby Myers? Love these receivers, man. Love the sleeper receivers. This is the case for early running back this season, guys, is honestly right here in JJ's question. I mean, you got Paris Campbell, Bryan Edwards, and Jacoby Myers pretty much all completely free in fantasy football drafts. And Paris Campbell and Michael Pittman were 2 of the steals of all fantasy drafts. T.Y. Hilton's out for at least the first month of the season with a neck injury. Neck injuries are not what you want to see for 32-year-old wide receivers. And that means Paris Campbell or Michael Pittman or both are going to far exceed their cost. I'd probably lean towards Campbell of these 3 guys in week 1 against the Seattle Seahawks. Paris Campbell has pretty high upside in terms of his ceiling this week. I think his floor is pretty low. Like, we haven't seen him since the injury, and Michael Pittman could be the top guy. Carson Wentz might be eased in. They're probably going to run a lot, but Paris Campbell is very fast. The last time he played a full game, he went 7 catches, like 70 yards. So yeah, I like Paris Campbell, probably the most of these guys. I also love Bryan Edwards. Jacoby Myers, I like too, but Jacoby Myers is really a guy that I do want on my bench in week 1. Like, I'm rooting for Jacoby Myers this week. I think he's a good pick in fantasy. You probably picked him before Bryan Edwards and Paris Campbell. But I'm nervous about how this Patriots offense could affect the receivers. They're going to run some of the most 2 tight end sets in the league. Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry, both playing week 1. And I think Mac Jones is good for Jacoby Myers, better than Cam Newton. But they're going to be a run-first team. Damian Harris is going to get the ball a lot, and the offensive line's top 5 in the league. And if they get an early lead against the Dolphins, like, Jacoby Myers might only see 5 targets in week 1. So I probably would keep him on the bench for week 1. Bennett Griffin, man, we don't need to spam. We do not need to spam the YouTube chat. One of the nice parts about YouTube is it's less spammy, man. It's less spammy. Carter asking, what's the free player prop? Yeah, we passed 250 likes. We already gave out the free prop pick today, and some people said it was at -160. Other people found it at -130. So shop around for the best odds. But Ryan Tannehill over 1.5 passing touchdowns. This is the free prop of the day. Lock it in. We nailed Antonio Brown as our first free prop on Thursday night, and we're nailing Ryan Tannehill over 1.5 passing touchdowns today. There's so many reasons, guys, to like Ryan Tannehill. There's so many reasons. If we look at the stats from his last 11 games, in his 11 games last year, where he had at least 25 passing attempts, which happened in 11 out of his 16 games. And it's going to happen today. He's up against a Cardinals offense that's good and a Cardinals defense that's bad. I would be very surprised if he doesn't throw the ball at least 25 times. In those 11 games, he averaged 2.2 touchdowns a game, and he scored at least 2 touchdowns 73% of the time. Almost 3/4 of the time, Ryan Tannehill was going over 2 touchdowns. Tannehill gets an amazing matchup this week against a Cardinals secondary that should have a significantly worse secondary this year. They just lost Malcolm Butler to retirement unexpectedly 2 weeks before the season started, and they did nothing to replace him. Then, at the same time, this game could be played at the fastest pace in all of the games this week, featuring two teams that I expect to finish top 10 in pace this season because they finished top 10 in pace last season. And we haven't even mentioned the addition of Julio Jones. Walter has Tannehill projected for 2.2 touchdowns this week. Any odds at minus 130 or better is fantastic. And someone in the chat just a little bit earlier said they found minus 130. Honestly, I'd be willing to go up to minus 160 and feel pretty good about it because I think he's going over. I do think he's going over 1.5 touchdowns. All right. Who should put in my flex, Adam Thielen or Jerry Jeudy? This is a close one for me. Adam Thielen is a guy that was so efficient in the touchdown column each of the last two seasons, but last year especially. I mean, you look at some of these numbers for Adam Thielen, and it's almost impossible for him not to regress this season. He had some of the most red zone targets of all time. He had one of the most efficient touchdown seasons of all time. Especially if you just look at the red zone numbers, he almost has to get worse. All Adam Thielen does, though, is score touchdowns. Like, he seems like one of these guys that every year is supposed to regress in the touchdown column, and he just keeps scoring more and more touchdowns. But all that said, I like Jerry Jeudy actually a little bit more than Adam Thielen. That's probably a bold take for most people. But for the Vikings, man, it's going to be Dalvin Cook as the clear number one guy. And then it's going to be Justin Jefferson as the clear number two guy. So in games where the Vikings get a lead early, like I just fear for Adam Thielen. Not getting the target volume that he has seen in previous seasons. So I'd probably go Jerry Jeudy, but this one's definitely close. Who wins this trade? By the way, the amount of trade questions I've seen before week one got me so excited for this season. I've never been in a league where people trade after the draft, but before the season. And I absolutely love that there's like all these trades happening. Who wins this trade? Joe Mixon and Debo for Zeke and Waddle. Full PPR league. This is a good one. Joe Mixon and Debo Samuel for Ezekiel Elliott and Jalen Waddle. Well, right now, I'd take the Joe Mixon side. And by the way, I told people to trade for Zeke, and I don't hate this trade for either side. I think Zeke is still a top 5 running back in fantasy football. I'm not too worried about him. He's not going to play the top rushing defense every week. He actually has the top 10 easiest schedule among running backs for the rest of the season. And a lot of positive signs for the Cowboys in that first game. I mean, the offense looked good. Dak looked good. The offensive line looked healthy. Zach Martin's going to come back. I know they got one of their offensive linemen got suspended, but he'll be back. I like Zeke more than Joe Mixon, but Joe Mixon is going to be good, and he's going to be on the field every single down for the Bengals, and he's going to have a better week one than Zeke at the very minimum. So, yeah, I don't hate this. And I like Debo Samuel a lot more than Waddle, though I do think Waddle has sneaky upside. It's a pretty fair trade, Alex, honestly. All right, heading back to some more questions. Hey, Sam, here's an RB option pick for you. Pick 2, Jacobs, Mostert, and Montgomery in a PPR league. Yeah, I'd probably go Mostert and Montgomery. I don't want Josh Jacobs in my lineups in week one. I didn't draft Josh Jacobs in a single league. He was on my do not draft list. And Montgomery was too, by the way, but I like Montgomery more. I would go Mostert for sure against the Lions, even though he has the least receiving. He has less receiving upside than Montgomery, but both Jacobs and Mostert probably won't catch a single pass this week. I would go Montgomery, though, over Josh Jacobs. And that one's also a really good question. Everyone is high on Hurts. Why is that? Well, there's a bunch of different reasons to be high on Jalen Hurts. One is the Atlanta Falcons secondary was atrocious last season. The Atlanta Falcons secondary allowed 16 different wide receivers to go over 90 yards last season. That led the NFL. And they somehow might have gotten worse this offseason, which is just, it's so hard to wrap my head around that they got worse. I really am excited to see if they actually got better or worse in this first game. That's one reason to love Jalen Hurts. But another reason to love Jalen Hurts is the rushing upside. He averaged 10 fantasy points per game just on the ground last season. 10 fantasy points per game just on the ground. That's his floor every week. He could throw for 0 yards, and he's still getting 10 fantasy points. That's basically what that means. And he also has an even higher rushing ceiling than that. He could rush for 100 yards this week. That is within his range of outcomes. And you can only say that about like 5 different running backs, 5 different quarterbacks in the league, maybe less. You could say that about Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson, and Kyler Murray and Josh Allen, maybe, but probably not. Like, both those guys probably ceiling out at like 60 rushing yards. Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson could ceiling out at 100 rushing yards every single week. Lamar definitely has the highest ceiling of all of them. But on top of that, Jalen Hurts also is just in a very, very clearly in a much, much better situation this season than a season ago. The Eagles' offensive line was decimated last year by injuries. They went from on paper, a top 10 offensive line to, with the injuries, a bottom 5 offensive line. And now they're fully healthy again. And they actually have a chance to be a top 10 offensive line this year. And then you also look at the receivers. And Greg Ward, the last 2 years, and this matters for Carson Wentz too, by the way, the last 2 years, the top wide receiver on the Eagles has been Greg Ward. You go look at the receiving yards, last 2 seasons, top receiver, Greg Ward. He was a college quarterback like 4 years ago. He was a college quarterback, and he's leading the Eagles in receiving the last 2 years. That's how bad of a situation it's been for the receivers and the Philadelphia Eagles. And so what do? They go out and address the receiver position by going out and getting Devonta Smith, arguably the most NFL-ready wide receiver. He has a lot of traits similar to Stephon Diggs. He won the Heisman, and he has elite route running, incredible hands, and incredible speed. He's undersized, but that's okay if you have all those other traits. We've seen that with other players before. So, yeah, there's so many reasons to like Jalen Hurts. Those are some of them, and I think Jalen Hurts is the lock of week 1. I would not be benching Jalen Hurts. He's my number 5 ranked quarterback heading into this week. I have him above everyone not named Kyler Murray, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson. All right, Dom, I'm going to get to this question next. If you're tuned in on TikTok, by the way, guys, hit the like button. They added a like button on TikTok, which is super cool. So smash the like button. And also check out the YouTube stream because I'm giving away my top 10 rankings list, quarterbacks, wide receivers, tight ends, running backs every Sunday this season. But you can only see them on YouTube because there's not a ticker on TikTok like there is on YouTube. So come to the YouTube stream also. All right. Hey, Sam, love your content. Which 2 for OBJ, Judy, Cup, Robbie Anderson, half PPR? Definitely OBJ for me. And I think that if you're looking for the safest floor out of the remaining 3 guys, it's Cooper Kupp. I think the highest ceiling, though, is Judy. This one's really close. I like all these receivers. I would not be benching Odell Beckham Jr., though. I'm not that nervous about those reports. Dom, if I had to choose 2, though, I'd probably go Odell Beckham Jr. and Cooper Kupp. Danny Grease, man, how's it going? Thanks for hopping back into the live. I do appreciate it. What do you think about Sam Darnold's value in DFS at 5,000? Yeah, I think Sam Darnold's an interesting value in DFS, but I just don't think he has that same ceiling. I don't think he has the same type of ceiling as Jalen Hurts does. And Jalen Hurts is not that expensive. He's 6,400. He's not that much more expensive than Sam Darnold. I also think that Ryan Tannehill at 6,500. Sam Darnold doesn't have the same type of ceiling as these guys. I don't think I'm going very much far below Ryan Tannehill and Jalen Hurts in the quarterback position on DraftKings or FanDuel this week. Though if you're going to pay way down, I don't hate Sam Darnold. I also don't hate Zach Wilson that much at just 5,000. Like, they could easily get 20 fantasy points, but I don't think they have the same 40 fantasy point ceiling that Jalen Hurts and Ryan Tannehill has. Like, that's their ceiling. They could go for – Jalen Hurts could rush for 100 yards and have 4 total touchdowns. And Ryan Tannehill could throw for 4+ touchdowns and 300+ yards in this game too. So, and Sam Darnold does not have that in his range of outcomes. So that's my thought there. Hey, Sam, who would you pick, Callaway or Julio? You have to start Julio Jones this week, guys. You need to start Julio Jones. You got to start Julio Jones when he's playing and he's healthy. I mean, Julio Jones has balled out literally always for his entire career when healthy. And I don't expect anything different from Julio Jones this week. And I'm pumped that he is playing week 1 because he was out most of the preseason. And that was pretty concerning. And it did cause me to draft less of Julio Jones than I would have had he been healthy. Because I think people, generally speaking, are sleeping on Julio Jones right now in the NFL. Like, people forget how good Julio Jones is and how good he is when he's healthy. He was number 3 in the NFL in terms of efficiency at wide receiver, 3rd in yards per route run. He averaged 85 yards a game in games that he played in last season, alongside Calvin Ridley and with a declining Matt Ryan. And now he gets peak of his career, Ryan Tannehill alongside AJ Brown. I mean, Julio Jones is going to ball out. Don't bench Julio Jones, man. Do not bench Julio Jones. That's my thoughts there. Damian Harris, Marvin Jones, or Devontae Parker. That's a close one. I'd probably go Damian Harris, though. I don't love Devontae Parker. I honestly won't be surprised when Jalen Waddle outperforms Devontae Parker this week. Hey, Sam, pick 2. Brandon, thanks for tuning in, man. Allen Robinson, Julio Jones, Damian Harris. I would go with the first 2. Don't bench Allen Robinson. There's a few rules in fantasy. One of them is you're not allowed to bench Allen Robinson, even if he's going against Jalen Ramsey. And don't bench Julio Jones over Damian Harris either, especially in a standard league. Damian Harris is better. In PPR league, this wouldn't even be close, but I still would probably go Julio Jones over Damian Harris, though it is definitely closer without those guys. All right, I want to run through my picks against the spread one more time. And if you come to the YouTube live stream, guys, you can see all my picks against the spread at the bottom of the screen. Again, the link is in the bio on TikTok. If you're just joining the live stream, by the way, guys, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button too. If you're watching on TikTok, hit that follow button. But I want to run through the spreads that I like this week. There's none that I like more than the Jaguars -3. against the Texans at Houston, but the Texans are the worst team in the NFL this season. I actually think they would get beaten pretty badly by the Detroit Lions, who are, to me, pretty clearly the second worst team in the league. And there's actually an argument that the Jaguars are the third worst team, or like a bottom 5 team in the league this season. But they're still significantly better than the Texans. And the Texans still are worse at every single position than the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I like the Jaguars -3. I do also like the Eagles +3.5 at Atlanta. I just mentioned all those reasons I like Jalen Hurts. I don't see a big difference between these two teams this season. I think that the Eagles, though, have a lot higher ceiling this season than the Falcons. I would be pretty surprised if the Falcons are at all playoff contenders this season. I don't expect the Eagles to be either. But the Eagles' offensive line is so much better than it was last season. And the Falcons' defense somehow got worse this offseason. And I think there's a chance that they got worse. So I like the Eagles +3.5 at Atlanta. I didn't pick very many upsets this week against the spread. And I'll be tracking my accuracy against the spread, by the way, all throughout the season. So I'll be very transparent with how good I'm doing. And I don't bet very much against the spread. But I do find it very fun picking against the spread. And I think it's challenging. The spreads are set very accurately. But I like the Eagles +3.5 in Atlanta. It's also... I don't feel good picking road teams in week 1 because, again, like I said at the start of the stream, I think home field is going to have the biggest impact on week 1 games of any week across the season. So many of these teams haven't played in front of fans in 2 years. 2 years. All right. Hey, Sam, who do I pick, Chase Edmonds or Mike Davis? I would go Edmonds. I would definitely go Chase Edmonds here. I just don't love Mike Davis. I'm nervous about Mike Davis. I'm not that nervous about Chase Edmonds. I think the ceiling is way higher for Chase Edmonds. I think the floor is like really similar here too. Corey Davis or Damian Harris. I've seen a lot of Corey Davis and Damian Harris questions. Very interesting to see both these guys' names pop up. In a PPR league, though, you got to love Corey Davis. I mean, he was targeted so much in the preseason when he was out there, 75% of his routes. And if that all translates to week 1, he's going to see 10 targets. He's going to see at least 10 targets. And that's going to be top 15 in the league in terms of targets. So, yeah, I like Corey Davis in PPR. If it's a standard league, though, I do also really like Damian Harris. I think my one hope for the Patriots as a Pats fan, and I'm actually going to the Pats game today, very excited. My first NFL game I'm going to in the last 2 years also, so I'm very excited for that. But I think Damian Harris is going to be behind a top 5 offensive line. I think he's going to get at least 15 carries a game. And with Cam Newton no longer the starter, I think he also is going to get a lot of red zone work. So he has touchdown upside too. He has no receiving ceiling though. That's the scary part of Damian Harris in PPR leagues. And that's why I wouldn't be starting him over Corey Davis in a PPR league. That's my thoughts there. But I think Damian Harris is a really safe floor. Tyler gave you 5 stars. Thanks, Tyler. Appreciate that, man. Start Trey Sermon or Kareem Hunt in a non-PPR league. This is a close one, man. I haven't seen very many Kareem Hunt questions. I really haven't. And I think Kareem Hunt could have a pretty big game against his old team, by the way. #revenge game. Low-key revenge game there for Kareem Hunt against his former team where he led the league in rushing, the Kansas City Chiefs. But I would still go Sermon here. And a lot of people would probably disagree with me here on this one. And honestly, the WalterPicks app would probably, I guess, disagree with me on this one too. But Trey Sermon is just in such a good week 1 matchup against the Lions. Like, there's such a scenario in this 49ers game. If the Lions get destroyed and they're down big, like, why would they give Raheem Mostert tons of carries in 3rd and 4th quarters of this game when Raheem Mostert has an injury history and they want him healthy the whole season? And Trey Sermon, a fully healthy, ready-to-go rookie, is just sitting there right behind him. Like, I like Trey Sermon a lot. And even if this is a closer game than I expect, I still think Trey Sermon sees at least 10 carries. Some dude on Fox Countdown just called Minshew better than Hurts. Yeah, Andrew, this is why, first of all, why you shouldn't be watching the Fox Countdown. But also why, like, Jalen Hurts was just such a steal in fantasy drafts. The Minshew news somehow got people nervous. And sure, is there a chance Jalen Hurts doesn't work out in the NFL? Of course there is. And is there a chance Gardner Minshew ends up starting at some point this season if the Eagles like completely collapse? And definitely there's a scenario every year with the Eagles. This happened each of the last 2 years where their offensive line just gets decimated and then the whole team just collapses. But Jalen Hurts is way better than Gardner Minshew right now. Jalen Hurts is much more likely to start the whole season than to get benched at any point. And you also didn't need to spend much to get Jalen Hurts. This is the whole thing. He was a 10th round, 11th round pick, 9th round pick in fantasy drafts. So even if he doesn't work out, then who cares? You didn't spend that much to get him. If he does work out, though, then you just got potentially a top 8 fantasy football quarterback basically for free in fantasy football. And that's why you drafted Jalen Hurts. And that's why Jalen Hurts is the lock of week 1 up against the atrocious Atlanta Falcons secondary. There's my Jalen Hurts thoughts, and that's hilarious that someone's saying that Minshew's already better than him, because that's just a joke. All right. Thoughts on A.J. Brown this week. Gave you 5-star review. Thanks, man. Yeah, I love A.J. Brown every single week, and I know that he was like sidelined in practice for knee issues already this season, which is not what I want to be reading about A.J. Brown, who got surgery on both his knees this season. But he literally played on 2 injured knees the entirety of last season. So it's like we already know he can play through these knee injuries. And I really hope the knee injuries don't catch up to him, because he's on pace right now to be one of the best receivers we've ever seen. That's how good A.J. Brown could be. But I'm not worried about him this week, and definitely not in this game. And I love Ryan Tannehill. I love Julio Jones. I love A.J. Brown this week too. That game, it could be very, very high scoring, and you should never count against A.J. Brown. Do you think I should hold on to Michael Thomas or pick up a potentially good player on the waiver wire? Nick, this is a good question. Michael Thomas, hopefully you have an IR slot. This is the good part about Michael Thomas in a lot of leagues, and why I actually he was on my do not draft list, but in one league he fell so far that I did draft him because I did have an IR slot that I like using. So see if you can put him there first. But if you can't, then no, I'd still hold on to him because he still has a really high ceiling when he comes back. One more question, Sam, for my tight end. This is the first tight end question I think we've seen. Let me pull up my tight end rankings here. Zach Ertz or Logan Thomas? Yeah, it's got to be Logan Thomas. And I think Zach Ertz is kind of a sleeper this week and this season after all of the trade rumors for Zach Ertz. And a lot of people expecting him not to return to the Eagles. He's back. And he's going to be the number 2 tight end behind Dallas Goedert. Goddard's better than him now. But Jalen Hurts loves his tight ends. And Zach Ertz could easily be the guy that scores the touchdown. That being said, I still like Logan Thomas a lot more. And Logan Thomas should see more targets than Zach Ertz this week and honestly this season. All right, let's get back to some. Oh, no. Arun Baller, is this true? Don't tell me this is true. Wait, let me pull this up. Is Trey Sermon out? Is this a real thing? Bills running back Zach Moss, a healthy scratch versus the Steelers in week 1. Is this Trey Sermon news correct? Let me see. Let me refresh the Twitter feed here, guys. Zach Moss, a healthy scratch. I'm not seeing anything about, oh my God, 49ers inactives. Trey Sermon, inactive, week 1. Wow, absolutely insane. Was this a healthy inactive? Trey Sermon, inactive, week 1. We got to update the WalterPicks app for this one. Raheem Mostert now locked in. Lock in Raheem Mostert into your lineups. Trey Sermon out, week 1. This, wow, just unbelievable. We're gonna say, we got to publish this one in the WalterPicks app here. The Trey Sermon is out. I want to hear more about if this was an injury or a healthy scratch. But Trey Sermon is out. Hopefully, if you took the Trey Sermon player prop, which I'm sure in almost every single platform, by the way, if you took the Trey Sermon player prop and he doesn't play, that you will not lose that prop. So that's good. The really surprising though news for Trey Sermon, who played the entire preseason, looked good, was a guy they traded up for in the draft this season, and now he's out week 1. Trey Sermon. Get Trey Sermon out of your lineups. I got to check a couple of my lineups. I think I did have him in, and I think I had him in a few DFS lineups too. So get Trey Sermon out of all of your lineups, guys. Trey Sermon not playing in week 1 in a smash spot against the Detroit Lions. And I promise you, by the way, this is not going to be the only surprise of the day. Week 1 is full of surprises. This is why week 1 is just absolute madness in fantasy football, because it's just so full of surprises. So get Trey Sermon out of your lineups and get Raheem Mostert in. You need to go get Raheem Mostert into your starting lineups now. I'm just updating the WalterPicks app right now here, but I will get to some of the questions again in the chat. But Raheem Mostert I'm just updating the projections now. Raheem Mostert has an extremely high ceiling and floor now in fantasy football in week 1. He's projected now for 14.5 fantasy points in PPR leagues in the WalterPicks app. That's going to be a running back 1. I mean, he's a running back 1 this week. So get Raheem Mostert into your lineups. And wow, this is brutal news. Breaking from Arun Baller. Thanks for sending that in the chat. 3 hours into the stream, after multiple occasions of me touting Trey Sermon as a great pick, he's not even playing this week. Honestly, I'm glad they did us the favor of saying it before the game. I mean, but what the heck? Why is Trey Sermon inactive? Can someone explain Trey Sermon out, Keelan Cole out, Emmanuel Sanders and Austin Eckler and Quentin Nelson are all active. Zach Moss. Why is Zach Moss a healthy scratch too? All of a sudden, Devin Singletary looking like a pretty good value in drafts too. I mean, Zach Moss was supposed to be ahead of Devin Singletary and apparently a healthy scratch too. Like why is he a healthy scratch? I guess Matt Breida is better than they were leading on, but that's also a pretty surprising one with Zach Moss out in week 1. And there's probably even more news to come, guys. But Devin Singletary, updating him in the WalterPicks app right now as well. He's also probably going to get a big boost when we update this with the Zach Moss news. A healthy scratch for Zach Moss against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And wow, Devin Singletary is going from a 1% boom probability to a 10% boom probability. He's getting a lot better here, almost twice as good now with Zach Moss. I mean, he was supposed to split carries and targets with Zach Moss, and that's just not going to be the case now. So you got to like Devin Singletary a lot more now as well. Trey Sermon, breaking news, out this week, and I got to take him out of my DraftKings lineups, of my FanDuel lineups, of my season-long lineups. I mean, I'm glad that this didn't happen surprisingly when he was active and then he just like barely played, but still very surprising to see that Trey Sermon is out in week 1 against the Detroit Lions, a team where they're probably going to have to run the ball a ton. And Trey Sermon not going to be playing in week 1 against the Detroit Lions. I'm pretty disappointed. I'm not going to lie. But I'd rather know now than during the game. So Trey Sermon out. Hey, would you start Jerry Jeudy or Chenault? Gave you a 5-star. Thanks, man. Yeah, I would probably go Chenault. I think it's close. I think Chenault has a safer floor, but I think it's close. I would definitely start Cooper Kupp then over Tyson Williams as well. Damian Harris or Raheem in PPR. You can't bench Raheem Mostert now. Do not bench Raheem Mostert. Trey Sermon is out. Raheem Mostert is in a smash spot against a Lions defense that is horrible. So, yeah, you got to love Raheem Mostert. Raheem Mostert could see 20 carries now. He literally could see 20 carries against the Lions in a game where they could win by multiple touchdowns. Raheem Mostert has 100-plus yard, 2+ touchdown upside now. So, yeah, lock in. You got to go lock in Raheem Mostert, definitely. And, wow, I cannot believe Trey Sermon is a healthy scratch this week. That is a head scratcher, man. Trey Sermon, healthy scratch, week 1. I mean, the same thing with Zach Moss. What is going on? Mostert's a top 12 back. Mostert is a top 12 back in fantasy football in week 1. All of a sudden, Raheem Mostert was the steal right now of fantasy drafts. You got to start Raheem Mostert. Debo, Tyler Boyd, or Marquez Callaway. I'd probably go Boyd. I like Tyler Boyd a lot. I do like Tyler Boyd a lot. All right, this looks like an interesting question, Jalen. Hey, Sam, should I trade OBJ? I'm in a Dynasty League PPR. Already got Tyreek, Diggs, DK, Keenan Allen, Fuller, Waddle. Yeah, definitely trade him. You got plenty of firepower there. Young firepower, too, at wide receiver, so you don't need him. I do like him a lot, though. You might want to wait till after this week, and then he's probably going to have a good week against the Chiefs. He's going to show that he's fully healthy, then go trade him. Devonta Smith or Adam Thielen? Adam Thielen's definitely safer, but I'd argue Devonta Smith has the higher ceiling. I'd lean towards Devonta Smith. I love Devonta Smith week 1 against the Falcons, but we've already seen one example. Betting on rookies might not be a great strategy in week 1. Trey Sermon, looking like a healthy scratch. I mean, I don't really understand the healthy. I need to see the reasons for this. Hopefully there's a report here soon, but Trey Sermon out week 1. Very surprising news. Chase Edmonds or Damian Harris. That one, if it's a PPR league, I'd go Chase Edmonds. I would go Chase Edmonds over Damian Harris. But if it's not PPR league, Carol, that's when I would go with Damian Harris because I think Chase Edmonds is going to catch a lot of passes. All right, guys, we got like an hour left of the stream. I've been live for 3 hours. This has been a very fun stream. We're live on YouTube. We're live on TikTok. If you're watching live on TikTok, guys, come to the YouTube stream. You can see my top 10 quarterbacks, top 10 running backs, top 10 wide receivers, and all my favorite picks against the spread, as well as a free player prop pick, all showing on the screen on YouTube. Look up WalterPicks on YouTube, or the link is just in our bio. What happened with Sermon and Moss? Hold it. Nobody knows. They're both healthy. It appears they're both healthy scratches. Both guys played in the preseason. Or Sermon definitely did. I'm honestly not sure about Moss. But Sermon played in the preseason and looked good. So this is just a case of unexpected week 1 things. And we're going to have a lot more unexpected week 1 things happen. So get ready, because week 1 is always a roller coaster in the NFL. And Trey Sermon is officially out this week, as is Zach Moss, healthy scratch. If you're just waking up, guys, catch up to speed here. Austin Eckler, active. Austin Eckler is playing, as is Austin Eckler is playing. We know that Quentin Nelson and Carson Wentz, both who were given 5 to 12 week timelines 5 weeks ago, both playing. in week 1. We know that Zach Moss, Keelan Cole is also out. Corey Davis and Elijah Moore are going to be very good in week 1. I'm still editing all my lineups here to make sure Trey Sermon is out. I had Trey Sermon in a bunch of my DFS lineups, but I'm definitely going to lock in Raheem Mostert now. I mean, you got to go get Raheem Mostert into your lineups, guys, because Raheem Mostert's going to have an insane week against a Lions defense that was worst in the NFL against running backs last season, and they're probably going to be bottom 3 again this season. So yeah, I do really like Raheem Mostert this week, and I'm trying to update this lineup here. I'm going to take the 49ers defense. This is a fine thing. I think that Raheem Mostert's a top 12 running back now, and if you have him, you should be feeling really good about locking him into your DFS lineups. Tonyan or Gesicki? I love the tight end questions. Haven't seen many of those. I have my tight end rankings below, and you can see Robert Tonyan at the end here, ranked number 10. I'd go him. I think he has a better chance to fall into the end zone, and that's really what it comes down to at the tight end position with these types of guys. So yeah, I would probably go with Robert Tonyan over Mike Gesicki. That's my thoughts there. I do really like Tonyan's touchdown ceiling. I mean, Tonyan tied Travis Kelce for the most touchdowns last season with half the amount of catches. And the Packers really didn't add that much in the receiving realm this offseason. They got a rookie in Amari Rodgers, but he was a pretty late round pick, and they added Randall Cobb, who's like 6 years past his prime. So there's a lot of reason to feel good about. There's a lot of reason to feel really good about Robert Tonyan this season, and I like him more than Gesicki week 1 for sure. All right, getting back into the DraftKings conversation. Corey Davis is another really good value on DraftKings right now, 4,900, and there is no Jameson Elite Crowder. There is no Keelan Cole. It's going to be all Corey Davis and Elijah Moore with Zach Wilson against the Panthers in week 1, so I don't hate that pick at all either. I also do really like James Robinson Jaguar stack, and I think my favorite stack of the week, though, it's got to be Raheem Mostert and the 49ers defense. Like, how can you get the 49ers defense into your DFS lineups? That's going to be the question of the week, because if you can do it, then you're going to be absolutely crushing people on DraftKings this week with the 49ers Raheem Mostert stack. It's just going to be way, way, way too hard to beat. So yeah, I do like that a lot in DraftKings and FanDuel. Hopefully this is not the start of rookies just disappointing us in week 1, because Devonta Smith also very underpriced on DraftKings this week, only 4,500 on DraftKings. And you're getting him against an Atlanta Falcons defense secondary that allowed 90 plus yards to 16 different receivers. They only played 16 games, guys, and they allowed 90 plus yards to 16 different receivers last season that led the NFL. So I like those guys. I like him a lot too this week on DraftKings, 4,500. I think that he has just an insanely high ceiling this week, really, really high ceiling. So I do like him a lot as well. All right, I do want to get back to some of these comments in the chat. Let me take a second here and update this lineup. I have $400 remaining. I don't like when there's. I'm going to do this anyway. It's okay. These guys are all good. So here's the lineup we're going with, by the way. I just changed this. I'm going to update you guys on the fly here. I had Trey Sermon in this lineup, but I just mixed it around. Obviously, Trey Sermon out today. So my quarterback in this head-to-head DraftKings lineup, by the way, I'm in a high-stakes head-to-head DraftKings league with 64 people. I play one person each week, though. It's just like a normal season-long league, but I choose a new DraftKings lineup each week. And I've come in top 5 in this league each of the last 2 seasons. And this week I'm going with Jalen Hurts at quarterback, stacked with Devonta Smith at receiver. And then I'm also going with the Raheem Mostert 49er stack. And because the Raheem Mostert 49er stack and the Devonta Smith Jalen Hurts stack are so cheap, I'm able to fit Christian McCaffrey as my top running back, Christian McCaffrey's floor is 20 points. He's gone over 20 points in 90% of his games over the last 2 years, and he's averaging literally 29 fantasy points per game. So he is locked in to all of my DraftKings lineups. I don't care about the cost. I think this could be the cheapest he costs on DraftKings and FanDuel all year. Then I am stacking Tyler Boyd with T. Higgins in this lineup too, because I think at least one of these guys will far exceed their expectation this week. But I think both guys could do really well. And I like Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins a lot against the Vikings in this game. I think we're going to see Jamar Chase kind of come along slowly this season. At tight end, I wasn't able to fit Travis Kelce because I paid up for Christian McCaffrey, so I'm going with Kyle Pitts instead of Travis. Instead of, I think I actually could fit in. I can't quite fit in TJ Hawkinson. I could fit in Dallas Goedert, but yeah, I'm going with Kyle Pitts. I mean, at the price point he's at in week 1, 4,400, I like him a lot too. So I'm going with 2 rookies, Devonta Smith and Kyle Pitts in this lineup. I actually have $400 left over. I'm sure if I spend a little more time, I could probably find good use of that $400. But there's my DraftKings lineup of the week. Guys, if you're watching live on YouTube, watching live on TikTok, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you haven't tried out the WalterPicks app yet, by the way, we update live with all this news. So already the WalterPicks app updated with the Trey Sermon news, with the Raheem Mostert news, and Kyle Juszczyk. I'm seeing a tweet here. Kyle Juszczyk's going to get 20 carries so Kyle Shanahan can troll everybody in week 1. Wade Gallman being out, by the way, is pretty big news for Mike Davis. Wayne Gallman was kind of a concerning signing for the Falcons, who was better than the current backup that they had for the Falcons, and Gallman's out. So that means Mike Davis is going to be full workload inbound week 1. That makes me like Mike Davis much more in week 1. So you got to strongly consider Mike Davis week 1 if you drafted him, because if you drafted him, why did you draft him if you weren't going to start him week 1 when he basically has 0 backups? So I do think that Mike Davis also looks a lot better now with Wayne Gallman out. Najee, Judy, Ayuk for flex this week also gave you 5 stars. Jacob, thanks, man. I would go Najee Harris. Don't bench Najee Harris. I know that they're underdogs against the Bills, but Najee Harris is a lock for 20-plus touches. I mean, like, there's just not that many running backs that's like that. So lock in Najee Harris to your fantasy lineups. Lucas is asking Raheem Mostert or Shenault. Raheem Mostert was already a lock, and now Trey Sermon is out. He's even more of a lock. So you have to start Raheem Mostert this week. You have to. No, Hasty is not a smart pickup this week, although I can't believe Hasty is playing over Trey Sermon. And why did you trade up for Trey Sermon, 49ers, if you're not going to play him? That's pretty surprising to me. But yeah, I would go Mostert over Shenault. What platform do you use for your news? Bennett, I use Twitter mostly. I just follow all the beat reporters on Twitter. I think Twitter is the number 1 place for news, and you get it instantly. That's usually my source of news. I also do like Roto World, which is called NBC Sports Edge now. They have pretty good news as well, but I usually just use Twitter as my primary news source because I just follow all of the beat reporters. All right, I got to see this Trey Sermon report. So much for Sermon being a usable running back 3/flex option for the opener, as the 49ers are rolling with Raheem Mostert, JaMychal Hasty, and Elijah Mitchell. Wow, what a bad vote of confidence in your rookie running back that you traded up for, took in the, I think, 2nd round of the draft. You're starting JaMychal Hasty and Elijah Mitchell over Trey Sermon. It's a huge boost to Mostert's week 1 status. He's a rock-solid running back 2 now. I like him a lot in all formats. I think he has to be in your starting lineups across the league today. And on DraftKings and FanDuel, Mostert just got an even bigger boost in terms of his value. Okay, let's get back to some of the questions in the TikTok and YouTube chat. Someone's saying Kyler or Russ. My quarterback rankings you can see on the YouTube live right now. Link is in the bio, by the way. If you're watching live on TikTok, you can see my top 10 rankings for every position. But at the quarterback position, honestly, it's pretty straightforward for me. You have to start Patrick Mahomes. You have to start Kyler Murray. You have to start Lamar Jackson. And you have to start Josh Allen. There's really no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You have to start those guys. You drafted them. They're top 4 quarterbacks in the league this year. They are probably the first 4 quarterbacks drafted in almost every fantasy draft. After that, then we get into kind of the decisions. And I think after that, you got to start Jalen Hurts and Ryan Tannehill in their matchups. Such good matchups this week. The free prop pick of the week, by the way, is Ryan Tannehill over 1.5 passing touchdowns. So we love Ryan Tannehill this week. Get Ryan Tannehill into your lineups as well. This one is a good one. LaVisca, Shenault, or Tyler Boyd. Very similar options for me this week. I like Tyler Boyd a little bit more, though. I like Tyler Boyd a lot this week. I think he's going to be a very steady producer for the Bengals again this season, just like he was last year. And if Jamar Chase starts slow, like he has kind of been starting slow so far this offseason, Tyler Boyd, you look at the numbers for Tyler Boyd last season, he averaged 8.7 targets and 71 yards a game in his 10 games with Joe Burrow. 70 yards a game in his 10 games with Joe Burrow. He had at least 5 targets in all of those games. So every game Tyler Boyd has ever played with Joe Burrow, he's gotten at least 5 targets. So he's pretty safe. And the Jamar Chase first-round pick was obviously not great news for Tyler Boyd, but he seems firmly ahead of him right now heading into the season. And he's got a pretty good week 1 matchup. The Vikings were 6th worst in the NFL against the pass last season. I think their secondary got a little bit better this offseason, but I like Boyd a lot. And Walter has Tyler Boyd projected for 63 receiving yards this week. So I like Tyler Boyd. I do. I think he's a pretty safe bet. I would probably go with Tyler Boyd over Laviska Shenault, but I like both this week too. All right, Sean, I know you weren't here earlier in the stream, but we established one of the rules this season in fantasy football is we're not allowed to bench Allen Robinson. Do not bench Allen Robinson. Someone's asking, how do I obtain mod this stream? Not asking for it, just hoping to get it eventually. Dropped you 5 stars as well. Thanks, man. Yeah, we'll probably be able to get that for you at some point in the future. So thanks for tuning in, man. Keep tuning in, and we might be able to make that happen. I do need some mods in this stream, so I appreciate it. All right, should I trade Calvin Ridley for Nick Chubb? It's a pretty fair trade, honestly. Depends if you need a running back. I think Calvin Ridley's better, but Nick Chubb obviously is so good and the most efficient running back in the league last season. So don't be surprised if he's that efficient again. Cody's asking Mike Davis or Odell Beckham Jr. in PPR. I'm actually going to go Mike Davis. And I think if you asked me this 2 hours ago, I would have pretty confidently said Odell. But Wayne Gallman's out. Mike Davis is basically the only running back for the Falcons this week. So you got to like Mike Davis in fantasy in week 1 for that exact reason. I mean, there is a lot of reasons to like Mike Davis, but the most obvious is the volume. I mean, that's really like the biggest reason that you drafted Mike Davis. It's the biggest reason why you're starting Mike Davis in week 1, but he also has a pretty good matchup in week 1 too. Like you got to like the matchup for Mike Davis against an Eagles defense that really was not very good last season. So for all those reasons, you're going with Mike Davis over Odell Beckham Jr. in week 1. And you might not feel great about it, but you got to do it with confidence because Mike Davis is going to see minimum 15 touches this week. He could easily see 20. So I do like the Mike Davis play in week 1 a lot more than I did just a few hours ago. Because again, Wayne Gallman has officially been reported out, which I was not expecting. Okay, another update last minute. And again, a lot of crazy stuff is going to happen in week 1. Week 1 is always wild in the NFL. The Steelers linebacker Robert Spillane suffered a shin injury during pregame warmups. So he's now out against the Buffalo Bills. That's not good news for the Steelers. I'm not sure if he was a starter or not, but I don't think that is good news for the Steelers. And I do think it is good news for the the Buffalo Bills. All right. We are heading into the last 40 minutes of the stream, guys. And this is the witching hour for your fantasy football decisions, because at 1:00, almost all your decisions are going to be locked in. Have you announced the player prop, Luke? We did. We announced the player prop pick, and the player prop pick today, we announced it when we crossed 250 likes on this live stream. We have Ryan Tannehill over 1.5 passing touchdowns. Lock this one in. I'm glad I didn't go with the Trey Sermon prop, by the way, because I did like Trey Sermon's prop today, which is obviously a wash now. And it's going to be a push, by the way. If you bet on the Trey Sermon prop before the game, or you bet on any player that doesn't actually end up playing, you almost always don't lose the bet. You just get the money back. So that's good news about the Trey Sermon prop. But I like Ryan Tannehill over 1.5 passing touchdowns today. That's the free prop pick of the day. Lock it in. By the way, shop for the best lines, because we saw some people find it for -130. Other people were finding it for -160. That's actually a pretty big difference. -130 is really good. -160 is okay. All right. Hey, Sam, Josh Jacobs, or let me see if I can find this question again. And let me answer this one really quick. Darrell Henderson or Devonta Smith. I think Henderson is a much safer floor, but Smith has the higher ceiling. So it's up to you. Do you want the floor or the ceiling? Hey, Sam, Josh Jacobs, Corey Davis, Damian Harris, or Tyson Williams at flex. Gave 5 stars. Thanks, Jay Dolan. I do appreciate that. I definitely wouldn't go Tyson Williams here, and I certainly wouldn't go Josh Jacobs either. I think it's between Corey Davis and Damian Harris. If it's a PPR league, it's Corey Davis. If it's not a PPR league, then I think you can strongly consider Damian Harris. He's got extremely, extremely high floor today against the Dolphins. Top 5 offensive line. All right, Andrew Freeman, thanks for tuning in, man. Nyheim Hines or Melvin Gordon? Oh, God, this is a tough one. Andrew. If it's a PPR league, I'd probably go Hines. If it's not, I'd probably go Melvin Gordon. But Melvin Gordon probably is the safer play here. It really depends how good the Seahawks do. Because if the Seahawks can get up, Nyheim Hines could do really well as a receiver. If they don't, though, it's going to be the Jonathan Taylor show. So I like Hines a little bit more. I don't love Melvin Gordon. But Melvin Gordon's probably going to touch the ball more than Nyheim Hines this week. So it's a close one. Debo Samuel, Tyler Boyd, Marquez Callaway gave 5 stars. Juan, thanks for the 5-star review in the iOS App Store. Helps me out a ton. I would go Tyler Boyd over all these guys. I like Callaway a lot. I like Debo Samuel a lot, but Tyler Boyd is one of my favorite plays this week. I just shared that stat. He has at least 5 targets in every single game that he's played with Joe Burrow, which is 10. It's a pretty big sample size. At least 5 targets in all those games. He's got a really good floor, and I think his ceiling's higher than you would think too in a PPR league. So I like Tyler Boyd a lot. Guys, thanks for tuning into the live. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe. We're almost at 350 likes. Let's hit that 350 like threshold. That'd be pretty exciting. 350 likes on the first Sunday live stream of the season. I've been having a lot of fun, guys. I've been live basically since I woke up, and we're getting closer to 1. So I'm getting more and more excited. I don't know if you guys can feel it, but there's also just been a lot of crazy news coming out last minute. Trey Sermon, inactive. Get him out of your lineups. Raheem Mostert, get him into your lineups against the Detroit Lions. On the flip side of that, Zach Moss, also a healthy scratch. So Devin Singletary, all of a sudden, becomes an interesting name in fantasy football, though Matt Breida could be involved a little bit more than expected heading into this game too. Zach Moss was the running back 1 for the Bills last season, and he's a healthy scratch. Looks like Trey Sermon, by the way, is also a healthy scratch. I do think that Mike Davis also gets a bump with some of this latest news with Wayne Gallman being out. Who's backing up Mike Davis? It's going to be Cordarrelle Patterson. By the way, Cordarrelle Patterson, my favorite last-round pick and underdog. I hope he has a good week and a good season. That's honestly a vote of confidence in him, and does make Mike Davis just a little bit better in fantasy football in week 1. Matt Freeman, how's it going, man? Harris, Edmonds, or Swift? I gave 5 stars. Thanks, man. I would probably go with Swift, then Edmonds, then Harris in a PPR league. I'd probably go Swift, Edmonds, then Harris. But in a standard league, I'd probably go the reverse order. I'd probably go Harris, Edmonds, then Swift. So if a PPR league, though, I'd probably go Swift. Hey, Sam, who do you think I should start? Nick, Dolphins defense or Rams? It's Rams. The Rams are 9-point favorites. The Dolphins are 3-point underdogs. So this one's easy. Rams defense, definitely. All right, guys. Really quickly, if you're on the TikTok live stream, you got to head over to the YouTube live because you can see my top 10 rankings list for every position. And you can see a lot of different free information that you can't see on the TikTok live. So click the link in the bio, come to the TikTok live. We're trying to hit 350 likes on the TikTok live as well. But if you're not going to come to the the YouTube live, hit the like button on the TikTok live because they added a like button to TikTok too, which is super cool. All right. I want to show the free player prop pick again. I also want to pull up my favorite stacks. I got to edit this one because my favorite stacks of the week is now Raheem Mostert 49ers defense. I mean, what a stack this is going to be in DFS. And in season-long leagues, the Raheem Mostert 49ers defense stack is going to be unstoppable in week 1. Guys, if you haven't tried out the WalterPicks app yet, all I'm asking is you try it out. It's the number one way you could help me out. WalterPicks app in the iOS App Store. The link is in the bio of this live stream. It's also in our profile on TikTok. Just try it out. And if you like it, give it a 5-star review. And if you really like it, you can try out one of our premium subscriptions that's going to give you unlimited access to everything you need to win your season-long fantasy league, or our tier that is the entire app, which includes DraftKings and FanDuel advice every week and player prop picks every week, exploitable ones that have had over 60% accuracy across the season. And we love Ryan Tannehill, over 1.5 passing touchdowns this week as our free prop pick. Of course, we'll be giving away a free prop pick every live stream. But thanks for checking out the app, guys. And as always, please give me some feedback in the comments. Shoot me an email. Hit us in the DMs with some feedback about the app too. Always looking for feedback about how we can improve the WalterPicks app. But all the subscriptions, guys, come with a completely free 7-day trial. So you get to try it out before you pay for it. You get to see what you're paying for before you pay for it. Imagine that. Why does not every service do that? I don't understand. Corey Davis or Josh Jacobs? It's Corey Davis, man. It's Corey Davis. You don't start Josh Jacobs against the Ravens. Josh Jacobs is going to get more touches than Corey Davis, but Josh Jacobs' touches are going to be carries up the middle behind a terrible offensive line against a really good defense. And they're probably going to be losing to the Ravens. So I don't like Josh Jacobs. He was on my do not draft list. I don't have him on any leagues, but I don't love him. OBJ or Devonta Smith. This one's close. I think I like OBJ just a little bit more than Devonta Smith, but they both feel like they have similar risk this week. We got OBJ coming off an injury. There's been some concerning reports about him not playing his full workload of snaps, but I would still go Odell over Devonta Smith because I think he is going to play a lot more than is being led on. By all reports, he's at full steam ahead this season. This preseason, he's looked like himself. So I do like Odell a lot. All right. Let's check out some more of the TikTok comments. Corey Davis or Judy. That one's much closer. I still think Corey Davis has a really safe floor, though, guys. Corey Davis is going to get peppered with targets. There's no Keelan Cole in week 1. There's no Jamison Lee Crowder in week 1. It's just Davis and Elijah Moore. So I do like Corey Davis. Saquon or CEH. Guys, a few rules of fantasy football that we've already established on this live stream today. You have to start Saquon Barkley always. Whenever he's playing, you start Saquon Barkley. Same thing goes with Allen Robinson. I like Clyde a lot, by the way. I saw someone in the chat, Saquon or Clyde. I got to go with Saquon there. And Clyde's obviously in better shape in terms of touches, but Saquon Barkley is the most athletic running back we've seen in the history of running backs. So don't bench him. It's really that simple. Don't bench him. I do think you got to be starting Saquon Barkley in week 1, even with the concerns about his workload, because he could turn 15 carries into 20 fantasy points in a second. That's how good Saquon Barkley is. Debo or T. Higgins PPR League? I go T. Higgins. I like T. Higgins a lot in fantasy football in week 1. Corey Davis or Marvin Jones. If it's a PPR league, you got to go Corey Davis, man. I like Corey Davis a lot. I do like Marvin Jones as well. And I would argue they have a similar ceiling, though. And the floor for me, Corey Davis is just much higher. Corey Davis is locked in. There's some teams it's just not clear who the number 1 receiver is actually going to be. By the way, we saw that in week 1 in the first game. Like, people didn't realize Antonio Brown had a legit shot to be the number 1 receiver for the Bucs this season, and we saw it on full display in the first game. But there's some teams where we kind of know who the top receiver is, and the Jets are actually one of those teams. Like, Corey Davis is going to be the top receiver. So I think he actually has a pretty good floor in fantasy football in week 1. This is a tough one, Zach. Marquez Callaway or Deebo Samuel. I would probably go towards Deebo Samuel here. I think that Callaway is a guy that I prefer to have on my bench in week 1 to see exactly what the workload is going to look like. And Deebo Samuel up against the Lions. I think Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, at least one of those guys is going to bust, but also at least one of those guys is going to go completely off against this Lions team. And why not Deebo Samuel? One of the best yards after the catch receivers in the league. And I like Ayuk a lot too, but I would probably go Deebo in this situation. I feel like I told a lot of people to bench Deebo Samuel today, but in this situation, I would go Deebo Samuel. I really would not be starting Marquez Callaway very, very much across all of my leagues, because if you have an option like Deebo Samuel, I would just prefer him. All right. Gave 5 stars, Ryan Tannehill or Russell Wilson. I would go with Ryan Tannehill. If you come to the YouTube Live, again, link in the bio of the TikTok account, the YouTube Live, you see my top 10 quarterbacks, and Ryan Tannehill's number 6. It goes Mahomes, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, then Ryan Tannehill. So I'm going Ryan Tannehill 1 spot ahead of Russell Wilson. And I don't feel great about that. Obviously, Russell Wilson's better than Ryan Tannehill at football. But Ryan Tannehill is also up against a Cardinals defense that somehow has a significantly worse secondary than last year. All of a sudden, 2 weeks before the season, Malcolm Butler retires. So they had no time to replace their top corner or their second best corner. And now they're up against Ryan Tannehill and Julio Jones and A.J. Brown. Good luck, Arizona Cardinals, stopping that. So, yeah, I like Ryan Tannehill a lot this week, more than Russell Wilson. I would also lock in Ryan Tannehill over 1.5 passing touchdowns. That's the free prop pick of the day. I would be pretty surprised if he doesn't throw at least 2 touchdowns in week 1. All right. I'm trying to answer as many comments as I can, but also you can use my top 10 rankings list that are on the bottom of the screen on the YouTube Live. Again, link in bio if you're watching live on TikTok, or just look up WalterPicks on YouTube. And you're going to see the top 10 rankings list here at the bottom of the screen. And you're going to see why you need to be starting Jalen Hurts and Ryan Tannehill without even me needing to answer your question. This one, Juan, is an interesting one. T. Higgins or Jerry Jeudy. And by the way, guys, the WalterPicks app, which I helped build at least, is powered by Walter, a machine learning algorithm that can answer all your start-sit questions. You literally just tap on 2 players in the start-sit tool, and it comes up with projected points and boom and bust percentages for every player based on 10,000 simulations the week and based on machine learning projections. So it can honestly answer every single one of your questions even better than I can. So try it out. And you also get, when you first download the app, 10 completely free comparisons every single week. But I would probably go T. Higgins over Jerry Jeudy, but it's close. Hey, Sam, Watkins, Beasley, or Rieger, rated 5 stars, please help. Louis, this is a deep league, man. This is a very deep league. And you got to – we haven't talked about this yet. I'm glad there's a Sammy Watkins question in here, because week 1, there's a few guys week 1 that you just got to be excited about. And Sammy Watkins is one of those guys. By the way, Deshaun Jackson is also one of those guys. Deshaun Jackson went undrafted in almost every single fantasy draft. And don't be surprised when Deshaun Jackson finishes as a wide receiver 2 week 1 of fantasy football season, because it's week 1. And this is what Deshaun Jackson and Sammy Watkins do in week 1. They live for NFL week 1. And I won't be surprised when at least one of Sammy Watkins or Deshaun Jackson puts on a show in week 1. That being said, though, Louis, I'd go Cole Beasley over all these guys. I mean, Cole Beasley is probably the number 2 receiver for an offense that's expected to put up a lot of points. So I would go Cole Beasley, but I think Watkins has the highest ceiling. I definitely would not be playing Jalen Rieger, though. Start 2, bench 1, mixing Robbie Anderson, Raheem Mostert. Yeah, you got to bench Robbie Anderson here. You can't not start Raheem Mostert now. Trey Sermon is out, guys, and he's up against the Lions rushing defense that's just so bad. You need to start Raheem Mostert. All right, I'm hearing that the Trey Sermon inactivation is a coach's decision. Going to have to earn his way back up the depth chart. So they're going with JaMychal Hasty and Elijah Mitchell over Sermon, the second-round pick. Just so brutal for Trey Sermon. Wow. And I did draft Trey Sermon in a few leagues. I thought he was pretty clearly going to be the number 2 guy. And here we are, week 1. There's going to be plenty more surprises. I absolutely promise you plenty of more surprises coming from week 1. This is what week 1 NFL is all about, surprises. All right, guys, I got 20 more minutes left of the live stream. I'm going to be wrapping up like 30 minutes before kickoff. I'm going to the Patriots game today, guys. I'm going to the Patriots game, and I'd like the Patriots -3 against the Miami Dolphins. First game I've been to in over 2 years. First game for a lot of these teams playing in front of fans in like 2 years. And I think home field advantage is going to be a thing, especially in week 1. So I don't hate the Patriots -3 at the Gillette Stadium against the Dolphins. That game is going to be very interesting, though, because I think the Dolphins are a little underrated. And I also think people are over-expecting from Mac Jones already. We've only seen him playing against bad preseason defenses, backup defenses in the preseason. Now he's up against an underrated Dolphins defense. I also think Jalen Waddle is a pretty big sleeper in this Patriots-Dolphins game as well. This is a good one, Donnie. Is Ronald Moore a bench this week just so we can monitor how he does? Yeah, Donnie. He's one of these rookies that, like, this is a pretty good matchup for Rondale Moore against the Tennessee Titans. And I like Rondale Moore. And I think he has a chance to grow into the number 2 receiver for the Cardinals. But week 1, yeah, he's on the bench. AJ Green's probably going to out-target Rondale Moore, which is very annoying. AJ Green, his prop was interesting. Over 30, I think it was like 35.5 yards. And he's probably the number 2 receiver for a Cardinals team that's going to throw a lot today. So I don't hate that. But yeah, I would bench Rondale Moore week 1, but I'd like the Rondale Moore pick. I picked him last in a lot of leagues too. Callaway or Hunt, PPR, I'd go Callaway. I'd go Callaway over Hunt. I don't love Kareem Hunt this week against the Chiefs. Judy or Damian Harris at flex PPR. I'd probably go Judy in a PPR league over Damian Harris, but it's close, man. It's close because Judy has a higher ceiling in PPR, but Harris has such a good floor, guys. Such a good floor. In a PPR league, though, I'm leaning Judy over Damian Harris. Swift or Gaskin week 1. Dylan, this is a question that I feel like I need to say DeAndre Swift, but I won't be surprised when we look back, Dylan, and say Gaskin outscored Swift. But I would go Swift. I mean, you got to go Swift. He was picked much earlier in your fantasy draft. He's full steam ahead. And DeAndre Swift is another guy that, like, when he's healthy, you almost got to play him because who knows how long he's going to be healthy for. So I would go with him. Gaskin or Mike Davis. Lucas, this is a closer one for me. But with the Mike Davis news about Wayne Gallman not playing this week, I'd go Mike Davis in a better matchup than Gaskin has. The Pats defense is much improved from last season. They had a lot of COVID opt-outs last year. They were playing safeties at linebacker. That's not a thing this year for the Pats. So I would go Mike Davis over Gaskin. And Gaskin is pretty much locked in for at least 15 touches in week 1. I think the WalterPicks team of 32 TikTok creators is going to be really excited about Mike Davis and his performance in week 1 against the Eagles because Mike Davis is going to see the volume that you were drafting him for. He's going to see that volume. So Mike Davis people are very excited about, and for good reason. All right. Getting back to some other comments, and there's a lot of surprising news coming out week 1 already. We already saw Trey Sermon inactive. We see Zach Moss randomly inactive, like 2 very, very unexpected inactives. But I do think that Raheem Mostert's just locked in now. You got to lock in Raheem Mostert. Good job drafting him, by the way, because he might end up being the steal of the draft. He certainly will look that way after week 1 because Raheem Mostert is a top 12 fantasy football running back. You probably got him in like round 7, round 8 at times. He was getting drafted really late. So yeah, you gotta love Trey Sermon week 1. All right. Getting back to some of the comments, flex in a full PPR, Lockett, Ayuk, Shenault, or Gaskin. Probably Lockett. It's probably Lockett here. Lockett's ceiling is so high. Shenault probably has the safest floor, or Gaskin. Gaskin probably has the safest floor, honestly, but I would go Lockett because I like to shoot for the ceiling. If you've been following me for a while, guys, you know I like to take risks, calculated risks. I do. I like to take calculated risks. And one calculated risk for me in week 1 is Tyler Lockett. I mean, Tyler Lockett's ceiling is just so astronomically high with Russell Wilson. I struggle benching Tyler Lockett. This is the tough part about drafting Tyler Lockett, but he's actually more consistent than I think most people realize. And he actually dealt with an injury the back half of last season when he was inconsistent. So I like Tyler Lockett a lot. Corey Davis or Deontay Johnson. This one's close. They're so similar for me. I actually think Corey Davis might be a little safer than Deontay Johnson. I think at least one of the Steelers receivers every week and for this season is going to bust. Like, there's just no way you can give Najee Harris 20-plus touches and then also sustain fantasy value for Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, and Juju Smith-Schuster. it like adds this element of risk to all the receivers. But Deontay Johnson's the clear wide receiver 1 last season. But Corey Davis is an even more clear wide receiver 1 on his team. Obviously, Steelers are better than the Jets, but the Jets have an easier matchup week 1. I don't hate going Corey Davis over Deontay Johnson. I really don't. I think that's what I would do. But Ryan, I bet if you ask the WalterPicks app, it would probably tell you Deontay Johnson. So it's up to you. Is Kyle Pitts going to boom today? Yeah, Charles, I've seen no Kyle Pitts questions. So thanks for bringing this up because I cannot wait to watch Kyle Pitts in the NFL, the earliest drafted tight end in the history of my lifetime. We have never seen a tight end taken top 5 in the draft in the last 20 years. And Kyle Pitts is going to get a chance to prove that he is the best tight end prospect of all time week 1 against a pretty weak Eagles defense. So I'm very excited to watch Kyle Pitts. I think he is going to boom today. I think he's going to go over 15 fantasy points, and I think he could easily score a touchdown. I took the season-long prop for Kyle Pitts over 5.5 touchdowns. I think he could easily score 10 this season. He's going to be used as the wide receiver 2. He's essentially going to function as the wide receiver 2 for the Atlanta Falcons this season. So I like him a lot. I actually don't expect him to block like that much at all. All right. I'm glad I just found Trey Sermon in one of my lineups, and I got him out. So make sure Trey Sermon's out of your lineups, guys. If anyone was starting Zach Moss, which you probably weren't, but if you were, get him out of your lineups as well because he's also completely inactive today. Healthy scratch for Zach Moss and Trey Sermon. Those were probably wasted draft picks. At this point, you can probably be ready to drop Trey Sermon after this week and drop Zach Moss. This is just the beginning of what I promise you will be a very surprising week 1. Judy or Damian Harris in the flex full PPR. I feel like I see a lot of Judy and Damian Harris questions. I think in a full PPR league, you got to go Jerry Judy. I think he has a higher ceiling. But don't get me wrong. I like Damian Harris's floor. I think Damian Harris goes for at least 60 yards. I think he gets at least 15 carries. Behind the top 5 offensive line, I think he's got a good chance at a touchdown. So the floor is there for Harris. I would be surprised if Damian Harris doesn't get at least 10 points today. But Jerry Judy's ceiling is absolutely higher. It has to be higher. He was top 12 in the league in air yards last season. Jerry Judy was the lock of the season in the 7th round pick in the 7th round of fantasy drafts. I have Jerry Judy in a lot of different leagues, and I'm starting. And I like Jerry Judy more than Damian Harris, especially in PPR leagues, because Damian Harris will not catch passes. So he definitely gets a knock in PPR formats. All right. I want to run through my favorite spreads of the week really quickly one more time. Last time of the show, because we're nearing the end here. I like Jaguars -3 at Texans. That's my lock of the week. I like Pats -3 versus the Dolphins. I still like 49ers -9 against the Lions. I think they crushed them. If I had to choose, these other ones I'm not as confident about. Panthers -3.5 versus the Jets. Titans -3 versus the Cardinals. Washington -2 versus the Chargers. I like the Bills to destroy the Steelers -6.5, but I could easily see the Steelers fighting back there too. And one of my few underdog picks of the week is the Eagles beating the Falcons. I think the Eagles could easily beat the Falcons, and they're +3.5. Though I don't like picking road teams, I like the Eagles +3.5 against the Falcons as well. My favorite DFS stacks of the week, if you're still fiddling with your DFS lineups, Raheem Mostert, 49ers defense, amazing running back defense, correlated stack. Jalen Hurts, Devonta Smith, Calvin Ridley. Love stacking some Eagles and Falcons this week. James Robinson and the Jaguars defense. The thing about the Jaguars, guys, why I like them -3, why I like James Robinson, why I like the Jaguars defense, it's the Texans. It's not about the Jaguars. It's about the Texans. Texans team is horrible. The whole team's horrible. Every position is worse on the Texans than it is the Jaguars. And that's saying a lot because the Jaguars are also probably a bottom 10 team in the NFL. So those are my favorite stacks of the week. I also like the Tannehill Julio Jones stack. Tannehill over 1.5 passing touchdowns, our free player prop pick of the week. Lock that in if you haven't locked that in yet. We saw it at -130 just about an hour ago. So love those odds as well. In terms of the quarterback position, guys, you need to start Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson. You have to start them. After that, though, I like Jalen Hurts more than almost everybody. And I like Ryan Tannehill a lot too. So start those guys if you don't have those top 4. Also, you got to lock in Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Justin Herbert. And Trevor Lawrence actually comes in as my 10th ranked quarterback for all the reasons about the Houston Texans we already mentioned. In terms of top 10 running backs, I like a lot of the running backs that you also probably like. Running backs are pretty straightforward, especially in fantasy. You probably spent a first 2-round pick on them. Don't bench anyone you spent a first 4-round pick on. Honestly, top 5 rounds of your draft, you probably should be starting in week 1. Last but not least, the tight ends. I think the tight ends are pretty clear at the top and a lot less clear after the top 6. Kelsey, Darren Waller, George Kittle, Mark Andrews, Kyle Pitts, TJ Hawkinson. Those are the top 6. After that, though, Tyler Higbee, Logan Thomas, Dallas Goedert, and Robert Tonyan. It's just like all of those guys. Can they score a touchdown or can they not? Because if they don't, they're probably going under 10 fantasy points. And if they do, they're probably going over. That's the majority of tight ends in the NFL today. Last but not least, receivers. I mean, again, the top is pretty obvious, but a few receivers that you just cannot bench this week that didn't make my top 10. Allen Robinson. You got to be starting Allen Robinson against Jalen Ramsey. I don't care that he's up against a tough matchup, he's still going to get peppered with at least 7 targets. He has at least 7 targets in almost every game in his career. And he has the best quarterback he's ever played with. And that's Andy Dalton. That just says everything you need to know about the quarterbacks Allen Robinson has played with. So, yeah, start Allen Robinson. Andrew, I see you in the TikTok chat, man. Start him over Tyler Boyd. Start him over almost everyone. He's probably my 12th ranked receiver this week. So start Allen Robinson, even in a tough matchup. You drafted him too early not to start him. All right. I'm going to get back to some of the questions. Allosaurus, how's it going? Hooper or Gesicki? Also, don't be scared of Ramsey because A-Rob will play some slot. Yeah, he will. Start your studs. Remember who you drafted first. Thanks for the advice there, man. We're like 40 minutes from kickoff. This is some good advice. I'd probably go Gesicki over Hooper. It's close, honestly. But with Will Fuller being out in week 1, and I think that there's probably more targets for Gesicki this week. I like Jalen Waddle as a sleeper too, but I'd probably go Gesicki over Hooper. But both those guys, it's like both those guys are probably going to be under 10 fantasy points. So it's a kind of a lose-lose situation, honestly. You're just hoping for a touchdown. I do think Jalen Hurts, guys, is the lock of week 1. OBJ opinions. Yeah, I like OBJ. I like everything about OBJ this week. I'm not that worried about the reports of him starting slowly because all the reports out of everyone close to Odell Beckham Jr. this preseason, have been very positive. He looks like the Odell of previous seasons. So you got to like Odell Beckham Jr. a lot. I do think that he is going to do well against the Kansas City Chiefs in week 1. You got to get Raheem Mostert into your lineups because Raheem Mostert, no Trey Sermon this week. It's JaMychal Hasty backing up Raheem Mostert. And Raheem Mostert's going against one of the softest run defenses in the NFL. So lock in Raheem Mostert as well. The free prop pick, again, guys, was Ryan Tannehill over 1.5 passing touchdowns. You got to lock that one in as well. I would go Odell over Corey Davis for the ceiling, but Corey Davis is definitely safer. I mean, if you're looking for safety, Corey Davis is safer than Odell Beckham Jr. for sure in week 1. I think that's pretty clear. Pick one: Judy, Chenault, Pittman, Callaway, flex in a PPR league. I'd probably go with Chenault or Judy here. I think that all 4 of these guys are pretty good options, and you did a good job drafting high upside receivers. But I like Chenault a lot against a horrible Texans team. I think Trevor Lawrence could have a really big first week of his season, of his career. So I like Chenault probably the most, but I think Judy probably has the highest ceiling. Callaway is a guy I'd really prefer to bench in week 1. Thoughts on Sony Michel? Similar here, Richard. I prefer to bench Sony Michel in week 1. I think that he could carve out a pretty good role, though, on a really good offense. Like, it won't surprise me at all. We know Darrell Henderson is good and will probably be the number 1 running back for the Rams. But we also know Darrell Henderson has struggled with workload and injury concerns, really, since he joined the NFL. So don't be surprised if Sony Michel carves out a first down, second down role, and maybe even the red zone role. So I'd hold on to him, but I would not trust him week 1 because I do think Darrell Henderson is going to out-touch Sony Michel. Good stream, Sam. Hype for week 1. Let's go. We got 6 more minutes of the stream, guys. I'm going to try to get to as many comments as I can, but hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, because we'll be live every single Sunday morning this whole season. So make sure you hit that notification button as well. And I do, guys, seriously, thanks for tuning in. This has been a super fun morning. I really do. It feels like Christmas morning to me. Last night felt like Christmas Eve, and today feels like Christmas morning. I'm pumped. I hope that's coming across. Hey, Sam, Anderson or Moore for the season, and Edmonds or Carson for the week? Yeah, Anderson or Moore for the season. It's DJ Moore for me for the season for sure, but I like both of them. And for Edmonds or Carson for the week, I think that Carson's floor of touches is just too much higher than Edmonds' floor of touches that you almost have to go Chris Carson. But I do think they have actually similar ceilings. I would go Chris Carson, though. All right, Edmonds or Mike Davis, half PPR. In a half PPR league, I'm more inclined to go Mike Davis here. And I wouldn't have said this before the Wayne Gallman news, but the Wayne Gallman news matters. Wayne Gallman out for the Atlanta Falcons. It's literally Mike Davis and Cordero Patterson. That's the backfield for the Falcons. I think Mike Davis is a lock for 15 touches, at least. He could easily go for 20. And if the Falcons keep it closer or get a lead in this game, which they could, they're favorites against the Eagles, then Mike Davis all of a sudden top 24 running back this week. I like Edmonds a lot too, but a little less than half PPR because the good thing about Chase Edmonds in a PPR league is he's locked in for that receiving role. And I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. Yeah, that goes down, though, in half PPR and standard leagues. It definitely isn't as good. All right. Killian Todd. Help, please. Full PPR, Gaskin, Chenault, Ayuk, Lockett. Go Lockett. Go with Tyler Lockett. His ceiling's too high. If you're going for floor, though, it's probably Laviska Shenault. Devonta Smith or Allen Robinson. Nate, I love Devonta Smith as much as anyone. He's my most drafted best ball wide receiver. But you need to start Allen Robinson this week. You need to start. Yeah, Sean Lynn. I can't believe it. Sermon out. Healthy scratch. Luckily, if you bet on his prop, which I did. I put some money on the Trey Sermon prop because I love the 49ers against the Lions. But I am glad this happened before the game and not during the game. I'm glad they didn't bench Sermon during the game and said he's inactive, because now the props will all be void and we won't lose any money on the Trey Sermon props. But going back to the question here that I see in the chat, my boy grinded the stream for 2 hours. Much respect, Donnie. Thanks, man. It's actually, we're nearing in on 4 hours, Donnie. I've been literally live basically since I woke up. So thanks for tuning in. But I do love these streams, man. These are fun. These are fun. I do think you got to go DeAndre Swift over Devonta Smith as well. I like Devonta Smith, and don't get me wrong. If you're looking for ceiling, if you're looking for upside, look no further than Devonta Smith, because he's up against a Falcons defense that allowed 16 different wide receivers to go over 90 yards last season. That led the NFL. There was only 16 games, guys. You do the math. 16 games, 16 different receivers over 90 yards. So don't get me wrong about Devonta Smith's ceiling, but he also is a rookie, and Jalen Hurts is going to run. The Eagles are going to run a lot, and Jalen Hurts also will probably target the tight ends a bunch. So I think his ceiling's high, but I don't love the floor. Favorite plays in the Bengals game? Just subscribe. Stack. Thanks, man. I would say my favorite plays in the Bengals game, I love Joe Mixon. I think he's a lock to be the every down back for the Bengals, and you got to be playing him when he's healthy. This is why you drafted Joe Mixon. I also like T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd a lot. And on the Viking side of things, I mean, it's Dalvin Cook, it's Justin Jefferson. I don't think I'd go say I love anyone outside of that. So those are my favorite plays in the Bengals-Vikings game. What are your thoughts on Kenny Golladay and Courtland Sutton? Yeah, Miles, this is a good question. Both guys coming off injuries, and Kenny Golladay, his over-under is like 30. He's in the 30s. It's like a 35.5 or 38.5 over-under or something. I like the over there. I do think that Courtland Sutton, though, is another guy. Like, he's looked pretty good in the preseason. He's coming back from an injury. I think at least one of, if not both, these guys are going to overperform expectation. I generally like to bet on I think one of the biggest edges in fantasy football is the over-injury analysis. Like, people overrate the effect of injuries. This is why Odell Beckham Jr. was a steal in drafts. This is why Saquon could have been a steal in drafts. Kenny Golladay, Courtland Sutton fit that bill as well. Julio Jones is another one. Like, Julio Jones is healthy week 1. So is Zach Moss a drop for Tony Jones or Paris Campbell or Terrace Marshall? Yeah, all those guys. I mean, Zach Moss is a healthy scratch. What are we doing with Zach Moss on our fantasy teams now? Like, yeah, drop it. Go add one of those guys. I like all of those guys, by the way. I think Tony Jones the highest upside because he's a running back, but I like Paris Campbell a lot too. I don't hate adding Paris Campbell. Julio Jones or Raheem Mostert. Oh, God, I want to start both these guys, Jared, so badly. If it's a PPR league, honestly, even if it's not a PPR league, I almost think you have to start Raheem Mostert. He's locked in. Raheem Mostert's locked in for at least 15 carries, and he could see as many as 20 to over 20 carries against a Lions defense that was worst in the NFL against the run last year and is 9-point underdogs against the 49ers. You got to start. Raheem Mostert's going to score a touchdown. Raheem Mostert's going to put up yards in this game. So, yeah, I like Raheem Mostert over Julio Jones. But in most situations, I want to be starting Julio Jones as well. Guys, hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Thanks for tuning in to the first live stream of the season. If I didn't get to your start sit questions, I'm sorry. I tried to get to as many as I could. But I also built an app that's completely free to download and gives you completely free start sit comparisons with machine learning projections. So it can answer all your start sit questions if you have last minute questions. You got 30 minutes till kickoff. So download the WalterPicks app in the iOS App Store. It's going to help you out as well. Guys, thanks for tuning in, and good luck in your first Sunday of the season. We will always end these live streams like a few minutes earlier on TikTok than YouTube. So TikTok stream, man. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back live on probably Thursday night, potentially Monday night. We'll see. But have a good one, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk soon. All right, YouTube Live, as always, we're going to end these streams on YouTube, and I'm going to try to do rapid fire the next 5 minutes and just try to answer as many comments as I can. Seriously, thanks for tuning in. I do appreciate it, and this was a lot of fun. Are you a huge Pats fan, Sam? Yeah, I am. I'm a big Patriots fan, but I'm one of the few pessimistic Patriots fans out there. There's not that many because we've won so many Super Bowls in my lifetime, 6 Super Bowls in my lifetime, that like most people are very optimistic about the Pats. I think that Belichick deserves a lot more criticism than he's gotten in the last couple of years as a general manager, but I'm excited about Mac Jones, and I'm going to the game today. My first time going to a game in over 2 years. I'm very excited for that. The last game I was at was Tom Brady's last game as a Patriot. It was Tom Brady's last game as a Patriot. Now my next game is Mac Jones' first game as a Patriot. So I'm excited, man. I'm excited, but I'm cautiously excited because we've only seen Mac Jones play against backup preseason defenses. So I want to see him do it against a real defense, and the Dolphins are a real defense. Start Saquon. Yeah, you got to start Saquon. W. Thanks for the W's, guys. This was a W stream. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Who are you starting Hurts over? Yeah, so let me pull up really quickly these quarterback lists, but I'm starting them almost everybody. I got my top 10 quarterbacks here at the bottom of the screen. Mahomes, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. Only guys I'm starting over Jalen Hurts. End of list. All right. Is Zach Moss? Yeah, drop Zach Moss. Add Paris Campbell or Terrace Marshall. Enjoy the game. Put 5 stars in the app. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Swift or Marvin Jones or Galladay PPR? I'd go Swift. I go Swift. You got to start Swift while he's healthy, man. You got to start Swift. I'd go Woods over DJ Moore, too. This one's close, man. They're really similar for me. I like DJ Moore a lot. I also really like Robert Woods. Honestly, the Panthers game is supposed to be closer, Sean. So you could argue DJ Moore is a safer floor just because it's unlikely the Panthers completely blow out the Jets, while the Rams could completely destroy the Bears. And the Jets defense is worse than the Bears defense. So honestly, I think I just talked myself into DJ Moore, but it's close. Definitely close. All right, last question, Ryan. You're the lucky last question of the day, man. Start 2, bench 2. Ayuk, Callaway, Gaskin, Marshall, full PPR. Definitely Ayuk, you got to start him. And I'd go Gaskin here too. Those would be my 2 plays. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, the notification button. Can't wait for the next Sunday live stream. Good luck in week 1. Don't underrate week 1 Sammy Watkins or week 1 Deshaun Jackson. And I hope all of us locked in Ryan Tannehill over 1.5 passing touchdowns. Guys, have a good one. Thanks for tuning in.